A foot in a fancy sneaker lands with serious force. Someone is clearly in a hurry to get their new running shoes dirty. A young man with a slight glow sprints across a busy street. He runs as if he's about to miss the sale of a lifetime. This is Ju In-gong, whose name means protagonist. His parents really wanted him to be the star of his own epic show. He bursts into a game shop while his friends tease him about his heroic name. Apparently being the main character is a running joke here. He playfully tells his friend to stop the jokes and asks if the new game arrived. His friend grins, confirming a copy was saved for him. The friend presents the remake of the famous game, Night Saga. The shiny new box promised countless hours of absolutely no real-world responsibilities. Night Saga is a legendary tale of humans versus demons. A happy hero is cheered by crowds, basking in the glory of his adventures. Players could become the shining human hero, Locke, a handsome warrior with bright blue eyes. He was clearly designed to be everyone's favorite champion. Or they could choose Zephyr Ragnaros, the Demon King's brooding son. This red-haired bad boy looked like he listened to very loud music. Ju In-gong had already mastered this game many times. He sat intently playing, knowing every secret the digital world had to offer him. This new version was special because it was the first to use full-dive VR technology. It was time to experience adventure in a new way. He arrives home to his futuristic gaming chair, which looked way more comfortable than his actual bed. It was time for a long session. He holds the small game cartridge, which contained an entire universe of quests. It was amazing how much adventure could fit into one tiny chip. He settles into the chair and puts on the sleek VR helmet. It was the latest fashion for people who preferred digital worlds to reality. With a satisfying click, he inserts the game cartridge into the machine. The system hummed, ready to transport him to his favorite fantasy land. He crosses his arms with a confident smile, ready to conquer the game. He looked like a king preparing to enter his digital kingdom. He happily decides he will only play for a modest 8 hours today. His cheerful expression suggested that was probably not going to be true. Bright blue and pink lights swirl around him as the game begins. The flashy entrance was certainly a great way to start his journey. He finds himself staring up at a sunlit wooden ceiling, feeling a bit confused. This wasn't the usual loading screen he was expecting to see. He is sitting on a bed inside a tent, realizing the game starts here. He amusingly thinks that waking up in bed is a classic beginning. He looks down at himself and notices his ears are suddenly very long and pointy. This was definitely not part of the character creator he remembered. He sees the body of a white-haired boy with red eyes. Panicked, he wonders whose body this is, hoping it's not a permanent change. A gruff voice from outside the tent asks if Hez still sleeping. It sounded like someone's very impatient alarm clock had finally gone off. A huge green orc peeks in, telling him to hurry because they have a busy schedule. Apparently even fantasy worlds have very tight daily schedules. The boy is stunned by how real the orc looks, calling the graphics incredible. The orc just looks confused, wondering what graphics are for breakfast. He realizes he can talk to the characters, a feature that was never advertised. This game's interactive elements were definitely a huge, unmentioned surprise. He asks the orc for his name, and the orc seems annoyed he forgot. The orc reminds him his name is Karak, with a sigh. Karak urges Prince Shutra to hurry because everyone is waiting for him. The young boy silently processes that he is apparently now a prince. He recognizes the name Shutra as the Demon King's 9th son. He is shocked, wondering why he was stuck with this character without choosing. He raises his hand, hoping to open a status menu like in the game. Golden lights appeared, confirming that at least some rules still applied. A screen with his character information appears, confirming he is Prince Shutra. He is relieved that some game mechanics still work in this place. He complains that his stats are shockingly low for a prince. Even the game's background characters were probably stronger than he was at this moment. He checks his skills and finds 2 very strange ones has never seen. He stared at the odd icons, feeling more confused than ever before. He nervously wonders what a protagonist's setting adjustment skill could possibly do. He hoped it meant he would at least get some cool powers. Rock impatiently peeks in again, telling him to get a move on. Shutra snaps out of his thoughts, promising that he is finally coming. Shutra cautiously follows the big orc out of the tent. He stepped out into the bright sunlight, wondering what new surprises awaited him now. His eyes go wide with shock at the sight before him. A single drop of sweat rolled down his face as he stared ahead. An entire army of fierce orcs stands ready for a battle. This was definitely not the peaceful starting village he had been hoping for. He asks Karak why everyone looks so serious, but Karak just grunts. He told the prince to stop the nonsense and get ready to go. Karak declares their mission is to fight the Scarlet Lightning tribe. Shutra is horrified, realizing he's been thrown into an immediate, dangerous conflict. He panics, shouting that he hasn't even had a tutorial yet. The army, however, was clearly not waiting for him to finish his training. He recalls that the Scarlet Lightning orcs are a rebellious tribe. Their red-skinned leader was known for causing a lot of trouble for everyone. It dawns on him that he and his siblings are supposed to stop the uprising. The heavy responsibility suddenly felt very real on his shoulders. He asks why they're only bringing 10 soldiers to a war. Karak corrects him, saying it was just a patrol, which Shutra doesn't remember. Karak asks if he's feeling alright because he's acting very strange. Shutra stays quiet, unable to explain he is from another world entirely. As they march, Shutra summons a magical interface that only he can see. It was a handy trick to have up his sleeve here. A mini-map of the forest appears, making navigation much easier. He decides this handy feature should probably stay on at all times now. He notices a hidden trail on the map that no one else can see. He felt like he had just discovered a secret bonus level. Karak struggles with his old-fashioned paper map, worried their current path will take forever. He clearly needed a technology upgrade for his navigating tools. Shutra confidently tells Karak to follow him, claiming he knows a much faster way. Karak looked at the small prince with a surprised expression. The orcs trust their prince and follow him off the main path. They marched deep into the thick, wild forest hoping he was right. The shortcut is a very steep and rocky cliff. The big orcs struggled to climb, grunting as they pulled themselves up the difficult terrain. Shutra is also exhausted and sweating from the difficult climb. His low-level body was not at all prepared for this intense workout session. They finally reach the top and discover a massive, ancient stone door. It was hidden in the mountainside, covered in old cracks and vines. The tired Karak asks how Shutra found this place, wondering if he is a mage. Shutra just shakes his head, too exhausted to answer him. Karak asks if the prince is okay, noticing how tired he looks. Shutra realizes being a low-level character is surprisingly hard work for him. Shutra takes a determined step toward the door, telling Karak to check it. His small body was tired, but his spirit was still strong. The moment his foot touches the ground, a brilliant golden fire erupts around him. This was a very flashy and unexpected welcome to the area. He looks down at his hands, shocked by the sudden surge of power. He wondered what was happening, feeling the new energy course through him. A message appears, informing him that he has leveled up. He is amazed that just finding this place was enough to make him stronger. He is shocked that he gained a level just from walking around. He wished that all of his real-life exercises had such immediate rewards. He checks his stats and sees they all increased, plus he has extra points. He thinks this rapid growth is absolutely insane but also amazing. He pauses for a moment, thinking this new world might be more exciting. It was certainly full of more surprises than he had ever expected. Karak tells him to hurry, and Shutra agrees to follow the orcs. They all headed toward the mysterious and ancient stone door together. He tells himself that at least he is not alone facing these dangers. He had his new, strong orc friends to help him out. He remembers his special skill and realizes it means he has plot armor. This convenient power made him feel much safer about his future. The stone doors opened to reveal a dark, spooky cave. It looked like the perfect place for a grand adventure or a monster ambush. Karak guesses the cave was made by dwarves who are now all gone. Shutra asks if they moved, wondering where the dwarves went. Karak admits he does not know, but then he spots a treasure hoard. He stared in wonder at the sight of shiny golden weapons. The orcs cheer, excited to find the dwarves' abandoned weapons and armor. They yelled that the dwarves must have been fools to leave it. While the orcs celebrate, Shutra calmly stands among the legendary treasures. He looked at all the powerful weapons that were scattered around him. He tries to pick up a sword, but he is too weak. He felt a bit annoyed that he couldn't use any of the cool gear. He decides to take the treasures anyway, planning to use his inventory. He hoped he remembered how to use the storage system correctly. He points at a staff and thinks about taking it, watching it disappear. The magical item dissolved into particles of light and vanished instantly. The item appears safely in his inventory, just as he had hoped. He realized he just needed to touch things to store them away. He checks his minimap and sees a large group of enemies approaching. The red dots on the map were moving very quickly toward them. He shouts for everyone to back off, trying to warn the happy orcs. They looked at him, confused by his sudden and urgent yelling. A pink energy crackles between two orcs, signaling a powerful magic attack. It was clear that their treasure party was about to be crashed. The energy explodes, sending the orcs flying and shaking the entire cave. The fun celebration had very quickly turned into a very dangerous trap. As the dust settles, a menacing red foot steps into view. Their secret treasure chamber had unfortunately become a well-planned ambush for them. The enemy general, Kai-chan, appears with his soldiers, mocking their predictable arrival. He asked if they thought he wouldn't find this secret way. Kai-chan gives the order to kill them all, and his warriors charge. The red-skinned soldiers roared as they rushed forward with their weapons raised. The cave erupts into a fierce battle between the two orc tribes. Swords and axes clashed loudly in the dark, echoing off the walls. Shutra stands with a sword, facing a wounded orc in the chaos. His heart pounded as he prepared for his very first real fight. He nervously smiles, wondering if he can steal kills to get experience points. It seemed like a sneaky but very effective way to level up. He rushes toward a red orc that is already fighting one of his allies. He prepared to strike the enemy from its unguarded side. He shouts as he leaps and swings his sword with all his strength. He hoped his attack would be enough to finish the enemy off. But his cheap sword shatters upon impact, leaving him with a broken handle. Apparently, you really do get what you pay for with weapons. The huge red orc turns with glowing, angry eyes, annoyed by the boy's failed attack. It let out a low, menacing growl at him. A scream of pure terror escapes Shutra as he turns and runs away. The giant, furious orc began chasing right behind him through the cave. The orc swats Shutra, sending him crashing hard onto the stone floor. The powerful blow knocked all of the wind right out of him. His health drops to a single point, and he lets out a terrified scream. Being one hit away from death was surprisingly not fun. The giant red orc roars and stomps toward the terrified boy. Shutra was completely paralyzed with fear, unable to move a single muscle now. He closes his eyes and screams, expecting the final decisive blow. He thought the danger in this world now felt a little too real. Just then, Karak leaps in front of Shutra, blocking the attack. His loyal guard had arrived just in the nick of time to save him. Karak yells at the prince to move, holding back the powerful enemy. Shutra could only stare in shock, whispering his loyal friend's name. Karak bravely fights the red orc while Shutra watches, still in shock. His mind was completely blank from the scary near-death experience he had. He looks at his shaking hands, trying to remind himself it is just a game. His pounding heart, however, completely disagreed with that assessment now. He decides he has had enough and tries to open the menu to quit. This whole experience was far too realistic and scary for him. The status window appears, but something about it feels very different. He had a bad feeling that something important was definitely missing from it. He checks his skills and sees his special protagonist abilities have completely vanished. His unique powers seem to have just disappeared into thin air now. He panics, searching for a logout button, but it is gone. The most important feature of any game was inexplicably missing from the menu. A chilling thought washes over him. With no way to exit, he's trapped. The scary thought was more terrifying than any monster in the cave. Shutra spots the enemy general in the distance, preparing a powerful spell. Kai-chan was getting ready to cast some very powerful and dangerous magic. Kai-chan gathers pink energy, forming a glowing orb of destructive magic. His eyes were locked on his target, who was the defenseless prince. The general unleashes the magical blast, sending it flying straight toward Shutra. The powerful spell moved quickly across the battlefield toward the prince. Shutra finds a spark of courage, telling himself he cannot die here. He knew he had to survive, no matter what it took now. The blast hits him directly, engulfing him in a violent pink explosion. The powerful magic consumed his small body in a flash of light. The force of the impact shatters the ground around him completely. The powerful magic left a huge crater where he had just been standing. Shutra gasps for breath, his body feeling heavy and weak. The world around him started to fade away into complete and utter darkness. Kai-chan looks on with a cruel, victorious sneer on his face. He was completely confident that his powerful attack had finished the young prince. A final screen appears showing his health points have dropped to 0. It was the end of the line for the young demon prince. He finds himself standing in a vast, empty darkness. There was absolutely nothing around him but a quiet, endless, and silent black void. He looks around, confused, wondering where he is after the explosion. He remembered the battle but had no idea where this place was. He wonders if he is now truly and permanently dead. The horrifying thought filled his mind with a new and very real kind of fear. Just as he loses all hope, a brilliant, warm light appears. The bright light began to push back the endless darkness all around him. A gentle voice echoes, telling him he is a fated person. The powerful voice informed him that he was destined to be in this place. A beautiful golden-haired woman appears, telling him to conquer and rule. She reached out to him, explaining his new and grand destiny here. Shutra stares at her, completely stunned by her strange and confusing words. He had no idea what she was talking about at all. He turns and walks into the brilliant light, ready for his destiny. He had no other choice but to face whatever was coming next. In another part of the cave, the battle rages on fiercely. Green orcs were completely surrounded by the endless waves of red-skinned enemies. The red warriors were vicious, pushing Karak's soldiers back with savage strength. Their overwhelming numbers made the fight a very difficult one for them. General Kai-chan watches from the entrance with a cruel, confident smile. He was the mastermind behind this very effective and clever battlefield ambush. He scoffs at the small number of soldiers, calling them either ignorant or stupid. He couldn't believe they had walked right into his well-planned trap. He gives the final order to finish them all off without wasting time. His warriors roared and charged forward, ready to end the long fight. But Kai-chan freezes, wondering if the prince's recent disappearance was an awakening. He couldn't believe what he had just seen with his own eyes. Shutra reappears unharmed, surrounded by a golden aura and holding his broken sword. The general stammers, asking how he is still standing there now. A notification announces he has acquired the telekinesis skill. Completely confused by this strange new and unexpected power, he checks his status, wondering how he learned such a powerful skill. He was not a mage, so this development was very confusing to him. He sees he has also gained a new subclass, Knight of Conquest. He had never even heard of such a strange class before now. Kai-chan angrily points at Shutra, screaming for his soldiers to attack him. He was furious that his main target was still alive and well. Karak looks at his prince with awe, not understanding what is happening. He knew he had to protect him. no matter what it took. Karak and his soldiers rallied to protect their prince, forming a defensive wall. They shouted that their young prince must not be harmed in battle. Shutra looks at his broken sword and his updated status, his mind racing. Everything was happening so fast, and none of it made any sense. He remembers that Knight of Conquest is not a normal playable class. This strange and powerful new class was not available to regular players. He stares into the distance, wondering why he was given this strange power. A million different questions were running through his mind at that moment. He feels a strange familiarity, as if he has always known these powers. Ancient words and powerful spells were echoing inside his head right now. He understands that the power to conquer is the power of a king. A new and very strong fire was burning in his eyes. He raises his broken sword and shouts a powerful command to his soldiers. A brilliant wave of golden light exploded outward from his small body. The orcs roar as the golden energy boosts their strength and power. One of them shouted in amazement that he felt his strength overflowing. Shutra commands his newly empowered orcs to sweep their enemies away completely. His soldiers let out a mighty war cry and charged forward together. The powered-up orcs are unstoppable, tearing through the red soldiers with incredible strength. The tide of the battle had instantly turned in their favor. They move like a destructive whirlwind, defeating the enemies with their new power. The golden energy around them pulsed with every powerful blow they landed. Kaichan watches in shock as his enemies suddenly become superpowered warriors. He yelled in disbelief at how much stronger they had suddenly gotten. He stares at the chaos, thinking the whole situation is completely absurd. He couldn't understand how a battle he had won had turned around. Kaichan scans the battlefield, trying to find the source of this new power. He desperately searched for an answer to this impossible situation he faced. He sees Shutra and realizes the small prince is the cause of it all. The boy stood calmly with his broken sword held high up. The furious Kaichan summons massive shards of pink energy, screaming at Shutra. He desperately yelled at the boy to stop this at once. Shutra looks up with a calm and determined expression on his face. He was completely ready to face the general's next powerful magic attack. But Karak leaps in front of the prince, shattering the magic shards. He protected his young prince from all of the incoming dangerous magic. Shutra and Karak share a look of perfect understanding and teamwork. In that single moment, they both knew exactly what to do next. Shutra orders Karak to go, and the empowered orc charges forward. He moved faster than he ever had before, roaring with incredible new strength. The terrified enemy general tells him to wait, but it's far too late. The superpowered orc was already right in front of him now. With a flash of golden light, Karak's powerful attack defeated the general. He had won the long and difficult battle with a single blow. The enemy general falls to the ground, defeated by the powered-up orc. The tide of the battle had completely and decisively turned for them. The enemy soldiers run away, and Shutra orders his orcs to chase them. He yelled for them not to let a single one escape. A notification explains that all the experience his soldiers gain belongs to him. This special rule meant his general's merits were for their king. 3 more messages appear, announcing he has leveled up multiple times. He was growing stronger at an incredibly fast and unbelievable new speed. Shutra smiles, confused but happy about why his level is rising so fast. He looked at the notifications with a very pleased and happy expression. Karak looks at his glowing hands, wondering about this incredible new strength. He clenched his fist, feeling the immense power coursing through his body. He looks down, his expression full of awe and also deep wonder. He had never felt so incredibly powerful in his entire life before. Looking at his leader, Karak smiles, knowing this power came from the prince. He was certain that the prince was the source of it. That night, the victorious orcs celebrate their amazing victory around a large bonfire. The entire camp was filled with happy and very cheerful shouting. Inside his tent, Shutra frantically searches for a logout button, but it is gone. He couldn't find the important button anywhere in the game's menu. He tells himself to calm down, but his heart is pounding with fear. The glowing screen in front of him offered absolutely no escape. He thinks he might be trapped in the game due to a glitch. He hoped that the game's developers would fix it with an update. Then, a much scarier possibility enters his mind, making him sweat. The terrifying new thought sent a chill right down his entire spine. He realizes this might be a real world, not just a simple game. He could have been transported to an alternate reality like in stories. The world felt too real, and the characters could think for themselves. Everything around him pointed to this one very unbelievable but likely conclusion. He nervously confirms that there is no censorship, which makes everything feel real. This was the final and most important piece of solid evidence. He wonders if this means he can actually die here permanently. The terrifying question was now the most important one on his mind. He decides to be optimistic, cheering himself up by remembering Heza Prince. At least he wasn't reborn as a weak little background character. Karak peeks into the tent, asking if the prince has some time. His voice was serious, and his usual friendly demeanor had completely vanished. Shutra turns, surprised to see his guard with such a serious expression. Karak looked at him with a very determined and focused look now. Under the night sky, Shutra asks Karak why he wants a sparring match. He wondered why his guard had suddenly requested this practice fight. Karak explains he needs to know his leader's skill for future battles. Shutra seemed a little unsure if this was a very good idea. Karak tosses a wooden sword to Shutra, who catches it nervously. He had never actually held a real sword in his entire life before. Karak reassures the prince that he will hold back his strength. He promised not to use his full power during their little practice match. Shutra's nervous expression is replaced by a sly, confident grin. He playfully asked if that was a proper way to talk to royalty. He charges forward, yelling that if they are going to fight, it should be serious. A look of pure excitement was now in his eyes. Karak takes his stance with a wooden sword, ready to test his prince. He held the practice weapon with the focus of a true warrior. Shutra lunges, but his attack is clumsy and easily dodged by Karak. The big orc seemed completely and utterly unimpressed by the boy's attempt. Shutra keeps swinging wildly, but his weak attacks miss every single time. He looked more like a child playing than a real demon prince. Karak swings his own sword, and Shutra barely manages to block the attack. The powerful blow sent a strong jolt right up his arms. The blow knocks Shutra to the ground, and Karak asks if he's okay. He advised the prince not to charge in so recklessly again. A notification appears, telling him he has acquired basic swordsmanship. He stared at it in complete and utter surprise, not expecting this at all. He wonders how he could have just acquired a new skill so suddenly. He was shocked that he now knew how to use a sword. His eyes widen as he has a sudden, brilliant realization about his powers. A new and very important idea had just popped into his head. He realizes he learns skills by experiencing them directly with his own body. Getting hit by attacks seemed to be his secret training method. Karak suggests ending the spar, but Shutra says it's not over. A new and very strong fire was now burning in his eyes. With a confident grin, Shutra declares that he is just getting started. His cape billowed in the wind as he stood up from the ground. He dashes forward again, but this time his movements are sharp and fast. He was no longer clumsy, but a graceful and skilled young fighter. He perfectly blocks Karak's next attack, standing his ground against the big orc. Their wooden swords clashed with a flash of bright golden light. Karak's eyes go wide with surprise at the prince's sudden improvement. He could feel the incredible difference in the boy's movements and strength. He wonders how it is possible for someone to improve so much so quickly. The prince had been so terrible at the start of the fight. The spar continues, and they are now much more evenly matched. Shutra dodged and weaved, his wooden sword moving like a part of him. He moves with newfound confidence, kicking up dust as he pushes Karak back. His new power was a huge and very welcome surprise to him. The spar ends, and Shutra asks Karak if he was not bad. He looked at his loyal guard with a very proud and happy smile. Shutra asks Karak what his level is, and the orc thinks Hez 21. He was curious about the difference in their overall power and strength. Shutra repeats the number, feeling a bit thoughtful as he calculated everything. He needed to know how much stronger he had to become now. He checks his own status and sees he is already at level 7. He confidently says that he should be able to catch up soon. He knows that people in this world can't easily check their levels. They needed a special mage or a magic item to see their stats. His ability to see his stats is a huge, game-breaking advantage. It would allow him to grow stronger much faster than anyone else. He leaps into the air with excitement, feeling a new surge of hope. He finally understood the true and amazing potential of his unique power. He thinks to himself that he can definitely become much stronger now. His red eyes were glowing with a new and very strong resolve. He corrects himself with a wide, ambitious grin on his young face. He realized he could get stronger much faster than all the others. This is the beginning of the Demon Arc of the Night Saga. His new and exciting adventure in this world had now truly begun. He remembers the game's plot about Zephyr's journey to become the Demon King. The story followed his quest to defeat all of his many siblings. The game had many different paths, but Zephyr's bloody rise to power was the most memorable. He was a ruthless and very powerful main character. This path leads to a dark event where Zephyr kills all his siblings. Shutra realized with horror that he was now one of them. He realizes he is a target, but the event is in 5 years. This gave him at least a little bit of precious time to prepare. He decides he must prevent this dark future by becoming stronger than Zephyr. It was the only way he could guarantee his own personal survival. Karak finds him, asking why he is out here all alone. Shutra turns, surprised, and asks his loyal guard if something important has happened. Karak reminds him of a meeting he forgot about with his siblings. Shutra looked confused, having no memory of any scheduled royal meeting today. Karak urges him to hurry because everyone is waiting for him now. Shutra follows, still feeling unsure of what he should expect from this. They arrive at a large, impressive tent in the military camp. This was clearly where the important meeting was going to be held today. Inside, Shutra sits nervously at a table with his older siblings. He let out a small and very awkward little laugh at them. He stammers to his siblings that they arrived early for the meeting. The two of them were a beautiful woman and a muscular man. His brother, Chris, tells him to relax since they are family. He said there was no need for him to be so polite. His sister, Caitlin, points out that it is their first time meeting. She was a beautiful young woman with long and dark blue hair. Chris tells him to just use their names, and Shutra nervously agrees. He was still feeling a little overwhelmed by the whole strange situation. He remembers them as tough opponents from the game's lycanthrope queen. They were the children of the powerful and beautiful fourth queen, Elaine Moonlight. However, his secret game knowledge also told him a very dark secret. He knew what was going to happen to them in the future. He recalls that both Chris and Caitlin are killed by their other siblings. Their tragic end would happen just 1 year before Zephyr's final massacre. The reason for their tragic deaths lies in a secret about Caitlin's birth. This information was a key plot point in the original game's story. He remembers that she is not a true-born royal, making her a target. Her parentage made her vulnerable in the ruthless world of demon politics. Caitlin scolds him for not following the patrol plan during the last mission. Shutra stammers an excuse, saying he didn't know they were there. Caitlin leans in closer to him, her expression softening a little bit. She told him that she wanted to take a closer look at him. She asks if he is hurt, her voice full of genuine concern. Shutra is completely surprised by her sudden and unexpected show of kindness to him. She calls him the weakest of them all, and says he should be careful. Shutra apologizes, still flustered by her surprisingly caring and gentle behavior. He wonders why she is so worried, since the demon siblings were never close. He was surprised by how different she was from the game. Chris also warns him not to do anything dangerous again, or hell be scolded. Shutra meekly agrees, still trying to process the entire situation. He looks at his siblings, wondering if they are actually kind people. They were acting much more like a caring, if stern, older family. A thoughtful expression appears on his face as a brand new idea. A clever and very interesting new plan began to form in his mind. He recalls that lycanthropes are famous for their powerful aura abilities. He thinks he can learn aura if he is hit by it. He turns to Chris and asks for a favor. A determined look on his face. His older brother looked back at him with a surprised expression. With a charming smile, he asks his brother to hit him with aura. He hoped the impact would grant him the skill instantly, like before. Chris and Caitlin stare at him with shocked and confused expressions on their faces. They had no idea what to make of his bizarre request. They are left completely speechless, wondering what is going on in his head. Their little brother was being very strange and confusing to them now. The view changes to a vast mountain landscape, showing the next location. The next part of Shutra's epic journey was about to finally begin. A flashback shows a powerful red-skinned orc commander leading a fierce charge. He easily sent all of his enemies flying away from him. The battlefield is pure chaos, with explosions rocking the war-torn ground. The two massive armies clashed in a very brutal and deadly war. The orc commander is a whirlwind of destruction on the entire battlefield. He spun through the enemy ranks, cutting down anyone in his path. He roars with the fury of battle, his glowing red eyes shining. He bravely led his loyal warriors from the very front of the army. He grabs 2 enemy soldiers and smashes them together with his incredible strength. The powerful commander showed absolutely no mercy to all of his enemies. An enemy tries to attack him, but the commander easily blocks the blow. He was far too fast and skilled for the foolish soldier. A savage, bloodthirsty grin spreads across the fearsome commander's red-skinned face. He was a true and unstoppable beast on the entire war-torn battlefield. A nearby enemy soldier screams in terror, knowing he is no match. He was completely terrified of the powerful and unstoppable orc war commander. The commander slams his weapon down, creating a powerful red energy shockwave. The magical blast ripped right through all of the enemy front lines. He roars for his soldiers to kill them all, offering a reward. He promised to reward the one who got the most kills. His inspired army roars and charges forward with renewed and fierce determination. They were all excited by their leader's strength and his great promise. The battle rages on, with fire and explosions lighting up the mountainside. The two armies fought each other until the very bitter end. Shutra finds himself back in the strange, dark void, feeling completely lost. He was alone again in the silent and endless black space. A beautiful, mysterious woman with long, white hair appears in a golden light. She had 2 different colored eyes and a very knowing expression. Shutra steps back, startled by her sudden and unexpected mysterious appearance. He nervously asked the strange woman who she was and what she wanted. He doesn't recognize her or the shadowy figures from the Night Saga game. They were all complete and utter strangers to him in this world. The mysterious woman steps closer to him, her golden aura illuminating the darkness. She walked toward him with a very graceful and confident stride now. In a brilliant flash of bright golden light, the strange vision ends. The entire mysterious and confusing dream was now finally over for him. Shutra's eyes snap open to find he is in his bed. He was back in his tent, with the morning sun shining down on him. He sits up and clutches his head, wondering if it was all a dream. He tried to separate the strange visions from his current new reality. Karak's face suddenly appears right in front of him, asking if he is awake. Shutra screams, completely startled by his guard's sudden and close appearance. Shutra yells that he was scared. while Karak just looks at him calmly. His loyal guard simply replied that the young prince seemed to be fine. Karak asks why he kept begging the princess to hit him yesterday. He explained that Shutra's whining eventually made her finally give in to him. A notification announces he has obtained the aura skill, and he feels it. A faint white energy surrounded him as he felt the new power. Karak asks if getting hit awakens his aura, and Shutra agrees it does. He examined his glowing hands, confirming that it worked somewhat for him. Karak realizes this is how he powered them up during the last fight. Shutra confirms it was his doing, and Karak finally understands everything now. Shutra asks if anything important happened while he was asleep for so long. Karak replied that, of course, something important had happened without him. He learns the main army also won their battle against the Lightning Tribe. Shutra looked surprised, asking what he meant by the main force. Shutra thought he and his siblings were the only ones fighting the tribe. Karak explained that the enemy tribe was far too large for them. Karak reveals the main army was led by the famous General Bandal. The name shocked Shutra, who repeated it in complete and utter disbelief. Shutra recalls that General Bandal is one of the strongest warriors around. He had really liked him as a subordinate in the original game. A brilliant idea hits him as he realizes this is his big chance. His eyes widened as a new plan began to form in his mind. He remembers that Bandal only joined Zephyr in 3 years, so his available. The powerful general was not yet the subordinate of his older brother. A mischievous grin spreads across his face as he decides to recruit him. He planned to take the powerful general for himself before his brother could. He is confident because he knows all of Bandal's secrets from the game. He knew everything about his likes, dislikes, and his hidden talents. But the most important way to win Bandal's loyalty is to defeat him. The general would only serve someone who could beat him in a duel. He believes he can steal the general away from his older brother, Zephyr. He knew it was worth trying since he had a lot of time. With a look of fierce determination, he vows to make Bandal his subordinate. He had a new and very important goal to achieve now. Back in his sister's tent, Shutra has a big surprise for them. He was about to show his siblings something truly amazing and incredible. He shows them his new aura skill, and they stare in complete shock. Chris yelled, asking how he learned it in just a single day. Shutra winks, explaining that he put all his new skill points into it. His confident smile showed how proud he was of his rapid progress. He explains that aura boosts his physical abilities, making it very useful now. It was a much better choice for him than having telekinesis. Chris wonders if Shutra's rapid growth is because of his Gandharva heritage. He still couldn't believe that this was even possible for anyone. Chris then asks if Shutra can make a map of the underground tunnels. He wanted to know if his little brother's talents included cartography. Shutra says he can easily draw one from his minimap's memory. He confidently asks his brother for a pen and some blank paper. He quickly draws a map that is more detailed than the official one. Chris was completely stunned by his little brother's incredible and useful new talent. Chris calls his little brother a genius with a huge, proud grin. He threw a friendly and very happy arm around Shutra's small shoulders. Chris and Caitlin realize they can use the tunnels for a surprise attack. Their enemies had no idea that they knew about the secret route. Caitlin then tells Shutra that she has another important job for him. Her expression turned very serious as she looked at her little brother. The next day, the brand new and very important mission finally begins. The sun shone brightly in the clear blue sky above the mountains. Shutra leads another patrol, sighing that he gets the boring jobs. As the youngest prince, he had no choice but to follow his orders. He and Karak joke about how their patrol group has gotten much bigger. They were happy to have some strong reinforcements with them this time. 2 mysterious figures in dark hooded cloaks watched them from the shadows. They stood silently, observing the prince and his large group of soldiers. The figures are revealed to be Princess Caitlin and her adjutant, Sira. Shutra stopped in his tracks, surprised to see his older sister here. He asks why she is wearing a strange robe, and she shushes him. She brought a single finger to her lips, telling him to be quiet. She whispers that she is following him in secret to keep him safe. Her golden eyes were full of genuine concern for her little brother. She says she will only interfere if it's a real emergency. She explained that this mission needed to be his own personal accomplishment. Caitlin's adjutant, a young woman named Sira, introduces herself to the prince. Shutra politely greeted the blonde-haired young woman in front of him. Caitlin tells him to continue with the mission, and Shutra agrees. He led his troops onward, heading deeper into the wild green forest. The group arrives back at the dark, gaping entrance to the cave. This was the same place where their last big adventure had begun. Shutra and his troop of orcs marched back into the dark cave. Their heavy footsteps echoed loudly off of all the cold stone walls. They find the dwarves' old living quarters are completely empty of any treasure. Karak wondered why they would leave all their valuables behind like this. Shutra asks about the weapons they found, and Karak guesses they weren't valuable. To the dwarves, those weapons were probably just common, everyday items. The group ventures deeper into the darkness, with an orc lighting the way. They were all ready for whatever they might find in here. Karak stops, warning the prince that something is coming their way now. Shutra nodded, his expression serious, saying that he could hear it too. Shutra checks his minimap, which shows a large group of enemies approaching. He knew that it must be them coming for a big fight. He quickly opens his inventory, which contains a single, useful-looking potion. The bottle of liquid rested in the very first empty storage slot. The item is a flash spell potion he wisely took from the horde. He had saved it just in case this exact thing happened to them. He tells Karak to have everyone close their eyes on his signal. Karak looked confused but trusted his prince's strange and very urgent new order. They peer down the dark tunnel as the strange clicking sounds grow louder. The mysterious noises were getting much closer to them with every second. Dozens of glowing red eyes emerged from the darkness, swarming toward them. The terrifying sight appeared suddenly from the shadows of the deep cave. The creatures are giant stone spiders with a very dangerous paralyzing poison. Shutra remembered from the game that they always hunted in large packs. Shutra shouts at the top of his lungs for everyone to close their eyes. He gave the loud and very urgent command to all his soldiers. He hurls the glowing potion into the middle of the spider swarm. He threw the bottle without a single moment of hesitation at his enemies. The potion shatters, erupting in a brilliant, blinding flash of pure light. The dark cave was suddenly as bright as the middle of the day. The spiders screech in pain, completely stunned and disoriented by the bright light. They had spent their entire lives living in the deep, dark caves. Shutra explains the spiders are useless in light and orders his men to attack. He used his expert game knowledge to guide his loyal soldiers. The orc warriors charge forward, ready to attack the helpless blinded monsters. They raised their weapons high and let out a mighty group roar. The orcs easily cut down the panicked spiders, who cannot fight back. The one-sided battle was a complete and total victory for their side. Shutra watches his perfect plan unfold, his own aura glowing faintly. He stood back and calmly commanded the entire, chaotic battlefield from a distance. He checks his minimap again, remembering that these spiders always hunt in groups. He knew that their attack was not over just yet for them. And where there is a group, there is always a much larger leader. His map showed a big red dot at the group center. He tells Karak to follow him so they can defeat the boss together. Karak agreed, ready for the next phase of their very important fight. They fight their way through the remaining spiders, heading for the leader. They moved quickly through the chaos, focused on their main powerful target. They faced the boss, a colossal stone spider with a terrifying mouth. The giant monster was the size of a small house with many eyes. The fearless Karak leaps and brings his axe down on the monster's head. He attacked the giant beast with all of his incredible might. But his axe just bounces off the creature's rock-hard exoskeleton. Karak yelled in frustration that the monster's exterior was just too damn hard. Shutra remembers that normal physical attacks won't work on this specific boss. He had completely forgotten about this important detail from the original game. He recalls the monster's only weakness is fire, but he can't use it. The giant spider let out a low and very menacing growl. The massive spider looms over Karak, ready to strike him down now. Shutra desperately tried to think of a new plan to win. Shutra yells for Karak to use fire, but Karak shouts back confused. He had no idea where he was supposed to get fire from. From the shadows, Caitlyn's voice tells Shutra to raise his sword high. He heard his sister's command and immediately prepared to follow her instructions. Trusting her, he raises his sword, which erupts in golden magical flames. He was completely surprised by the sudden and powerful burst of bright fire. He stammers in shock, not believing he can use magic now. He had never been able to use any kind of magic before this. Caitlyn appears, her hands glowing, having enchanted his sword from a distance. She asked her little brother if that was enough magical support. The giant spider lunges, its massive claw swinging down to crush Shutra. The monster was trying to end the fight with one powerful blow. With his new flaming sword, Shutra meets the monster's attack head-on. He bravely swung his enchanted blade with all of his available might. The burning blade skill sends a wave of fire over the spider. The powerful attack set the monster's rock-hard exoskeleton completely ablaze with flames. Shutra lands gracefully as the flames light up the entire dark cave. His new fiery sword was a very impressive and powerful magical weapon. As the monster burns, a golden light envelops Shutra, leveling him up. 2 notifications appeared at once, announcing his amazing new power increase. He checks his status and sees he is now level 9. He cheered, excited about his new level and all of his extra skill points. Caitlyn asks if he is okay and what the strange golden light was. She had never seen anything like that happen to him before now. Shutra lies, saying it is a special blessing from his ancestors. He knew he had to keep his unique game-like abilities a secret. Caitlyn asks how he knew the spider's weakness, and he says he read it. He was secretly relying on his extensive game knowledge to win. Just then, Karak calls out to the prince, telling him to look. He had found something very interesting at the back of the cave. At the back of the nest, they find a huge, ancient door. It was set deep into the rock wall waiting to be opened. The group walks through the doors into a large, torch-lit chamber. They looked around the mysterious new room with cautious and curious expressions. In the center of the room, Shutra stops, his eyes wide. He instantly recognized the strange and very familiar pattern on the chamber floor. He recognizes the glowing blue circular pattern as a town portal. It was an ancient and very rare piece of magical dwarven technology. Karak asks if he knows what it is, and Shutra has a guess. He admitted that he wasn't completely sure, but had a good idea. He explains that the intricate patterns on the floor are in classic dwarven style. The design was very familiar to him from his time playing. He remembers seeing these rare portals when he played as the human hero. He had never seen one while playing as the demon Prince Zephyr. He thinks injecting mana will activate it and places his hands on it. He walked toward the central pillar and touched the glowing magical orb. He tells his sister he thinks it is a portal, and she appears. Caitlin stepped out from the shadows, surprised by his interesting new discovery. Sierra agrees that the prince is likely correct based on the design. Caitlin then asks if they can find out where it is connected. Karak spots a stone plaque with carved letters on the nearby wall. He called out to the prince, pointing to his very important discovery. The plaque is covered in ancient dwarven characters, not the demon script. The elegant writing was completely unreadable to most of the people there. Caitlin asks Karak if he can read it, but he scoffs at her. He asked why he would ever need to know how to read dwarven. She turns to her adjutant, Sura, who also can't read the script. She shook her head and apologized for not knowing the ancient language. Suddenly, a voice reads the text, Gishka Mountains, portal number 2. Caitlin and Sierra turn in shock, wondering who just spoke up now. A mysterious voice read the ancient plaque, revealing the portal's final destination. The group was stunned, wondering who the secret scholar was. Shutra realized with a jolt that the voice was his own. He wondered how on earth he suddenly became fluent in ancient dwarven. A sudden flash of insight confirmed he had learned the language. He pondered if his weird learning ability worked for things besides fighting. Karak asked in complete awe if the prince could actually read the sign. Shutra played it cool, confirming that he probably could. Caitlin and Sierra were shocked and suspicious of his newfound talent. His sister demanded he prove it by translating the rest of it. Shutra calmly read the next line from the plaque. He explained that they would need to inject mana to get the portal working. He then cleverly asked his sister to be the one to do it. Caitlin questioned why he wasn't doing it himself, looking annoyed. Shutra made an awkward face, admitting he was still terrible with mana. His sister sighed, giving in and agreeing to do it. Caitlin placed her hand on the central pillar, which erupted in a brilliant blue light, filling the ancient dwarven room with magical energy. The light gathered into a beautiful, glowing orb that pulsed with power. The ancient technology was finally waking up from its long sleep. The orb projected a massive holographic map of a mountain range. Caitlin wondered if they were looking at the Gishka Mountains themselves. Shutra pointed out their location and the portal on the glowing map. Caitlin realized there must be more dwarven tunnels on the other side. Karak realized this was a fantastic advantage against their awful enemies. Shutra confidently confirmed this would let them launch a perfect surprise attack. Caitlin decided they should return to camp to discuss this new plan with Chris. Shutra immediately agreed to the sensible decision. Back at their camp, the news of the secret portal was met with great excitement. It was a huge strategic discovery for their army. Chris was overjoyed, grabbing Shutra in a crushing hug and patting him hard. He declared that his little brother was an amazing blessing. He then offered Shutra any reward he wanted for his discovery. He promised that he would grant whatever his little brother requested. Shutra tried to politely refuse the offer, but Chris insisted. He felt that as a leader, he had to reward such great work. He added that his feelings would be hurt if he refused the gift. Shutra paused, realizing this was a golden opportunity for him. Shutra then asked if he could make a slightly unreasonable request. This only made his big brother even more curious about it. He took a deep breath and made his incredibly bold request. He asked his brother to teach him the beast god fist art. Chris' cheerful expression instantly vanished, replaced by a look of total shock. The room fell into a heavy, uncomfortable, and very awkward silence. Shutra explained his reasoning, saying he couldn't use weapons well yet. He argued that learning techniques was a different matter entirely for him. He showed he knew the importance of what he asked. It was a legendary, top-tier martial art of the lycanthrope royal family. Seeing his brother's silence, Shutra pretended to be disappointed. He said he understood if the request was simply too much to ask. To his complete astonishment, Chris actually agreed to teach him. Shutra was so surprised that he could barely make a sound in response. Chris clarified that he couldn't teach the family's secret techniques. Those ancient and powerful moves were simply too sacred to share. However, he offered to teach Shutra the aura portion of the art. Shutra was ecstatic, asking if he was serious about the offer. Chris smiled, asking if that was a good enough reward. Shutra was quiet for a moment, still processing his incredible luck and victory. Seeing his silence, his siblings worried he was disappointed. Shutra quickly assured them with a huge grin that the gift was absolutely perfect. Chris then spoke his name with a very serious and heartfelt tone. The mood in the room immediately shifted to something important. He asked if he could now consider Shutra a true brother. It was an offer of family, not just a political alliance. Shutra was surprised by the powerful weight of the word. He knew that accepting this offer was a very significant and important step. Chris' gaze was intense and sincere, showing just how much the word brother truly meant to him and his family. Shutra smiled, accepting the offer to become a true brother. He knew this powerful new bond would help him survive the future. He firmly shook his brother's hand, sealing their new, stronger alliance. Caitlin watched the important moment with a warm, approving smile. Both Chris and Caitlin looked very happy with the outcome. This was clearly more than just a strategic move for the two of them. Shutra looked at his two powerful new allies with determination. He declared that they should all work together from this day forward. As if on cue, a system window appeared right before his eyes. It seemed his declaration had made their new alliance official. The message confirmed that an alliance had been established with his siblings. For now, it was just a normal-level alliance. The scene changes to the enemy's main camp. The Scarlet Lightning Tribe settlement was a formidable collection of tents and watchtowers. Inside the large camp, tough-looking red-skinned orcs went about their business. The atmosphere was very tense and filled with military discipline. An orc leader smiled cruelly, saying that his guest wouldn't have come here without some specific, sneaky purpose in their mind. In a dark tent, a captive knelt inside a glowing magic circle. The orc leader mockingly referred to this prisoner as our princess. The captive was revealed to be the sixth princess, Felicia Doomblade. She was bound by glowing magical chains inside the strange ritual circle. Meanwhile, Shutra reviewed his own status window in his tent. He noticed that all his stats were even except for his charisma. He realized that his charisma stat had stopped growing as fast as the other. This strange detail was a puzzle he needed to solve. He wondered why that specific stat was different. He recalled that in the game, a character's appearance and their charisma were separate things. In the game, appearance was just about being good-looking. Charisma, on the other hand, was about being a likable and influential person. He decided not to worry about it, figuring it was just a balancing mechanic. He had been growing incredibly fast, after all. More importantly, he was currently at level 9. He was incredibly close to reaching the major milestone of level 10 very soon. He remembered that in the game, the hero and the villain's unique skills would automatically level up the moment they hit level 10. A confident, scheming look crossed his face as he planned. Karak then poked his head into the tent, telling him it was time. Karak reported that everything was ready for their mission. Shutra turned with a mischievous grin and confirmed it was time to depart. Karak noticed the prince seemed unusually happy and asked why. Shutra just peeked out of the tent and said it was nothing special. Shutra and Karak stepped out of their tent, ready for battle. Their loyal orc soldiers were all assembled and waiting for them. He stood before his army of disciplined orc warriors. They all held their spears, waiting for their young prince to give the command. With a determined grin, he looked over his forces. The time for clever planning was finally over, and it was now time to fight. The scene pans to the jagged peaks of the Gishka Mountains. This was the target location for their secret and brilliant surprise attack. They arrived at the hidden entrance to the Dwarven Caves. This secret path would allow them to sneak up on their awful enemies. Inside the tunnels, lycanthrope and orc warriors fought together. They worked to clear out the last of the monstrous stone spiders. With the path finally cleared, the grand doors to the portal room were now visible. Their strategic objective was finally within their reach. Shutra and his siblings walked confidently into the massive portal chamber. Their carefully crafted and brilliant surprise attack plan was now in motion. Two lycanthrope mages were already examining the portal's controls. Chris asked them if their investigation of the ancient device was complete. One of the mages confirmed Shutra's discovery with a smile. The portal was indeed connected to the distant Gishka Mountains, as he said. Karak asked if the ancient portal was still working properly. The mage confirmed that the dwarven technology was sturdy and worked perfectly fine. With everything confirmed, Chris' expression became serious and resolved. He gave the simple and decisive order for their group to move out. The two mages placed their hands over the orb, and blue energy flared. They poured their magic into the device to activate it. The orb pulsed with a brilliant, blinding light. The ancient portal hummed with immense power as it prepared to open a gateway. A massive, shimmering portal of blue energy appeared in the air. Through it they could see the rocky landscape of their destination. Shutra and Karak stared at the magical gate with pure awe. Even with all his game knowledge, Shutra was completely mesmerized by it. He thought that seeing a magical gate in a game was one thing. Witnessing a real one was an entirely new, breathtaking experience. Caitlin noticed he was just standing there and asked what he was waiting for. Snapped out of his daydream, he hurried to catch up. With one last amazed glance at the swirling energy, Shutra ran to join his siblings as they stepped into the magical portal. The group walked through the portal, emerging into a rugged landscape. They had successfully and secretly infiltrated deep into enemy territory. They stood on a high cliff, looking down at the massive enemy encampment. Their final objective was spread out right below them. Chris surveyed the enemy camp with a very satisfied look. The first phase of their brilliant surprise attack plan was a complete success. He carefully analyzed the camp's size from his vantage point. He estimated that the total enemy force numbered around 5,000 soldiers. Chris began to outline the details of their brilliant strategy. Their primary target would be the enemy's supply stores to cripple their army. He explained that General Bandal would attack from the front. This distraction would allow their small team to sneak in from behind. However, Sierra interrupted him with a worried look on her face. She pointed out that something about the enemy camp seemed very strange. She noted that the camp seemed nearly deserted, with far too few soldiers. Caitlin wondered if a battle had already started without them. Suddenly, Shutra noticed movement in the distance and heard faint battle sounds. He asked what was going on way over there. Chris told his younger brother to focus his aura into his eyes. This technique would allow him to see the distant battle clearly. Shutra concentrated, and a faint white energy flickered around his eyes. He channeled the aura just as his brother instructed him to. His vision sharpened instantly, bringing the distant chaos into sharp focus. He gasped, amazed that he could now see the fight clearly. Caitlin noted that the enemy was the Lightning Tribe. However, the other fighters were definitely not a part of General Bandal's army. Shutra added his own analysis of the situation. He observed that the fight was far too small to be a major battle. He focused on the mysterious warriors fighting the orcs. He saw a fierce female warrior with white hair cutting down her enemies. As the group stared from the cliff, Shutra recognized the mysterious fighters. He was surprised to see that they were actually dark elves. Caitlin turned to him, surprised he could identify the warriors. He explained their smaller build and lizard mounts were clear giveaways. Chris, shielding his eyes to get a better view, suddenly announced that the mysterious dark elf warriors were now starting to retreat. Below them, the dark elves were indeed fleeing in a panic. It seemed their commander had been defeated, and they were scattering. Karak wondered what was going on and why the fight had ended so suddenly. Shutra remained quiet, trying to understand this development. Shutra felt a sense of unease. The sudden appearance of dark elves was not something he remembered from the original game story. Back at their main camp, the time for immediate action was over. They needed to get some real answers about this strange situation. Inside a command tent, the siblings stood before a communication device. The holographic image of General Bandal appeared, looking very formidable. Bandal praised their discovery of the portal. However, he then asked them how they had known about the secret passage in the first place. Chris proudly gave all the credit to Shutra. A flustered Shutra tried to downplay it, claiming he had just gotten very lucky. Shutra looked at the general, pleased to see this key future ally again. Bandal promised him a great reward for his discovery. Chris quickly reported the strange skirmish they had just witnessed. He asked the general if he knew what was going on there. General Bandal confirmed the fighters were dark elves. Chris, now very confused, questioned why they would be fighting the Lightning Tribe. Chris asked if they were official reinforcements from the castle. Bandal explained that their scouting mission had apparently gone very wrong. The general's expression then grew very grim. He informed them that they were now facing a much bigger and more complicated issue. He delivered the shocking news the Dark Elves' leader had been captured. Chris realized this explained their reckless and desperate attack earlier. Shutra, now alarmed, quickly asked the most important question. He needed to know the identity of the captured Dark Elf commander. General Bandal paused for a moment, his gaze serious. He told them that the captured commander was someone they all knew very well. He then revealed the commander's identity, the sixth princess, Felicia Doomblade. She was a fierce dark elf with long white hair. To be perfectly clear, Bandal stated that the captured prisoner was their sister. Chris and Caitlin were frozen in complete disbelief and horror. Shutra recalled that in the game, Princess Felicia had always been an enemy. Her sudden appearance here was a huge change to the story. He wondered why she would suddenly show up here now. He suspected she was trying to steal their glory for the victory. Chris, now very angry, demanded to know if the enemy knew they had captured a princess from the royal family. Bandal admitted that the enemy likely had no idea. They had not been able to confirm the enemy knew her true identity. Chris asked what the general planned to do now. Bandal's strategy was simple. They would save her if they got the chance. Bandal made it clear he would not beg for his sister's release. Chris nodded, his own expression hardening in agreement with the stance. The general promised to gather more information and ended the call. Chris simply acknowledged the plan and turned away from the device. The holographic image vanished, leaving the three siblings alone. They had to process the terrible and very unexpected news about their sister. Chris let out a bitter, sarcastic laugh. He commented on how their supposedly brilliant older sister had gotten herself captured so easily. Caitlin argued that they had to save her because she was family. Chris warned her that a rescue mission would not be easy. He explained that a rescue attempt would be incredibly risky for their soldiers. Caitlin's face filled with horror at the impossible choice. Caitlin grabbed her brother's arm, her voice filled with emotion. She insisted that they had to save Felicia, no matter what. Shutra watched the intense argument between his siblings unfold. He could understand both of their very different points of view. Later, the group's leaders all gathered in the main command tent. The atmosphere was very tense as they began to plan. Chris stood at the head of a large table with a map. He announced to his officers that their new battle plan was simple. He explained that General Bandal would attack from the front. This would leave the enemy's main camp completely vulnerable from the rear. He announced that he would lead a charge to cause chaos. He then tasked Caitlin and Shutra with a special, separate mission. Shutra asked if their mission was to rescue Felicia. Chris confirmed it, but said they would burn the enemy's supplies first. He gave a very strict order they were to retreat if things got too dangerous. He would not risk his soldiers for Felicia. Caitlin erupted in anger at her brother's cold command. Chris cut her off, reminding her that he was the commander here. She yelled that Felicia was family, but Chris argued her recklessness endangered everyone. Shutra just watched the family drama unfold, utterly confused. He realized Chris' reluctance wasn't just about strategy. He wondered if something bad had happened between him and Felicia in the past. The time for arguing was over. On the battlefield, one of General Bandal's orc commanders roared for his warriors to finally advance. The general's massive army of orcs and lycanthropes surged forward. They all screamed their intent to annihilate their awful enemies. High on a cliff, Chris and his own soldiers watched the battle begin. They waited patiently for their perfect moment to finally strike. Chris stared down at the enemy camp below him. His eyes carefully scanned the layout as he anticipated the coming chaos. In the camp below, the enemy sentries were completely unaware. They had no idea a second army was hiding in the mountains. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the front of the enemy camp. General Bandal's devastating and powerful surprise assault had finally begun. The force of the huge blast sent enemy orcs flying. Their bodies were thrown around like dolls amidst the fire and smoke. General Bandal himself charged into the heart of the enemy lines. His massive axe easily cleaved a path through all the defenders. With his eyes glowing red with pure rage, the general roared. He commanded his troops to kill every last one of them. On the other side of the battlefield, Shutra and Karak watched. Karak grew restless, but Shutra calmly told him to wait for the signal. The battle raged on in a brutal, chaotic melee. General Bandal's forces clashed with the enemy in a storm of steel. The general was a completely unstoppable force of destruction. He personally tore through the ranks of the awful and surprised enemy soldiers. Then, the signal finally came. A bright light flashed across the battlefield, signaling it was time for the feigned retreat to begin. Chris saw the signal from his high vantage point. The feint had worked perfectly, and the enemy's rear was now completely exposed. He turned to his own waiting army of elite soldiers. The time had finally come, and he ordered everyone to get ready. Shutra and Caitlin stood ready, their faces grim with determination. Chris gave the final command to begin their part of the mission. With a powerful war cry, Chris led the charge down the mountain. His army followed, descending upon the unsuspecting enemy encampment. The enemy guards at the rear of the camp heard the charge. They looked up in pure shock and terror at the surprise attack. Chris' forces, led by ferocious lycanthropes, smashed into the unprepared enemies. The second phase of the battle had begun with brutal efficiency. As the battle began, Caitlin yelled for Shutra to be careful. He shouted back, telling her to do the same as they split up. Shutra quickly consulted his holographic map. His game knowledge gave him a perfect layout of the entire enemy camp and its buildings. He and his orc warriors charged through the burning encampment. He ordered them to head straight for the enemy's main food storage. Karak, leading the charge, roared for his soldiers to kill every last one of the awful enemy bastards they could find. He fearlessly crashed into the enemy lines, his axe cleaving through a red-skinned orc with a single, brutal and powerful strike. The enemy orc, reeling from the powerful blow, roared in pain. He swung a clumsy and desperate punch at the powerful warrior. Before the punch could land, a dagger flew through the air. It struck the orc squarely in the head, dropping him instantly. A notification confirmed that Shutra had acquired a new skill. He had learned how to throw daggers just by watching the enemy. He allowed himself a small, confident smirk. Another very useful and practical skill had been added to his growing collection of abilities. Karak looked at his prince with amazement, asking when he learned that skill. Shutra brushed it off, saying it was nothing special. They arrived at the enemy's food storage building. Karak asked if their plan was simply to set the entire thing on fire, but just as they were about to attack, a horrifying thought struck Shutra. He suddenly realized that Felicia might be inside. He stopped his men with an urgent command. He declared that they had to find Felicia before they burned the building down. Shutra summoned his status screen, which also worked as a mini-map. He knew this was the only way to find her. He reasoned that Felicia should be marked as a neutral character. This meant her location would be visible on his special map. He spotted the unique marker on the map and pointed. He shouted for Karak to follow him, and his loyal guard obeyed instantly. They arrived at a heavily guarded tent and pushed aside the flap. He was sure that this had to be the right place. He stepped inside, but the tent was empty. He looked around frantically, wondering where she was, when a voice called his name. Shutra spun around, completely startled. He saw his older sister, Princess Felicia, standing right there in the middle of the tent. She was kneeling, bound by glowing red magic chains. She was a captive, but she was alive and conscious inside the tent. She looked up at him, her expression a mixture of confusion and surprise. She asked him what he was doing there. Shutra quickly knelt behind her, telling her to stay still. He began working on the magical chains that were binding her. He explained that the area was dangerous and they needed to leave. He also thought that rescuing her would be useful later. Felicia watched him as he worked on her chains. Her expression was completely unreadable, and she remained silent the entire time. After freeing her, they escaped the tent just in time. Shutra told her they needed to hurry and regroup with their siblings. Felicia stopped, her eyes wide with shock at his words. She asked if Chris and Caitlin were really here to rescue her. Her strange reaction made him ask if she hadn't expected them. She looked away, flustered, and stammered that it wasn't that. She began to explain that he wouldn't understand their family's problems. Karak then shouted a warning that more enemies were coming their way. Shutra quickly took charge, calling Felicia's name and telling her to hurry. A stunned Felicia agreed and followed his lead. She stared at his back as they ran through the chaos. She wondered when her little brother had started calling her by name. As Shutra ran, Felicia watched him go, a puzzled expression on her face. She seemed to sense something was very wrong. Suddenly she saw an enemy shaman preparing a sneak attack. She screamed a warning, but it was already far too late. A blast of fire magic slammed directly into Shutra's chest. He cried out in pure shock and pain as the spell hit him. He coughed violently from the searing heat of the spell. The powerful magic attack had burned him badly, and he was hurt. The enemy orc shaman stood triumphantly, his hands still smoking. Felicia screamed Shutra's name in absolute terror, believing he was gone. She and a nearby orc warrior could only stare in horror. The spot where their prince had been standing was now a bonfire. Felicia's face was pale with shock and grief. Her voice trembled as she called his name again, completely heartbroken by his death. The shaman, having dealt with the immediate threat, roared in victory. He then turned his menacing gaze toward the lone princess. Felicia's grief quickly turned to a cold and powerful fury. She glared at the shaman, preparing to fight him to the death. Before she could move, a massive explosion of fire erupted. The blast came from the spot where Shutra had just fallen. Felicia watched, completely stunned, as the shaman's silhouette vanished. She wondered what could have possibly caused the massive fiery blast. As the smoke cleared, Shutra stood in the flames, completely unharmed. A bow made of pure fire materialized right in his hands. A wide, confident grin spread across Shutra's face. He had somehow turned a fatal attack into a powerful new magical weapon. He immediately tested his brand new skill. He fired a volley of fire arrows into the ranks of the stunned enemy soldiers. He skillfully drew the magical bow, unleashing a powerful barrage. The flaming projectiles streaked through the air toward the enemy soldiers. The arrows all found their marks, striking several orcs. They exploded on impact, sending the enemy bodies flying through the air. Shutra laughed with pure manic joy at his new power. He couldn't believe that he was actually using real, powerful magic now. He continued his fiery assault, marveling at the incredible power. He was amazed, even though the skill was only at level 1. Just then, a wave of jagged ice erupted from the ground. It froze several of the nearby enemy soldiers completely solid. Shutra stopped his attack, staring in surprise at the massive wall of ice. It had appeared out of absolutely nowhere in the battle. From a nearby watchtower, a second shaman appeared. This one wielded a bow made of shimmering blue ice, looking very dangerous. Shutra watched in horror as the ice shaman took aim again. This time, he was pointing his arrow directly at Princess Felicia. Felicia, relieved to see him alive, rushed to his side, but Shutra shoved her back, screaming at her not to come closer. She stumbled back, looking at him with wide, confused eyes. She could not understand his sudden and very strange hostile behavior. Shutra ignored her completely, turning his gaze toward the sky. He braced himself for the incoming magical ice arrow attack. He lowered his head, a determined look in his eyes. He had a very specific and very reckless reason for his actions. An eager, almost greedy grin lit up his face. He declared that this powerful magical attack was his for the taking. The shaman's ice arrow struck him dead. Shutra was instantly engulfed in a massive explosion of freezing magical energy. A moment later, his entire body was encased in a thick tomb of ice. He was completely frozen solid by the attack. But inside the ice, he knew his plan had worked. His insane gamble had paid off exactly as he had planned it. Inside the ice, Shutra was momentarily stunned and disoriented. He was unable to process what had just happened to his body. The ice shattered, and he was thrown backward. He collapsed onto the dusty, battle-torn ground, feeling weak and very dizzy. A bright red notification warned him that his health was critically low. He clutched an ice dagger, realizing he was near death. He gritted his teeth, the pain a sharp reminder of his own mortality. He knew he couldn't survive another hit like that. A voice dripping with contempt called him a complete idiot. He looked up to see Felicia standing over him, looking very annoyed. With a blush of embarrassment, she demanded to know who had asked him to save her. Shutra stared, completely baffled by her words. She scolded him, calling him the weakest of their siblings. He realized she had completely misunderstood his very reckless actions and intentions. He stared at her in utter disbelief, his mind reeling. He tried to comprehend her bizarre and very confusing angry reaction. Her attention then shifted to the watchtower where the ice shaman had been. She asked him when he had learned magic. Shutra glanced up and saw the enemy shaman slumped over the railing. He realized Felicia had defeated him while he was frozen. The realization finally hit him with a jolt. She thought he had intentionally taken the arrow to save her from the attack. She looked at him with what seemed like genuine concern. She was still questioning him, but he remained completely speechless and confused. Suddenly she knelt beside him and placed her hand over his wound. A warm green light enveloped her entire hand in magic. The healing magic flowed from her palm into his body. It was a soothing warmth that eased his intense pain almost instantly. The deep, scorched gash from the fire spell began to close. His skin knitted itself back together in a matter of seconds. A notification confirmed he had acquired a new healing skill. His wound vanished completely, much to his complete and utter surprise. Felicia, the genius mage, asked if he was feeling better. He thanked her, then awkwardly tried to correct his strange choice of words. She gave him a suspicious look, but a monstrous roar interrupted them. The sound shook the entire burning enemy encampment around them. A hulking red-skinned ogre appeared, much larger than the others. Shutra stared in horror, asking what that terrifying monster possibly was. Shutra's eyes widened as he recognized the monster from his game memories. He identified it as a powerful and rare blood ogre. Felicia simply confirmed that they had to get past it to escape. They stood together, two small figures before a towering foe. The blood ogre loomed over them, a terrifying sight. Shutra's face was a mask of pure terror, wondering how they could fight it. The monster slammed its fist into the ground with incredible force. The attack sent a shockwave that cracked the earth beneath them. Shutra was shocked by its incredible speed. He yelled in disbelief at how fast the massive creature could possibly move its body. Felicia took charge, ordering Shutra to buy her some time. She needed to prepare a powerful magic spell to defeat it. The blood ogre attacked them again, its fist crashing down. They leaped back, narrowly avoiding being completely crushed by the monster. Shutra agreed to her desperate plan to defeat the monster. He told her to prepare her magic while he got its attention. He screamed for his loyal guard, and Karak instantly appeared. Shutra told him they would use the same plan as before. As he ran, Shutra quickly pulled up his holographic inventory screen. He needed a specific and powerful weapon for this important fight. He selected the powerful dwarven dagger from his inventory. He realized that at level 10 he could finally wield the weapon. With his health low but his resolve high, Shutra held the glowing dagger. It was finally time for him to go on the attack. He plunged the dagger into the ground, and a golden energy erupted. He activated a powerful skill to support his loyal guard. He leaped high into the air, calling out the name of the skill. Below him, Karak was enveloped in the same golden light. Karak's face was a mask of pure determination. His body was now empowered by his young prince's mysterious and powerful magical ability. He let out a ferocious war cry, his eyes blazing with power. He prepared to face the monstrous blood ogre all by himself. The hulking blood ogre stared at the small orc. It was momentarily confused by the sudden surge of power it was sensing. Rock, empowered and completely fearless, charged directly at the towering monster. He closed the distance between them in a single, fast instant. The blood ogre swung its massive fist, but Karak dodged the blow. He leaped over the attack with incredible and impossible agility. The monster roared in pure frustration. Its powerful punch had completely and utterly missed its intended target by a very wide margin. Before the ogre could recover from its missed attack, Karak was already retaliating. He swung his heavy axe in a deadly, powerful arc. The axe connected with a sickening crunch. It smashed directly into the blood ogre's face, causing it immense and surprising pain. The monster staggered back, roaring in pain and absolute fury. It was shocked by the unexpectedly powerful and painful blow it received. With the monster now distracted, Felicia's spell was finally ready. A shimmering pink aura enveloped her as she prepared to attack. She leaped forward, her white hair flowing behind her. She was ready to unleash her powerful and very strange magical spell. She cast her spell, creating a wide patch of slick, magical grease. It appeared directly under the stumbling ogre's massive, clumsy feet. The giant monster's feet slipped out from under it. It had no way to gain traction on the magical slippery surface. It lost its balance completely. Flailing its massive arms, the giant monster crashed backward onto the hard ground with a thud. At that exact moment, Karak leaped high into the air. He was now descending like a meteor onto the fallen monster. His eyes glowing with red-hot fury, Karak roared. He declared that this was the end for the giant piece of shit. He plunged downward, driving his axe with all his empowered might. He aimed it directly for the blood ogre's exposed, vulnerable chest. The monster let out a final gurgling scream of agony. The axe blade tore through its flesh, bone, and finally its heart. The impact was immense, embedding Karak deep into the monster's torso. It shattered the ground beneath them from the sheer powerful force. As the dust finally settled, Shutra calmly walked toward the massive, lifeless body. His loyal guard had defeated the great monster. A weak, triumphant smile touched his lips as he stammered. He knew that the greatest threat had now been finally eliminated. Suddenly, a brilliant golden light began to radiate from his chest. He looked down, surprised by the strange pulsing energy. He watched in confusion as the light enveloped his entire body. A familiar system window appeared right before his very eyes. The notification displayed the words he had been waiting to see. He had finally reached the critical milestone of level 10. A second notification announced that his unique protagonist skill had also leveled up. He felt a powerful new energy flowing through him. A shadow fell across his eyes, and a wide, confident grin spread across his face. He had achieved his crucial goal. A final notification informed him that he had gained a new passive ability. He eagerly wondered what new gift he was about to get. A notification window detailed his new passive skill. It was a subtle but powerful ability that would decrease enemy accuracy against him. Shutra stared at the skill description, a look of dawning realization on his face. He knew exactly what this amazing power was. His mind flashed with images of action movie heroes. They were the kind who could run through a hail of bullets unharmed. A sly, confident smile spread across his face. He now possessed the protagonist plot armor effect as an actual, tangible, real skill. Just then, a furious roar snapped him back to reality. The remaining enemy orcs were now charging directly toward their small group. Felicia, seeing him standing idle, yelled at him to snap out of it. He quickly agreed, his moment of triumph now over. Felicia began to chant, calling upon the spirits of the wind. A powerful cyclone of pink energy erupted, sending the orcs flying. Shutra braced himself against the powerful gale. His cape whipped wildly around him as he watched her amazing power in complete awe. He realized that what he was witnessing wasn't standard magic at all. It was something else, something far more primal and powerful. He then saw the glowing butterflies made of pure energy. He knew instantly that Felicia was commanding a powerful nature spirit to fight. The final piece of the puzzle clicked right into place. Felicia wasn't just a brilliant maid, she was actually a spirit summoner. As he watched her effortlessly command the powerful spirit, a familiar, greedy thought suddenly crossed his very ambitious and reckless mind. A mischievous, calculating grin spread across his face. He wondered if he could get hit by that and learn it too. Before he could act on his reckless impulse, a bright golden flare shot high into the night sky, signaling their army. Rak, seeing the signal, asked what it meant. Shutra explained that a yellow flare was the signal for a strategic retreat. The sudden order to retreat puzzled him deeply. He wondered what was happening and if one of his siblings was in danger. Rak, the ever-loyal soldier, asked for his prince's orders. Shutra told him to take the troops and fall back immediately. He then announced that he was going to find Caitlin himself. Karak was surprised and concerned by his prince's risky decision. Karak immediately protested, offering to go with him. But Shutra was firm, telling him that he must follow the retreat order. Just as Karak was about to argue, Felicia stepped in. She announced that she would be the one to accompany Shutra. She looked at Shutra with a confident smirk. She stated that she wasn't the type to leave a debt unpaid. She added with a cold glint in her eye. She said that she still had some unfinished business with these awful orcs. With the decision made, Karak finally relented. He told them both to be careful, and that he would wait for them. As they made their way through the burning camp, she questioned him. She asked if it was truly necessary to go to Caitlin. She looked at him with a curious, almost teasing expression. She asked if he was that worried about their big sister. Shutra, slightly flustered, replied that of course he was. He silently corrected himself, knowing it was because they were important allies. Felicia watched him, a thoughtful, unreadable expression on her face. She seemed to be processing his very sincere-sounding answer to her. She seemed to accept his answer, though her skepticism lingered. The two of them continued on their path through the burning battlefield. Elsewhere in the camp, a group of elite, red-skinned orc berserkers. They charged through the battlefield, their eyes glowing with pure rage. They were met head-on by Princess Caitlin. She single-handedly held the line against the entire elite enemy squad of berserker warriors. Princess Caitlin was a whirlwind of motion. Her fist glowed with blue aura as she unleashed a barrage of powerful, stunning blows. She stood her ground fearlessly against the tide of enraged enemies. With a powerful roar, she prepared to meet their furious charge. She leaped high into the air, easily dodging a synchronized slash. The two berserkers crashed into each other right beneath her feet. While airborne, she summoned a blade of pure shimmering blue aura. Her expression was one of focused and very intense concentration. She spun like a deadly top, unleashing a 360-degree slash. Her attack cut through the entire enemy squad in a single move. Just as Caitlin was finishing her attack, Shutra and Felicia arrived. They watched from behind the snarling orcs that she was fighting. Felicia smirked, completely unfazed by the enemies around them. Shutra realized his worry for his powerful sister had been completely unnecessary. Caitlin landed gracefully and turned to see them, surprised. She asked Shutra why he hadn't retreated as she had ordered him to. Caitlin looked at him, very confused by his appearance. She was about to question him further about why he was here. But before she could speak, she saw Felicia standing beside him. Her expression changed completely, from confusion to pure, unadulterated shock. Forgetting everything else, Caitlin rushed forward. She threw her arms around Felicia in a tight and very emotional hug of relief. She held her sister close, her eyes squeezed shut with relief. She told Felicia how incredibly glad she was that she was safe. Felicia, caught off guard by the affection, blushed. She awkwardly patted her sister's back, telling her not to worry so much. Shutra watched the heartfelt reunion with a small, knowing smile. He remarked on how close the two of them seemed to be. His attention was then drawn to his minimap. It showed a large group of enemy forces moving back toward their position. Caitlin saw the map and realized the danger. She ordered an immediate retreat, telling Shutra to lead the way to safety. They made their way back to the dwarven portal chamber. The rest of their forces were waiting patiently around the glowing gateway. The three siblings emerged from the portal's light. They stepped back into the safety of the ancient chamber, their mission a success. Caitlin explained to a surprised Felicia that it was Shutra who had found the portal, praising his huge contribution to their victory. While Shutra was speaking with Karak, Felicia watched him from a distance. She wondered when her little brother had changed so much. Just then Prince Chris appeared, his powerful presence silencing the room. He acknowledged their safe return from the dangerous, fiery battlefield. Caitlin called out to him, her voice bright with joy. She was clearly very happy to see her older brother again. She proudly announced that she had brought Felicia back safely. Felicia, however, merely crossed her arms and looked away, still guarded. She turned to face her brother, her tone flat and cold. She acknowledged that it had been a while since they met. The atmosphere in the room grew heavy and very awkward. Chris simply agreed with her, his voice equally devoid of any warmth. As they walked, Chris reported that General Bandal's forces had also won. The awful enemy chieftain had fled the battle in fear. Shutra, under with the name, asked who Yakujan was. Caitlin reminded him that he was the great chieftain of the enemy. Felicia pressed for more details, asking if the chieftain had surrendered. Chris clarified that he had simply run off like a coward. Chris announced their next move the following day. They would strike at another enemy force to prevent them from joining Yakujan. With the military briefing over, Chris turned his cold gaze to Felicia. He asked how she had ended up captured by them. Felicia explained her side of the story. She claimed she was researching ruins nearby and was captured on her way to help. Chris looked at her with a skeptical, piercing gaze. He openly questioned if her convenient and simple story was actually the truth. Felicia met his gaze without flinching, a challenging look in her eyes. She asked if he was accusing her of lying. Chris sighed and turned away, deciding to drop the interrogation. He told her she must be exhausted and that they should rest. He dismissed everyone, telling them all to get some rest. Felicia watched him go, her expression completely unreadable as she remained silent. Later that night, the victorious soldiers all gathered around a roaring fire. The mood in the camp was cheerful and very relaxed. In a quiet cave, Shutra reviewed his new magic skills, looked at the icons, a satisfied smile on his very happy face. He mused that his aura was still his most reliable weapon. Just then, a voice called his name from the cave entrance. He turned to see Felicia standing at the mouth of the cave. She had changed clothes and now asked if she could come inside. Shutra, surprised to see her, asked what she was doing there so late. She stood silently, her eyes hidden in the shadows. She called his name, her tone very serious and strange. Shutra looked back at her, his expression a mixture of confusion and apprehension. Without another word, she closed the distance between them. She then suddenly grabbed the front of his uniform with her hand. Shutra's eyes went wide with pure shock and surprise. He let out a panicked squeak, completely bewildered by her sudden, bold action. She leaned in very close, her expression unreadable. She made a single, shocking request, asking him to take off his clothes. Prince Shutra's brain completely short-circuited, his face turning a lovely shade of tomato as he processed Princess Felicia's very forward request. With terrifying calm, Felicia gently tugged on his shirt, clarifying that she was in fact referring to his clothes and not his dignity. Still flustered beyond belief, Shutra managed to ask the very important question of why on earth she would possibly want him to do that. She looked at him with genuine concern, asking if he had some strange objection to her properly healing the serious injuries he had sustained. The word heal finally registered in his mind, causing his panicked expression to instantly flip to one of slightly embarrassed, wide-eyed understanding. Felicia explained that her earlier magic was just a quick patch-up, the magical equivalent of putting on a small, sparkly bandage. As he sat shirtless before her, she prepared a true healing spell. Shutra privately mourned his wild and apparently incorrect assumptions about her intentions. Felicia then asked about a strange light she saw from him earlier. He quickly dismissed it as a totally normal, occasional glowing problem. Seizing the perfect opportunity, a newly healed Shutra stood up and announced that he had a very important favor to ask of her. Leaning in with a confident grin, he declared that this was a favor only a certified genius mage like herself could possibly grant him. His plan was a brilliant success, as a sudden insight filled his mind, granting him 3 new healing abilities directly from the genius mage. Dressed once more, Shutra stood with a smugly satisfied smile, feeling quite pleased with his clever manipulation of the situation to gain new skills. The scene flashed back to Felicia healing him, a moment he cleverly used to convince her to teach him spells as repayment for his heroism. Later, Shutra began his next lesson with Caitlin, who explained that the powerful beast fist martial art comes in many different, exciting styles. Shutra celebrated internally, thrilled to finally be learning the famous technique. Caitlin informed him he would start with the werewolf signature version. A glowing blue symbol of a fierce werewolf appeared, representing the martial art that was the pride and joy of the lycanthrope people. He realized this specific style was the foundation for an even greater technique, a clever first step on his path to becoming ridiculously strong. Caitlin held a ball of glowing energy, explaining they would start by learning to control his internal aura. Shutra eagerly prepared to begin. He closed his eyes to focus, and a powerful blue aura immediately erupted around him, proving he was a natural at looking cool. Shutra focused all of his concentration on the swirling power within him, feeling the very essence of his own formidable life force. A diagram showed how aura, the power of life, flows through the body and becomes the very power of the soul when mastered. With a new, deeper understanding of his own energy, he clenched his fist with intense determination, ready to master this power completely. Suddenly, a brilliant golden light filled his vision, signifying a major breakthrough in his personal development and overall awesomeness. He was suddenly aware of a new passive skill had acquired, something called the protagonist's physique. He found this development understandably surprising. He learned the new skill would dramatically boost his training speed, and would unlock even more special traits as it grew stronger over time. Shutra's eyes widened in shock as he realized he had just stumbled upon another ridiculously overpowered skill, which was becoming a happy habit. He mentally compared his new ability to those of other legendary figures, realizing it was on par with the skills of his future arch-nemesis. The fact that the skill would unlock new functions as it leveled up meant it was a system designed for continuous, incredible growth. A wicked grin spread across his face as the immense potential of being the story's main character truly began to sink in. He clenched his fists, reveling in the awesome feeling of his newfound power, only to be interrupted by someone calling his name. Caitlin's sharp voice snapped him out of his power fantasy, telling him to get his head out of the clouds. He quickly apologized. Standing apart in the cavern, Caitlin announced their real training was about to begin. Shutra confirmed he was absolutely ready for more power-ups. In an instant, his fists were wreathed in crackling white energy, and he understood that he had already acquired the Beast Fist skill. Caitlin looked on, genuinely impressed by how quickly he had mastered the basics. Shutra just tried to look cool and not too surprised. He stared at his own glowing hands, realizing with a thrill that they now felt less like hands and more like deadly weapons. Just as Caitlin was about to teach the next technique, a soldier rushed into the cave, frantically calling for the princess with urgent news. The soldier declared an emergency, and the training session came to an abrupt end as both Shutra and Caitlin turned with serious expressions. In the War Council tent, a grim Prince Chris delivered the terrible news that the enemy's entire troop contingent had completely and mysteriously vanished. Gathered around the map, Caitlin, Felicia, and Shutra all reacted with collective shock, unable to believe the enemy had just disappeared into thin air. Chris correctly guessed that their plan had been discovered by that cunning bastard Kairam. A worried Caitlin asked what they should do now. Pointing to the map, Chris relayed new intelligence, showing the likely spot where their enemies were planning to regroup and cause more trouble. Shutra studied the map's terrain and agreed with his brother-in-law's assessment, confirming it was a very logical and therefore dangerous meeting point. With grim determination, Chris announced their new strategy. They would immediately go and join forces with the powerful General Vandal and his army. He declared their intention to wage an all-out war, joining their main subjugation force to crush the Red Thunder tribe once and for all. Upon arriving at the massive army camp, the group was greeted by the formidable red-skinned orc commander General Vandal, who welcomed Prince Chris. Chris returned the greeting with a friendly smile, showing the deep respect and history between the two powerful and incredibly muscular military leaders. After Vandal assured Chris that his men were safe, Shutra quietly watched the leaders interact, already plotting his next move as usual. A small, knowing smile appeared on Shutra's face as he observed the orc general he knew so well from his past life. He remembered that General Vandal was one of his favorite characters to use in the game, making his stern face feel oddly familiar. Stepping forward with the confidence of someone who knows all the cheat codes, Shutra formally introduced himself to the towering orc general. General Vandal looked down at the small prince, his expression unreadable as he took a moment to size up this unexpected new arrival. The huge orc general extended his hand and gave Shutra a firm, welcoming handshake, officially accepting the ninth prince into their ranks. Suddenly, a brilliant holy light filled Shutra's vision, and a mysterious woman with long white hair descended from the heavens with immense power. The woman's face was revealed, showing a royal circlet and striking mismatched eyes, one red and one blue, which was an interesting fashion choice. From her position of power, she looked down upon another formidable figure, this one completely engulfed in a swirling inferno of fire. The second figure was a fierce female warrior, clad in ornate red armor, her entire body wreathed in the raging, beautifully animated flames. The two powerful women locked eyes, an unspoken challenge passing between the holy figure with the cool eyes and the warrior on fire. The fiery warrior's own piercing blue eyes glowed intensely from behind her mask, promising a truly epic and probably very expensive magical battle. The perspective shifted to show poor Shutra standing directly between the two, caught in the middle of their incredibly dramatic and visually stunning standoff. A single bead of sweat dripped down his cheek. He was completely overwhelmed, realizing he was a spectator in a very dangerous disagreement. The vision ended with two glowing symbols hanging in space, one representing sword-like conquest, and the other representing shield-like war. Shutra jolted awake in his tent, the morning light streaming in as the intense and confusing vision of the two women began to fade. He stared into space, completely dazed and trying to make sense of what he saw, wondering if it was all just a bizarre dream. The image of the woman with mismatched eyes lingered in his mind. He was certain he had seen her in a dream before. But the identity of the mysterious fiery warrior in red armor remained a complete and very concerning mystery to him. Karak pulled back the tent flap, telling the prince it was time to move out. Shutra agreed, shaking off the strange dream. Shutra walked alongside his loyal guard through the bustling military camp as the massive army prepared to march out for the upcoming battle. The entire camp was a scene of organized chaos, with orc soldiers carrying supplies under yellow banners ready to go to war. As they marched toward the battlefield, Shutra's expression grew serious, his mind focused on his assigned position on the left flank. A strategic map showed the army's formation, with Vandal in the center, the royal siblings on the right, and Felicia's unit guarding the rear. Time passed as the great army marched onward, the sky shifting to a fiery, ominous red that perfectly matched the mood for imminent battle. Before he knew it, he was standing in the middle of a vast battlefield, a nervous smile on his face at the sheer scale. He was just a small figure in a sea of thousands of allied orc and lycanthrope warriors, which was both inspiring and incredibly intimidating. At the head of the army, the mighty General Vandal raised his voice, ordering his thousands of troops into their final combat formations. Vandal's face was a mask of pure fury as he promised to teach the enemy bastards a painful lesson they would not soon forget. With a final, thunderous roar, he raised his axe and commanded the entire army to advance, their battle cries shaking the very earth. Across the field, the enemy Red Thunder tribe charged forward to meet them, a red wave of destruction ready for a glorious clash. The enemy chieftain, a massive orc with a cruel grin, let out a deep, wicked laugh, far too confident in his coming victory. Without warning, massive explosions suddenly ripped through the front lines of Vandal's charging army, sending soldiers flying through the air. The enemy chieftain's confident laughter died in his throat, replaced by a look of complete shock as he tried to understand the chaos. General Vandal himself was brought to a sudden halt, his expression one of pure surprise as his grand charge was thrown into disarray. In the distance, a colossal beast with massive tusks and glowing red eyes emerged from the dust, a terrifying and unexpected swamp mammoth. Vandal's eyes widened in horror and disbelief. He instantly recognized the ancient monster, his voice filled with pure dread at the sight. More bright, fiery explosions detonated across the battlefield, a clear sign that this was not just a one-mammoth problem. The view panned out to show dozens of these explosions tearing through the Allied army, creating widespread chaos and devastating destruction. The powerful blasts ripped through the ranks of the soldiers, their force completely and utterly unstoppable. The ground itself shattered as the deadly bombardment from the hidden enemy continued to rain down upon the Allied forces. Shutra and his personal guard, led by the formidable Karak, managed to stand firm amidst the fire and chaos of the initial deadly onslaught. A look of pure shock and dawning horror spread across Shutra's face as he realized they had been completely and utterly tricked. The full, terrible truth was revealed: multiple swamp mammoths were bombarding their army. Those bastards had led them straight into a deadly ambush. A terrifying close-up of the swamp mammoth revealed its immense, dark form, a true force of nature far beyond any normal creature. This beast was a genuine monster. Below, poor Shutra was blown back by a shockwave, a tiny figure before an overwhelming threat. As if giant, long-range artillery mammoths weren't bad enough, the ground was suddenly trampled by a new set of clawed reptilian feet. An army of fierce, muscular lizardmen armed with glowing red blades emerged from the dust, joining the already very one-sided ambush. The Allied orcs were caught completely off guard as the lizardmen surged from the flanks, cutting into their already confused and battered ranks. The battlefield erupted into a bloody, chaotic melee as the lizardmen tore into the orcish soldiers with brutal, terrifying efficiency. A ferocious lizardman warrior leaped directly at a stunned Shutra, its claws outstretched and its jaws wide open for the kill. Just in the nick of time, one of Shutra's loyal orc guards intercepted the attack, bravely taking the deadly blow meant for him. Karak roared at the still-shocked Shutra, telling him to snap out of it because a single mistake here would get them all killed. Karak's shout jolted Shutra back to reality. He quickly agreed, the grim thought occurring that this was not a game with second chances. On the right flank, a furious Prince Chris fought with desperate intensity, tearing through the enemy orcs that swarmed him from all sides. His face was twisted in a snarl of frustration as he realized they had been toyed with. Caitlin urgently called out to him. She advised that their best and only option was to retreat now and look for another chance to fight. Chris was shocked. Caitlin desperately explained that if they stayed, they risked total annihilation, as their casualty count was rising with every passing, bloody second. She pressed him to make a decision, insisting that now was the time to retreat. Chris grimly weighed his pride against his soldiers' lives. The surviving soldiers looked on in fear and anticipation, waiting for their commander to give the final, difficult order. Chris' voice boomed across the battlefield, ordering a tactical retreat while the mages bought them as much time as they possibly could. His face was a mask of desperation as he gave his final, most important commands: survive and return home no matter what. Later, the battered remnants of the army found refuge in a desolate canyon, their small, somber camp a testament to their defeat. Healers tended to the many wounded soldiers, their green magic glowing softly in the dim, heavy atmosphere of loss and demoralization. Inside the command tent, Chris admitted that he had been too complacent and should have been far more suspicious of the enemy's movements. General Vandal told him to move on, laying out their only two options: a full retreat or a desperate request for reinforcements. Chris looked down, pained, admitting he couldn't drag his soldiers to their deaths just for the sake of his own vainglory. Just as he was about to make the call, Felicia stepped forward, announcing that she had a desperate, last-ditch idea. She reminded them that she had originally come to this region to explore some ancient ruins located at the edge of the mountains. Shutra immediately recalled from his gained knowledge that Felicia's true talents lay not in combat, but in research and ruin exploration. With a flourish, Felicia unrolled a large, detailed map of the surrounding area across the main table for all the leaders to see. She explained her long-term research into a 500-year-old ruin, hidden in these mountains, the legendary lair of the earth dragon Enkidu. An image of a massive, powerful dragon with a molten core appeared. As she explained, the beast employed guardians to protect its treasures. She continued, stating that the local dwarves were among these guardians, commanded by the dragon to create powerful weapons to defend the lair. Felicia named the legendary weapon they had forged the thunder-birthing anvil, a tool capable of casting magic on an army-wide scale. With fierce determination, she declared that if they wanted any chance of winning this war, finding that powerful anvil was their only hope. Vandal asked if she knew the anvil's exact location. She admitted that finding it was her original mission here in the first place. Chris looked away with a disappointed sigh, stating that her vague plan wasn't particularly helpful without a precise location to search. He argued that he couldn't risk his soldiers' lives on a dangerous and uncertain treasure hunt while the enemy was still so close. Felicia glared at her brother, her frustration boiling over at his complete dismissal of her carefully researched, albeit slightly crazy, plan. Just as the argument escalated, Shutra stepped forward, confidently stating that the anvil was definitely here and he could find it. He explained that he remembered a story about the anvil from his studies of the ancient dwarven language, a convenient and timely recollection. Looking at Chris with a steady gaze, he added that, more importantly, he had complete and total trust in Felicia's research. Felicia turned to look at him, her expression softening with genuine surprise and a hint of gratitude at his unexpected support. As they stood together, Shutra privately thought this was a perfect opportunity to get on her good side for future strategic gains. Chris dismissed his argument, but Shutra internally grumbled about how incredibly stubborn and uncooperative his brother-in-law was being. Pointing to the map, Shutra quickly invented a story about a similar Gandharva legend to add weight to his very convincing bluff. He confidently declared that the entrance must be nearby, and that he was certain he could find it with a little searching. He made a bold promise, stating he would take full responsibility if he failed. He had decided it was time to go all in. The scene shifted to the night sky, where the group flew onward aboard glowing, ethereal horses summoned by the powerful Princess Felicia. The entire party, now clad in cloaks for dramatic effect, rode their magical mounts through the air toward the distant Jishika Mountains. Riding his steed, Shutra celebrated his successful persuasion. Now he just had to figure out the small detail of actually finding the entrance. Iraq warned him to hold on tight, but Shutra internally scoffed, remembering he rode these things all the time in his past life. With intense focus, Shutra summoned his glowing mini-map, a personal navigation system that was definitely not standard issue for royal princes. He glanced at the map, which clearly showed their position. He knew that finding the ruins now would not be a problem at all. The real challenge was figuring out how to guide the others to the entrance without revealing his secret, game-like navigation abilities. He closed his eyes and concentrated, trying to come up with a believable excuse that didn't involve admitting he had a magic map. As they flew, he remembered he had about an hour to figure out a convincing plan, which was plenty of time for a genius. An idea struck him: a ridiculous, technical-sounding explanation about matching portal tunnel maps with the local terrain to find the anvil's location. Karak and Caitlin turned to stare at him, completely silent and bewildered. Shutra nervously wondered if they actually bought his absurd explanation. The others muttered in confusion. Shutra, sweating, thought had blown it, but Chris just impatiently told him to lead the way. To his shock, Felicia spoke up, saying she understood his nonsense explanation perfectly, and told him to lead on, saving his bluff. Shutra was amazed that his completely made UP story was plausible to a genius mage. Hiding his surprise, he confidently told everyone to follow. As they flew onward, Felicia watched him with a thoughtful, slightly suspicious expression, clearly wondering what his deal was. After they landed, Karak looked around skeptically, stating that they had followed the prince all this way to a very unpromising location. The group stood before a massive, sheer rock wall, a complete and total dead end with no obvious path forward. Karak questioned if this was the right place, since it didn't look like an entrance. Shutra just let out a confident, mysterious chuckle. He cryptically asked who said anything about finding an entrance, a statement which only served to leave his loyal guard utterly confused. Shutra then turned to Caitlin, asking if she would be so kind as to break through the solid rock wall for them. Though hesitant, Caitlin agreed to give it her best shot. Felicia watched them, a look of realization dawning on her face. Felicia voiced her suspicion, asking if he meant the legendary anvil was hidden deep inside the cliff itself, which was a wild theory. With a sly grin, Shutra continued his bluff, explaining that his calculations showed this route would bypass all the dungeon's dangerous guardians. Felicia immediately scolded him, calling him an idiot for thinking Caitlin could smash through solid rock with just her bare fists. She sarcastically asked if he thought her sister was some kind of living siege weapon. A flustered Shutra asked how else they'd get through. A brilliant blue energy began to swirl in Felicia's hands as she prepared to solve the problem with her usual, explosive grace. With a wicked grin, she explained that ruin explorers were also masters of demolition, a very useful and intimidating secondary skill set. She unleashed a massive, concentrated blast of energy, launching it directly at the cliff face with the intent to make a new door. The spell impacted the wall with tremendous force, sending deep cracks spiderwebbing across the ancient, solid stone. A huge explosion tore through the cliff, blowing a massive, gaping hole and revealing a dark, previously hidden passage leading deep inside. The group stood in the newly formed entrance, dust and rubble settling around them as they stared into the mysterious, ancient ruins. Felicia stared in utter disbelief, a bead of sweat on her face as she struggled to accept that his ridiculous plan actually worked. Looking into the ancient chamber, she turned to Shutra, stunned that his nonsensical bluff had somehow led them to the exact right place. Inside, Karak pointed to a large, sealed dome, asking if the anvil was inside. Shutra confirmed it was the final, very dramatic safeguard. Karak suggested they just smash it open, but Shutra immediately stopped him, warning that they could accidentally damage the very important artifact inside. Felicia studied the dome, concluding there had to be a specific, non-smashing puzzle or mechanism to open it safely and with style. She turned her attention away from the dome and scanned the surrounding hall, her keen eyes searching for any clues to the puzzle. Her eyes landed on a series of large, armored statues, noting that of the 9 total, 6 were conspicuously missing their weapons. Caitlin caught on, asking if they were supposed to arm the remaining statues. Felicia, however, doubted the solution was quite that simple. Felicia identified the weapons as dwarven-made, deducing they needed 6 more. Caitlin wondered where they would find 6 dwarven swords. As if on cue, Shutra cheerfully spoke up, holding a bundle of exactly 6 dwarven swords he just happened to have with him. Shutra mentally praised his own foresight, remembering he had saved these useless swords from a past adventure. He called it total luck. He casually explained he had picked them up just in case. Karak questioned when he did that, and how they fit in his bag. Flustered, Shutra complained about sharp-witted orcs. He then groaned about how heavy the swords were, until Karak took them from him. Karak placed a sword into the hands of an empty statue, and a soft mechanical click echoed, signaling the puzzle was working. As the final sword was placed, a heavy grinding sound echoed, and the ancient mechanism of the 9 armed statues began to stir. The stone eyes of the statues flashed with a brilliant blue light, a clear and slightly spooky sign that they had been activated. A powerful wave of energy burst from the central dome, and the final safeguard finally began to unlock before their very eyes. The heavy stone panels of the dome retracted into the floor. Karak shouted with excitement that the dome was finally opening. The party gathered around the opening, their faces illuminated by the intense blue glow, their expressions filled with awe and anticipation. Shutra stared, completely mesmerized by the sight of the legendary artifact, the object of their entire, very dangerous quest. There, floating in the center of a glowing pedestal, was the fabled anvil that births thunder, an artifact of truly immense power. Just as they were about to celebrate, Felicia stopped them, explaining her research indicated a final, dangerous procedure was needed for activation. She began giving orders, positioning everyone at key points around the circular disc to prepare for the complex magical ritual. Felicia laid out the plan. They would all infuse mana into the disc, moving clockwise and steadily increasing their power output. The party stood in formation around the anvil, ready to begin the delicate and probably very dangerous activation ritual. With a determined cry, Felicia told everyone to begin, unleashing a powerful torrent of lightning from her hands to start the process. One by one, the others joined in, pouring their own mana into the disc until arcs of raw magical energy connected them all. As the energy became unstable, Felicia shouted at Shutra to increase his mana output to stabilize the flow. He immediately complied. She encouraged him to keep the power level steady, warning everyone not to let their guard down for a single critical moment. The two of them poured an immense amount of energy into the anvil, the crackling lightning around them intensifying to a deafening roar. The anvil absorbed the raw power, glowing brighter and brighter as it neared full and probably explosive activation. Shutra gritted his teeth, pushing his mana to its absolute limit as the electrical energy swirling around him became almost overwhelming. His face was a mask of pure concentration and strain as he poured every last drop of his considerable power into the ritual. Suddenly, a massive, uncontrolled bolt of lightning struck down from the cavern ceiling, a very bad sign that something had gone terribly wrong. The world dissolved into a flash. When Shutra could see again, he was standing alone in a dusty, red-hued and unfamiliar cavern. He looked around in horror at his new surroundings, a battlefield littered with the bodies of countless fallen dwarven warriors. A massive, clawed foot slammed into the ground nearby, shaking the earth and announcing the arrival of something very large and very angry. Shutra took in the full, horrifying scene of the complete and utter slaughter that had taken place in this cavern long ago. He stammered, trying to understand what he was seeing, as a deep, ancient voice echoed, addressing its loyal and very dead retainers. He heard a sound from high above and looked up, his heart pounding with a new and very profound sense of dread. He was no longer alone. The dead dwarven warriors were now standing, alive once more and staring up at the sky in terror. His eyes widened as he saw what they saw, a monstrous winged shape descending from the darkness of the cavern ceiling. A massive, terrifying dragon with glowing red eyes swooped down toward them, its silhouette blotting out the fiery, ominous sky. The legendary earth dragon Enkidu let out a deafening roar, commanding its guardians to protect its nest from all intruders, including him. In the fiery vision, Shutra stared defiantly at the dragon as its ancient voice spoke of a gatekeeper between the mortal realms. The monstrous face of the lava dragon filled his vision, its voice booming as it commanded its guardians to stand and fight. Shutra's consciousness was thrown back into his own body, and he collapsed onto the cold stone floor, completely drained from the ordeal. He gasped for air, his eyes wide with lingering terror from the vision that felt far too real for his comfort. The image of the massive black dragon was burned into his mind. He shakily confirmed that it was the legendary earth dragon Enkidu. He looked up to see Felicia asking him if he had also seen the very vivid and frankly terrifying draconic history lesson. She walked toward him, describing the exact same giant black dragon with veins of flowing lava that he had just seen. Shutra was shocked to hear Kara confirm he also saw the dragon, realizing with a jolt that they had all shared the vision. Felicia agreed, though she admitted she had absolutely no idea what the shared vision was supposed to mean for their immediate future. She turned away, her expression troubled as she tried to understand the purpose behind the anvil's strange and violent psychic message. Her gaze fell upon the now activated anvil. She concluded that whatever the vision meant, the answers must lie in using the forge. She stepped up to the anvil, its surface still crackling ominously with leftover blue energy from their intense ritual. As she cautiously reached for the anvil, a strange, dark liquid began to seep from the ancient metal, like it was bleeding shadows. The dark liquid rapidly multiplied before a violent explosion of dark purple energy erupted from the anvil, engulfing a shocked Felicia. Felicia was thrown back, caught in a swirling vortex of chaotic, shadowy power that seemed to have a very bad attitude. She gritted her teeth, her face contorted in agony as the dark energy tore at her, a truly terrible price for touching. Trapped in the vortex, Felicia was in agony. A horrified Shutra cried out, screaming for his sister as she was consumed by the power. Seeing her in immense pain, Shutra desperately reached out, trying to stop the overwhelming flow of dark, malevolent energy. As his hand entered the vortex, the dark energy immediately latched onto him as well, pulling him into the chaotic purple storm. A massive column of violent energy erupted from the anvil, with both Shutra and Felicia trapped screaming at its very center. Caitlin and Karak cried out in terror, completely helpless as they watched their friends being consumed by the anvil's malevolent power. Shutra screamed in agony as the dark, shadowy tendrils of energy tore at him from all sides in the violent vortex. In the void, a voice explained this was Enkidu's trial for all uninvited guests who dared to seek the power of conquest. The voice defined conquest as the act of ruling. Just as the purple energy intensified and gathered around the anvil with explosive force, the blast subsided, leaving Caitlin and Karak standing in a chamber now filled with swirling shadows and a distinct lack of princes. A mysterious, pulsating crystal heart, wrapped in dark energy, now lay on the floor where Shutra and Felicia had just been standing. A figure knelt before the heart, reaching out as a dark, twisted weapon began to materialize from the shadows around the crystal. The figure was revealed to be Shutra, now with black streaked hair and a pulsating energy over his eye. He looked terrifyingly different. The scene shifted far away, back to the desolate canyon where the battered remnants of the Allied army were still camped. High above the camp on a cliff edge, a lone, mysterious figure appeared, silhouetted against the night sky as they watched the soldiers. The figure was a red-skinned orc scout, peering through a spike from the clifftop to get a good look at the camp below. He saw the unsuspecting soldiers gathered around their fires and sneered, thinking them absolute fools for believing they could hide from his army. The scout knelt before his imposing leader, asking if they should launch an immediate and devastating surprise strike on the camp. The leader was revealed to be the great chief of the Red Thunder tribe, Yakuzan, a ruthless and intimidating warlord. A cruel smile played on that fucking monster Yakuzan's lips as he considered the delightful prospect of slaughtering the weakened army below. Standing before his massive army and their swamp mammoths, he gave the order to go and clean up the remaining pathetic stragglers. Down in the camp, the allied soldiers were completely unaware of the doom that was about to rain down upon them from above. 2 orc guards on patrol suddenly looked up, alerted by a strange whistling sound coming from the sky directly above their heads. A massive fireball, a projectile launched from the swamp mammoths, hurtled down towards the very heart of their unsuspecting and vulnerable camp. The camp erupted in a devastating explosion, sending bodies and debris flying as the surprise attack threw everything into catastrophic chaos. The soldiers were engulfed in the fiery blast, their defenses completely and utterly useless against the relentless long-range bombardment. The Red Thunder Tribe army, led by their terrifying mammoths, charged into the burning, chaotic remains of the now decimated camp. The enemy warriors roared with bloodlust, their faces twisted into savage grins, as they prepared to slaughter any and all survivors. In the midst of the chaos, Prince Chris fought for his life, desperately trying to hold off 2 enemy soldiers at once. His face was a mask of desperation and rage as he cursed the fact that his sisters, his strongest warriors, were not there. From his high vantage point, Yakuzan watched the fiery destruction of the camp with a look of immense and villainous satisfaction. He let out a deep, cruel laugh, mocking the foolish demons for ever thinking they could win a fight against his superior forces. He turned to his mages and ordered them to hurry up and finish off the rest of the survivors with their powerful magic. As one of the mages gathered his power, a strange, dark, purple energy suddenly enveloped his hand, stopping him in his tracks. He stared at his hand in confusion and terror, questioning why he could suddenly no longer move it or cast his spell. Down on the battlefield, one of the charging swamp mammoths reared up, its entire body now glowing with the same malevolent purple energy. The mammoth's eye flashed with a blindingly bright, corrupted purple light. It had clearly been taken over by a new, unknown power. The Red Thunder Tribe warriors looked up at their own warbeast in shock. Confused as to why it was acting so strangely, the corrupted mammoth then turned on its former masters, unleashing a devastating blast of energy that ripped through the charging orcs. Yakuzan watched from the clifftop, his smug expression instantly replaced with utter shock as his ultimate weapon turned against his own army. He roared in a rage, demanding to know what was happening and why the mammoths were suddenly attacking his own soldiers. On the battlefield, Chris watched in amazement as the mammoths rampaged through the enemy. His soldiers began to cheer their good fortune. Chris stared in disbelief, unable to comprehend the sudden turn of events, when a new figure suddenly appeared before him in the chaos. He saw a young boy holding a menacing dark weapon pulsing with purple mana, and a shocking realization began to dawn on him. The figure became clear it was a transformed Shutra, wielding the anvil's power. Chris asked in astonishment if they had actually found it. Back in the ruins, Shutra knelt, his transformed body crackling with dark purple energy as he gripped the newly forged shadow weapon. He lifted the weapon, a heavy hammer of pure chaotic energy, and wondered how this was even possible. A voice explained that he held the Thunderhammer, the legendary weapon that served as the counterpart to the powerful anvil. He looked up to see a recovered Felicia, supported by Sira, who told him it seemed the ancient dragon Enkidu had chosen him. Shutra looked back at them, completely stunned by the idea that he had been chosen by such a powerful and mythic entity. Felicia, now standing with the others, told him not to just stand there gawking, but to use the incredible power had been given. Shutra looked down at the hammer with new resolve, gripping it tightly as purple lightning flared around his determined hand. He realized the vision wasn't an attack, but a lesson. The raw mana of Enkidu had taught him how to use this weapon. His mind flashed back to the vision's core message. The power of conquest was the power to subjugate, rule, and utterly dominate. He now understood this was the true method for using the anvil, not just to forge, but to command and control its guardians. A wicked, confident grin spread across his face as he decided his first act would be to dominate the rampaging swamp mammoths. In the ruins, Shutra raised the Thunderhammer, unleashing a massive column of purple light that projected his will across the battlefield. On the battlefield, the swamp mammoths, now completely under his control, reared up with glowing purple eyes, ready to obey their new master. The controlled mammoths unleashed a devastating barrage of explosions, not on the allied army, but on their former masters. The enemy orcs screamed in terror as their own ultimate weapons turned on them, tearing their ranks apart with fiery, unstoppable blasts. 2 enemy warriors were caught in a massive explosion, completely helpless against the overwhelming power of the now controlled warbeast. General Vandal watched the chaos unfold from the front lines, his expression shifting from shock to a dawning, impressed realization. Vandal's second-in-command witnessed the incredible turn of events and correctly concluded that the prince and princess must have succeeded in their mission. Seizing the golden opportunity, General Vandal roared to his troops, ordering them to charge and kill every last enemy while they were confused. Vandal's forces, their morale now soaring, clashed with the panicked and disorganized enemy soldiers in a decisive counterattack. An allied orc soldier easily cut down a red-skinned enemy warrior, showing that the tide of the battle had completely and decisively turned. From his cliff-top perch, Yakuzan watched his army being decimated by his own weapons, his expression one of pure disbelief and impotent rage. He screamed at his subordinate, demanding to know what was happening. The terrified soldier had no answers, only fearful questions of his own. The subordinate advised a tactical retreat, but Yakuzan reacted with fury, enraged at the very suggestion of running away from the battle. Before he could argue, a massive explosion erupted right beside them on the clifftop, heralding the arrival of a new challenger. Prince Chris landed before them, his body radiating power, having leaped up the entire cliff face to confront the enemy leader directly. Chris looked at the stunned orc chieftain with cold fury, informing the monster that his reign of terror was officially at an end. That cowardly bastard Yakuzan, now filled with desperation, offered a quick death if Chris surrendered, a truly laughable threat at this point. Yakuzan roared that he would tear Chris apart and raised his massive axe for a final, desperate, and ultimately futile attack. Chris' eyes glowed with brilliant blue light. He was completely calm and focused, ready to end this battle once and for all. With a roar, Chris unleashed his powerful beast fist, a whirlwind of slashing energy strikes that completely overwhelmed Yakuzan's clumsy defenses. The final, decisive blow landed, and Yakuzan's decapitated head hit the ground with a heavy, satisfying thud. The battle was officially over. Yakuzan's remaining soldiers saw their chieftain fall and immediately broke ranks, fleeing in terror. Chris stood victorious over the remains of his foe. Chris wiped the blood from his hand, breathing heavily but satisfied. He noted that now all that remained was to clean up the leftovers. He looked over his shoulder, admitting to himself that his forces would have been in real trouble without Shutra and Felicia's timely intervention. Chris looked up at the sky, a thoughtful and slightly worried expression on his face as he thought about his younger siblings. He wondered if they were okay after wielding such immense and dangerous power. Back in the ruins, a magical screen showed the victory. Iraq stared at the screen, confirming it was a real-time view. A pale Felicia explained the anvil could control all of the guardians. Sira supported the exhausted Felicia, who struggled to speak but managed to say that because of the anvil, the enemy was. She couldn't finish her sentence, her body trembling with exhaustion, as she whispered that the Red Thunder tribe was completely defeated. Felicia's strength finally gave out, and she collapsed into unconsciousness. Sarah caught her just in time, preventing her from falling. Caitlin rushed to her side, frantic with worry. A barely conscious Felicia reassured them that she would be fine after a short rest. As the group decided to find a place for Felicia to rest, they suddenly realized that someone very important was missing from their party. The chamber was empty except for their small group. Shutra, the hero of the hour, was nowhere to be found. Elsewhere, in a peaceful forest, Shutra sighed in relief. Suddenly, 3 golden notification windows popped up, announcing he had leveled up. He looked at the notifications in surprise, correctly guessing he had gained a ton of experience for controlling Enkita's powerful artifact. Another notification appeared, stating his conquest skill had leveled up. He stared at it, curious about this new and interesting development. He opened his skill menu, discovering his conquest skill had also leveled up his King's Banner ability and granted a new summoning skill. He smiled to himself, realizing with delight that his main skill automatically leveled up his other abilities, which was a fantastic feature. He examined the new King's Knight's skill, guessing from its name that it was likely some kind of very cool summoning ability. His thoughts were interrupted as a familiar voice called out his alias, Stratus, from nearby in the quiet, peaceful forest. He turned to see a very worried-looking Caitlin running towards him through the trees, clearly having been searching for him for a while. Shutra scratched the back of his head sheepishly, the thought occurring that he had probably worried everyone by disappearing without a word. He started to apologize for his sudden absence, but before he could finish, Caitlin's fist came down hard on top of his head. She angrily scolded him for disappearing without a word in such a dangerous place. He could only squeak out a pained, muffled apology. After letting him go, she softened, saying they had to camp for the night. Shutra asked why they weren't leaving immediately. Caitlin's expression turned serious as she explained that, while returning was the original plan, they now had a bit of a problem. Shutra looked at her, concerned by her tone, and asked what sort of problem could have possibly come up after their victory. The scene shifted to a dimly lit room, where Felicia lay unconscious. Caitlin explained that her sister had completely lost consciousness. The shot widened to show healers tending to Felicia. Caitlin explained that she had clearly pushed herself far too hard during the battle. Standing beside Shutra, Caitlin explained that while Felicia said she'd be fine, they had no idea when she would actually regain consciousness. Caitlin gave a wry smile, adding that without her sister, they couldn't summon their magical flying horses, so they were officially stranded here. Shutra nodded in understanding, his expression filled with genuine concern as he hoped that Princess Felicia would be okay after her ordeal. The scene transitioned to the quiet of night, showing the dark, misty mountains under a beautiful starry sky as the group rested. Later that night, the others were exhausted and asleep. Only Shutra remained wide awake, sitting alone and keeping watch in the silent ruins. He sat against a pillar with his arms crossed, looking incredibly bored and restless as he waited for morning to finally arrive. A thought crossed his mind. Thanks to his multiple-level UPS, his health and stamina had fully recovered, which explained his current restlessness. He sighed, wondering if he really had to just sit around and wait like this until morning, which sounded terribly boring. Suddenly, an idea sparked in his mind, his eyes widening with a renewed sense of energy and a healthy dose of mischief. He remembered that he was in an ancient ruin, and such places were always filled with hidden weapons and fabulous treasures. He also considered the downside dungeons like this were always protected by various traps and powerful shadowy guardians with glowing red eyes. He glanced down at the dark, powerful thunderhammer resting on his lap, the key to his brilliant and reckless new plan. A mischievous idea formed in his head. The guardians were for intruders, but what if he was now the official ruler of the ruin? He recalled the key limitation of his new power. The anvil and hammer's true strength could only be used within this specific ruin. A wicked grin spread across his face. He realized that inside this dungeon his power was absolute. He had a free pass. With a new plan in mind, he walked over to the loudly snoring Karak, who was completely oblivious to the impending adventure. He knelt down and gently tried to wake his loyal protector, who groggily and quite loudly stirred from his very deep sleep. With a sly smile, Shutra told the sleepy orc to get up and come somewhere with him, because adventure waits for no one. The two ventured deeper into the ruins, their path lit by the ancient, flickering torches that lined the cold stone walls. Karak followed nervously, but Shutra brushed off his concerns, reminding him that as the ruler of the ruins, there was nothing to worry about. Shutra pushed open a massive stone door, enticing his hesitant guard by reminding him that a ruin like this must contain decent weapons. But as the door swung open, Karak let out a sudden, terrified gasp at the sight that HH greeted them inside the chamber. He stammered a warning to the prince about a huge monster inside. Before them lay the defeated form of a massive, winged golem. Shutra calmly identified the creature as an arc golem, telling Karak to just think of it as an incredibly strong but currently deactivated guy. Karak broke into a cold sweat, realizing this guardian would have killed them. Shutra told him to stop being so pessimistic. Karak defensively shouted that he was not a coward, just cautious. Shutra just laughed at his loyal and very loud protector. They walked past the deactivated golem and found another large, arched doorway at the far end of the quiet, dusty chamber. Karak pushed the door open and shouted with pure, unadulterated joy. He had discovered a treasure vault overflowing with gold and equipment. He excitedly held up a gleaming golden breastplate, exclaiming that it looked like some very high-quality and expensive armor. Shutra's eye glowed as he appraised the item, confirming that he could feel a subtle magical power emanating from the excellent armor. Karak's eyes went wide with pure joy and disbelief as Shutra casually offered him the incredible set of magical armor. Shutra explained the armor was far too big for him anyway. In the background, a proud Karak admired his fantastic new gear. As Karak celebrated, Shutra's attention was drawn to a small, ornate chest on a table, surrounded by a few scattered gold coins. He picked up an ancient gold coin, admiring the dragon emblem, before deciding to start gathering useful items for his personal inventory. While looking through the shelves, he generously told Karak to take anything else that he thought might be valuable or particularly shiny. His eyes landed on another large, sturdy-looking treasure chest in the corner, and his natural curiosity was immediately piqued by it. He knelt down and reached for the large chest, wondering what secrets and treasures it might hold for him to discover. Before he could open it, a loud mechanical sound ground from the wall beside him, and he whipped his head around, startled. He watched in shock as a section of the wall slid away, revealing a hidden door emitting an ominous purple glow. He stared into the darkness, realizing with a thrill that he had just discovered a secret space hidden within the treasure vault. A huge, excited grin spread across his face, his eyes sparkling with anticipation as he sensed something truly special was hidden here. He stepped confidently into the glowing purple corridor, his boots echoing on the ancient stone floor as he ventured into the unknown. After a short walk down the narrow corridor, the passage opened up into a massive, impressive, and very circular chamber. His eyes scanned the room and locked onto something in the very center, his breath catching in his throat at the sight. Floating above a grand pedestal was a single, ornate gauntlet, radiating an immense and very familiar purple aura of incredible power. He recognized the mana instantly. It was the raw, untamed power of the Earth Dragon, a power he now knew intimately. Though he had never seen it before, the name of the legendary dragon came to his mind instinctively and without conscious thought. He identified the artifact with absolute certainty, his heart pounding with excitement. This was the legendary lost gauntlet of Enkidu. The specific, powerful name of the legendary item echoed in his mind, a name that promised immense strength. Earthshaker. He stood before the floating gauntlet, the purple flames of its powerful aura casting long, dancing shadows across the grand chamber. He felt an undeniable connection to the artifact, identifying it as the signature weapon of the legendary Knight of Conquest. He took a step forward, drawn in by the immense power. He felt as though the gauntlet itself was calling directly to him. He reached out his hand and gently touched the ancient artifact. preparing himself for the surge of power he expected to receive. The moment he made contact, error messages flashed before his eyes, informing him his stats were laughably insufficient to wield the item. He pulled his hand back in shock, realizing with some disappointment that he was not yet strong enough to handle the legendary gauntlet. The gauntlet pulsed with a bright, sentient light, seemingly reacting to his touch and making a decision of its very own. A new, golden notification appeared, declaring that Earthshaker has recognized you as its master, overriding the previous error messages completely. The gauntlet began to transform before his very eyes, its ominous purple aura shifting to a radiant and much more heroic gold. Another system message confirmed the transfer, changing the registered user to his name. He clenched his fist, ready to receive its power. A massive wave of golden energy erupted from the gauntlet and surged into his body, bonding with him completely and irrevocably. Shutra's eyes glowed with a faint golden light, as he felt the incredible power of the legendary gauntlet flowing deep into his body. The gauntlet materialized on his hand, now made of ancient metal and crackling with golden energy. A notification confirmed a massive stat boost. He marveled at the surge of power, amazed that simply equipping the powerful item had raised his stats so significantly. A confident smile touched his lips as he imagined the incredible potential he would unlock once his level really began to rise. He held up his gauntleted hand with a wide, thrilled grin, exclaiming that this incredible item was even better than he had expected. The item information screen for the Gauntlet of Enkidu appeared, solidifying his official and undisputed ownership of the legendary artifact. Suddenly, Karak's voice startled him from behind, asking what that incredible flash of golden light had been just a moment ago. Shutra looked up to see Karak standing at the chamber entrance. He realized with a jolt that his loyal guard had seen everything. Shutra tried to play it cool, but he was clearly nervous, internally complaining about how annoying it was to have his inventory exposed. Karak thoughtfully said that while he didn't understand what he just saw, he knew it would cause trouble if word got out. He gave Shutra a wide, reassuring grin and pounded his fist to his chest, promising to keep his secret safe. Shutra was touched by his guard's unwavering loyalty. Karak then asked if they had everything they needed and suggested they head back. Shutra smiled slyly, admitting that the creepy secret chamber gave him the chills and that he was eager to leave it behind. He agreed that it was definitely time for them to go back to the others, their secret mission having been a resounding success. The two of them walked back out of the secret passage and into the main treasure vault, leaving the chamber behind them. As they were leaving the vault, Shutra's keen eyes caught a glint of something on a far table among the scattered treasures. He quickly stopped Karak, who looked back, annoyed at the delay. Shutra's attention was completely fixed on his new discovery. Karak followed his gaze but saw nothing out of the ordinary among the piles of loot, asking what he was looking at now. Shutra pointed with a huge, triumphant grin toward a glittering pile of treasure, exclaiming that he had found exactly what they needed. The scene cut to Shutra carefully pouring a glowing green potion he found in the vault into the mouth of the resting Felicia. The moment she drank the potion, a brilliant green light enveloped her, lifting her into the air as healing energy washed over her. The light faded, and a healthy blush returned to Felicia's cheeks. She looked completely revitalized, much to everyone's immense relief. Shutra supported her as she sat up, asking with a warm, caring smile if she was feeling any better after her magical nap. As Felicia regained her bearings, Caitlin knelt beside her, overjoyed. Shutra expressed his great relief that his sister-in-law was finally okay. Caitlin gave a proud, winking smile, explaining to her confused sister that Shutra had miraculously found a potion of mana recovery. Felicia touched her head, looking completely bewildered. She had no idea where he could have possibly found such a rare and powerful item. Shutra gestured around the ancient chamber, playfully asking if she had somehow forgotten that they were in a treasure-filled ruin. The realization finally dawned on her. Of course they were in a ruin, the perfect place to find forgotten and useful treasures. With a confident, almost cheeky smile, Shutra gave a thumbs up and reminded her not to forget who the master of these ruins was. He reassured her not to worry and to get some rest, promising her mana would be fully restored when she woke up. As he was about to leave, Felicia softly called out his name, causing him to turn back to her with a questioning look. With a sincere blush on her cheeks and a look of genuine gratitude, she quietly and shyly thanked him for everything he had done. The next morning, the sun rose over the mountains, shining down on the victorious Allied army celebrating in their newly recaptured camp. The mighty General Vandal greeted the returning heroes with a massive, joyful grin, exclaiming that they had finally and gloriously returned. He clapped Shutra on the back with a booming laugh, declaring that he knew all along the prince and princesses would succeed. As the group walked through the camp, Prince Chris awkwardly cleared his throat, trying to get the attention of his younger siblings. He stood with his arms crossed, his usual stern expression softened as he cleared his throat again, clearly struggling to say something important. He visibly struggled to find the right words, his immense pride making it very difficult for him to offer any sort of praise. Finally, with a slight blush on his own cheeks, he managed to compliment his sister on her splendid and effective performance. Felicia flipped her hair back with a proud, confident air, casually dismissing her brother's rare and hard-won praise as if it were nothing. Shutra watched her with a playful smirk, privately thinking about how incredibly smug she was acting in her moment of victory. Chris then told her to get some rest, as his forces would finish things up. A surprised Shutra asked if it wasn't over. Chris explained that remnants of the enemy were still out there, and that they would be dealt with within the next 2 weeks. Shutra's eyes lit up at this news, as he immediately and happily calculated that this meant he got a 2-week vacation. Before he could celebrate, Caitlin appeared behind him, whispering playfully in his ear about his ridiculous idea of a vacation. Shutra's face flushed bright red as she leaned in close, her teasing tone making him completely and utterly flustered. With a beautiful, knowing smile, Caitlin waved goodbye, reminding him that he still had plenty of very important work to do. In a beautiful, sunlit valley, peaceful forests and majestic mountains created a scene of perfect tranquility that was, unfortunately, about to be completely ruined. A sudden blast of crackling blue energy sends Shutra flying, his training session with Caitlin getting off to a rather shocking and painful start. A fist surrounded by brilliant blue energy travels at an incredible speed, ready to deliver another round of what some might call tough love. Princess Caitlin yells at Shutra to focus, helpfully reminding him that if he doesn't pull himself together, this is only going to hurt more. Shutra lands in an undignified heap on the ground, having been forcefully ejected from his previous spot by his sister's very enthusiastic teaching methods. Lying on the dirt, he thinks that while he expected this to be tough, the Beast Fist art training was turning out to be seriously brutal. He recalls Caitlin's mischievous smile, realizing the special training she promised was just a fancy term for getting beaten up repeatedly for his own good. For the first 5 days, explosions of energy were his alarm clock, as his main activity consisted of getting knocked around the forest constantly. After a full week of this intense routine, his perception finally sharpened, and he could actually start to see Caitlin's ridiculously fast punches coming. On the 11th day, another powerful impact shook the ground, signaling that Shutra's grueling ordeal was finally starting to show some real, actual progress. With newfound agility, Shutra successfully deflects one of Caitlin's energy-charged strikes, finally matching her incredible speed and proving he's a fast learner. Caitlin offers a pleased smirk, noting that he is finally starting to keep up with her, which is a significant improvement over being a punching bag. A confident grin spreads across Shutra's face as he replies that after taking so many hits, it was about time he started hitting back. That evening, he reflects on his progress, feeling quite satisfied that his Beast Fist and Aura skills have both reached a respectable level 5. Caitlin announces that he is finally ready to begin learning the Beast God Fist art, the true, advanced version of the fighting style. Shutra is stunned by the news, but Caitlin expresses her genuine amazement, admitting she has never seen anyone learn the basics so incredibly fast. He is filled with excitement, realizing he's about to learn the ultimate secret technique of the legendary lycanthrope warriors, a truly legendary power-up. Caitlin takes his hands and tells him she will now teach him a new way to wield his aura, leaving Shutra completely puzzled by this. She leans in closer, instructing him to follow her lead carefully, as this next part was the most important lesson he would ever learn. Shutra looks at her with complete trust and determination, confirming that he is ready to learn whatever she has to teach him. As they hold hands, a soft blue aura begins to swirl around their fingers, gathering into a small, brilliant ball of pure energy. The energy suddenly erupts into a massive pillar of light, illuminating the entire forest as Caitlin shares her power and knowledge with her brother. With his eyes closed, Shutra can feel Caitlin's powerful aura flowing into him, acting as a guide and showing him a new path. In his mind, the energy flows like a vibrant, living river of light, leading him toward a deeper understanding of his own inner power. He realizes this sensation is both similar to and completely different from the Beast Fist art, allowing him to feel the true depth of aura. He floats in a cosmic space, understanding that aura is the essence of life and can become as powerful as the soul itself. As he drifts deeper, he feels another power awaken within him, the fierce and domineering force of conquest, which seeks to control everything. Suspended in a sea of pure energy, he wonders if this profound connection to life and control is the true nature of his power. The brilliant pillar of blue light continues to blaze in the forest, marking the culmination of his intense and transformative training session. As the experience ends, he receives confirmation that his Beast Fist art and his aura skills have both successfully leveled up once more. Caitlin beams with pride and amazement, telling Shutra that his performance was nothing short of incredible and far exceeded her expectations. Surrounded by a wispy blue aura, Shutra officially acquires the powerful Beast God Fist art, much to Caitlin's delight and excitement. He examines his hand, feeling the new power flowing through him, now having both the Beast God Fist art and the legendary Earthshaker gauntlet. He clenches his fist, and the powerful blue aura crackles around it, a clear sign of the immense new strength he now commands. A wave of energy flows from him, swirling through the clearing and demonstrating the impressive results of his hard work and dedication. He is quite pleased with himself upon discovering he has reached level 14, a smug grin spreading across his face at the accomplishment. He declares that this is where his real journey begins, unaware that the massive General Bando is observing him from behind a nearby tree. General Bando watches the young prince with a serious and thoughtful expression, having witnessed his incredible and rapid growth firsthand. The next morning, the sun rises over the bustling military camp, signaling the start of a new day and a new chapter. Inside a quiet tent, Shutra and Caitlin enjoy a meal together, but Shutra has a serious question on his mind. He asks Caitlin about Princess Felicia, and she pauses, curious about what he wants to know about their complicated sister. He bluntly asks why Chris and Felicia seem so distant, a question that clearly catches Caitlin completely off guard with its directness. He knows Felicia is a crucial ally for his plans, and he worries that her strained relationship with Chris might become a problem. Caitlin explains that while they don't exactly hate each other, there is a noticeable and unfortunate distance between the two siblings. She adds that there wasn't a single incident that caused the rift, prompting Shutra to ask what the real reason could possibly be. Caitlin suggests it might have something to do with Chris and Felicia's twin brother Sylvan, a name Shutra is very surprised to hear. Caitlin gently scolds him for speaking the name so carelessly, and Shutra quickly apologizes, explaining that he was just caught off guard. He remembers Sylvan Doomblade from his past life in the game as a particularly troublesome and powerful opponent he had to face. Just as he begins to consider the implications of a problem between Chris and Sylvan, a voice suddenly interrupts their private conversation. Prince Chris looms over their table, having entered the tent without them noticing, and casually remarks that he has found them both. Caitlin, startled by his sudden appearance, asks her brother what he's doing here so early in the morning. Chris announces that the cleanup operation is finished ahead of schedule, and that they will all be leaving for home this very afternoon. Shutra looks confused by the sudden change of plans, and asks his brother exactly where they are supposed to be going. Chris grins, telling him the answer is obvious. With their mission accomplished, it's time for them to report back to the castle. Later, the group gathers to say their farewells, and General Bandal shakes Shutra's hand, thanking him for his incredible contributions. Bandal looks at the young prince with deep respect, telling him he eagerly awaits the day they will meet on the battlefield again. Shutra smiles warmly, and promises the formidable orc general that he will be waiting for that day as well. With their goodbyes finished, Chris turns to the group and asks if everyone is ready to finally head home, to which Shutra confidently agrees. A determined smile spreads across Chris's face as he announces their ultimate and rather intimidating destination, the Demon King's castle. The scene shifts to a colossal, Gothic castle, with towering spires that pierce a blood-red sky, an ominous sign of their journey's end. Inside, a vast throne room is steeped in shadow, where a lone, powerful figure is silhouetted against three massive arched windows. The Demon King sits upon his throne, a colossal and intimidating ruler clad in menacing armor, his face completely hidden in darkness. The journey back to this formidable castle is simple in theory, as the royals and their followers travel swiftly through the dark forest. Their first step is to reach a long-distance teleportation circle, a powerful magical platform that can instantly transport them across the continent. However, the journey to the circle itself will take 3 days of roughing it, as they camp under the stars without any inns. As he tends to the campfire, Shutra thinks about their return to the castle, admitting to himself that he's a little nervous. He remembers the castle's dangerous political landscape, currently dominated by the 3 powerful factions led by his siblings, Zephyr, Baikal, and Anastasia. The most dangerous of them all is his future nemesis, Zephyr Ragnaros, the fucking bastard responsible for the future massacre he is trying to prevent. The other 2 factions are led by the first prince, Baikal, and the 4th princess, Anastasia, both of whom are powerful and mysterious figures. In the ruthless world of the Demon King's court, birth order is meaningless. Only those with superior strength and achievements can claim the throne. Baikal and Zephyr are full-blooded brothers who inherited the immense strength of their mother's draconian clan, making them incredibly powerful rivals. Shutra knows that the calmer Baikal would be the better choice for heir, but he also knows that such logic is utterly meaningless now. A grim vision of the future flashes in his mind, a lone figure standing on a mountain of corpses beneath a burning red sky. A shadow falls over his face as his resolve hardens. He knows he must prepare for the inevitable future by using every advantage he has. His first priority is to increase his level so that he can finally wield the full incredible power of the legendary gauntlet Earthshaker. His second priority is to master a new and unique skill he recently acquired, a power known as King's Knights. He is surprised to learn the skill is not just for summoning, it also includes buffs and a slot for a Knight Commander. He covers his mouth in shock, realizing that with all of its combined features, this skill is ridiculously, almost unfairly, overpowered. A mischievous grin spreads across his face as he imagines its future potential, just as his loyal friend Karak approaches the campfire. Karak scolds the prince, demanding to know why he is still awake when they need to get an early start in the morning. As Karak orders him to get some rest, Shutra's grin widens, thinking that his friend has arrived at the absolute perfect time. His eyes sparkling with a brilliant idea, he asks his loyal friend if he would be willing to help him with a little experiment. Karak immediately starts sweating, cautiously asking what kind of experiment the prince has in mind, clearly nervous about what's to come. Under the bright full moon, Shutra formally addresses his friend, calling him the mighty orc warrior Karak, much to Karak's confusion. He draws a sword and, with the utmost seriousness, officially appoints the kneeling and completely bewildered Karak as his very first knight. A brilliant column of light envelops Karak, who gasps in shock as a surge of powerful, unfamiliar energy flows through his body. His eyes widen as he feels the strange new sensation, telling the prince that this is unlike anything he has ever experienced before. He clenches his fist, feeling a new sense of power and declaring that his loyalty to Shutra has somehow become even stronger. Shutra is absolutely ecstatic, barely able to contain his excitement as he realizes his overpowered new skill worked exactly as he had hoped. He places a hand on his friend's shoulder as Karak continues to marvel at the strength coursing through him, still in disbelief. Leaning in close, his eyes shining with ambition, Shutra asks his friend a life-changing question. Does he want to become the strongest orc? He promises to make Karak as powerful as the legendary orc emperor from the game, a warrior who could rival even the dragons. Karak, completely bewildered by the prince's sudden and intense declarations, can only ask if he is feeling all right. 3 days later, they arrive at a tall, ancient stone tower, the location of the long-distance teleportation circle. Inside, the group walks toward a large circular stone platform that hums with a powerful, glowing magical seal. Chris turns to the group with a confident look and asks if everyone is ready to finally make the journey home. Shutra gives a small, confident smile in return, confirming that he is ready to face whatever awaits them at the castle. With a firm and determined step, he walks onto the glowing teleportation circle, ready to begin the next chapter of his journey. The entire party assembles on the platform, bathed in its soft blue light, preparing for their instantaneous trip back to the Demon King's castle. The teleportation magic activates with a violent lurch, catching Shutra completely off guard and sending him stumbling. A brilliant flash of light engulfs the tower as the ancient magic activates, sending them across the vast continent in a single disorienting instant. Shutra feels himself being flung through a dizzying vortex of blue energy, his body completely weightless and out of control. He tries to cry out for them to wait, but the teleportation is far too fast and powerful for him to resist. He tumbles head over heels through the chaotic stream of energy, letting out a rather undignified and panicked scream. He lands ungracefully on the hard stone floor of the castle, stumbling onto his hands and knees, completely disoriented from the rough trip. Caitlin rushes to his side to check on him, and he quickly reassures her that he's fine, just a little dizzy. As his vision clears, he is surprised to see Princess Felicia standing before him, her name being called out by a group of women. A crowd of female attendants rushes past him to greet Felicia, showering her with praise and telling her how much they missed her. Felicia is immediately surrounded by her fawning attendants, who all look at her with adoration, creating a circle of admirers around the princess. Shutra watches the scene unfold, thinking that it looks less like a princess with her subordinates, and more like a popular idol with her fan club. Meanwhile, Chris and Caitlin are greeted by their own groups of loyal followers, who warmly welcome them back to the castle. Shutra can't help but laugh to himself. While everyone else has a welcoming party, he and Karak have been completely and utterly ignored. As he and Karak stand awkwardly to the side, he feels a distinct and clear sense of separation from his more popular siblings. Watching the different groups interact, he finally gets a clear and sobering picture of his current, insignificant standing within the castle's political hierarchy. He lets out a quiet sigh but isn't discouraged in the slightest, as this is exactly the cold reception he had been expecting. He turns to his loyal knight, his expression firm with new resolve, and asks his friend if he is ready for what comes next. A determined glint appears in his eyes as he declares that from this moment forward, they will start to change things, one step at a time. Later, Karak and Shutra are shown to their modest room, with Shutra sarcastically noting that at least they were given a room at all. Karak informs him that they have free time until the official events begin tomorrow, but Shutra feels it's more like being forgotten somewhere. Suddenly, a series of knocks echoes from their door, startling Shutra and leaving him to wonder who could possibly be visiting them. The visitor is a professional-looking woman who politely introduces herself as Flora Sevensword, an agent from the Real Estate Management Bureau. Shutra asks why someone from such a prestigious office is here, and Flora explains it is because his public merit level has significantly increased. She announces that he is now officially eligible to choose a new, more fitting residence, leaving Shutra completely shocked by this wonderful news. He later arrives at the Office of Public Merits, where he is greeted by another official, a woman with the lower body of a serpent. He asks if this is the correct place to claim his new residence, and the official, Isabella, warmly confirms that he is. With a graceful flick of her wrist, Isabella conjures a magical display, ready to show the prince all of his recent accomplishments. She reveals his merit level has risen to 5, granting him more access to facilities and a ridiculously huge raise to 500 gold. She adds that he is the first prince to achieve so much on their initial mission, much to Shutra's embarrassed delight. Eager to claim his rewards, he asks if she can show him the available residences, and she happily agrees to do so. Sometime later, Karak stands frozen in place, his mouth wide open in utter disbelief at the sight before him. He asks Shutra if the magnificent sprawling mansion with ornate golden gates is truly their new home, unable to believe his eyes. Inside the grand foyer, Flora is already waiting for them, remarking that they have arrived sooner than she had expected. Now wearing a pristine maid uniform, Flora bows deeply, stating that it is her honor to serve him as his new butler. Karak whispers to Shutra, completely baffled by the situation, and Shutra explains with a sly grin that he used his new points to hire her. Seeing his friend's confusion, Shutra tells him not to worry about the details, leaving Karak to mutter about his prince's strange behavior. The next day arrives, and with it, the time for the formal audience with the Demon King, a truly momentous occasion. Inside a lavish dressing room, a nervous Karak complains about needing the restroom, but Shutra, annoyed, tells him to just go already. Holding a drink, Shutra adds that all of Karak's nervous complaining is starting to make him anxious as well. A voice suddenly cuts in, complimenting them both on how amazing they look in their new formal attire. Caitlin and Felicia appear, both looking radiant in beautiful evening gowns, with Caitlin giving all the credit to a very smug Felicia. Felicia smiles with satisfaction, admitting that all of her hard work in choosing their outfits was definitely worth the effort. Caitlin winks at Shutra, telling him that he looks particularly great in the suit she and Felicia picked out for him. A faint blush appears on his cheeks as he thanks her, adding that both she and Felicia look absolutely amazing as well. Caitlin beams with delight at the compliment, while Felicia tries to hide her pleasure, stating that of course they look good. Prince Chris approaches, looking regal and serious, and reminds Shutra that this is his very first official audience ceremony. He points a confident finger at his younger brother, telling him that today, he is the star and must prove his worth. Shutra looks back at him with a determined smile, confirming that he is ready to face the challenge and impress everyone. The great doors before them swing open, revealing a blindingly bright light. Shutra knows many will think his success was just luck. He knows a crowd of skeptical and powerful demons is waiting, but he is ready to prove them all wrong. With unwavering confidence, he takes the lead, walking into the throne room with his siblings, ready to face their father. The royal siblings kneel before the Demon King's throne, in the vast hall, surrounded by the powerful nobles of the demon realm. Chris formally announces himself as the 7th prince, his voice steady and respectful as he addresses his powerful father. He declares that he stands before the great ruler of the demon realm, who sits silently upon his massive, imposing throne. The stern, weathered face of Demon King Nitra is revealed, his ancient eyes holding an unreadable and emotionless expression. An attendant steps forward, announcing that the report on the achievements of the princes and princesses will now officially begin. As the report starts, Shutra looks up at the imposing king, the father he shares with all the other royal children. A chilling realization suddenly hits him. In his focus on his own plans, he had forgotten a crucial, terrifying truth. He remembers that his father is the one being in the entire castle who must never, ever be underestimated. Suddenly, an immense, invisible pressure bears down on him, his face contorting with the effort to resist the king's overwhelming aura. The sheer force of the king's presence is crushing, and Shutra struggles to remain upright, feeling as if he might collapse. In his mind, the image of the golden-haired goddess of conquest appears, her voice echoing a single, silent command: conquer. He remembers the feeling of grasping his own power, a brilliant light held within his fist, a symbol of his will. The goddess tells him that as a king, he must overcome the gaze of another, his own father's intimidating, glowing red eyes. She urges him to take the suffocating pressure and bend it to his will, a true test of his strength and resolve. Gritting his teeth with fierce determination, Shutra refuses to break, channeling all of his focus and power inward. A brilliant, golden aura erupts from within him, defiantly pushing back against the Demon King's oppressive and overwhelming energy. His eyes now glow with a brilliant golden light as he fully unleashes the power of conquest, radiating a defiant energy. For the first time, the Demon King Mitra's stoic expression shifts, a flicker of surprise crossing his face at his son's defiance. The king's deep, resonant voice echoes through the silent throne room, speaking a single, unexpected name: Shutra. The entire court freezes in shock, and his siblings all look up, their faces a mask of pure, utter disbelief. Shutra, still kneeling, looks up, completely stunned into silence by this unprecedented turn of events. The Demon King looks down at him, his gaze intense, and states that he looks forward to seeing his future achievements. He calls out Shutra's name one more time, ensuring that every single person in the throne room hears the acknowledgement. His siblings remain frozen, completely unable to comprehend what is happening or why their forgotten brother is being singled out. Shutra stays kneeling, his mind racing as he tries to process the full and staggering implications of his father's words. The Demon King repeats his statement of encouragement, a clear and undeniable acknowledgement of his youngest son's incredible and unexpected success. The members of the court begin to whisper frantically, noting that the king has never called a child by name in an audience. Everyone wonders why the king would single out the 9th prince, a boy who, until now, had been utterly insignificant. Shutra knows that on the surface his father's words were a simple statement of encouragement, but in this court, they meant so much more. It was a statement that no one had ever heard from the Silent King before, and with it, everything had irrevocably changed. He promises to live up to the king's expectations, his first audience concluding with a powerful impression on all who witnessed it. Back at his new mansion, Karak's frantic voice urges the prince to get up, a sense of urgency in his tone. A groggy Shutra asks what the commotion is, and Karak reveals a letter from the Office of Public Merits has just arrived. Taking the letter, Shutra wonders why the office would be contacting him again so soon after his rewards were just issued. As he breaks the seal and reads the contents of the letter, his eyes fly open, in complete and utter shock. An intensely curious Karak demands to know what the letter says, but Shutra admits he isn't sure how to feel about it. He looks up at his loyal friend and delivers the stunning news. Their father, the Demon King, has given him a personal mission. Shutra later meets with his siblings in a grand, sunlit room to discuss this surprising new and unexpected development. Chris reads the mission details explaining it's a monster extermination task, and Caitlin realizes this means he's heading to the Anger Plains. Shutra asks if that is the Centaurs' territory, and Caitlin confirms it, adding that she and Chris once trained there. Chris regrets he cannot go, but Caitlin confidently states that Shutra will be perfectly fine and can manage on his own. Chris's expression turns serious as he offers his younger brother some very important and timely advice before his departure. He warns Shutra that from now on, everyone in the castle will be watching his every move with great interest. He explains that some will try to get close to him, while others will view him as a dangerous new threat. Shutra's gaze hardens, knowing that not even the fearsome and powerful Zephyr was ever acknowledged by name in an audience. Chris offers his full support, telling his brother not to hesitate to ask for help, which Shutra gratefully accepts. As a final piece of advice, he tells Shutra to visit Felicia before he leaves, as she has a gift for him. They find Felicia in a stable, where she explains that he will need a good pair of legs to travel through Centaur territory. She offers him 2 large reptilian mounts for his journey, and a grateful Shutra thanks her for the generous gift. Felicia then holds out her hand, telling him she has something else for him, much to Shutra's surprise and curiosity. In her palm lies a beautiful necklace with a glowing blue gemstone, which he instantly recognizes as a legendary Dark Elf's tear. He is stunned, knowing this is a sacred treasure that, in the game, could only be obtained by defeating her in battle. Felicia explains that her people never forget a kindness, and this is her way of repaying him for saving her life. She wishes him a safe journey and then, in a completely uncharacteristic gesture, pulls him into a warm and surprising hug. Blushing and completely flustered, he almost calls her by an informal nickname, caught off guard by her sudden show of affection. Just as he is about to speak, she abruptly pushes him away, her own cheeks now slightly flushed. She turns her head, clearly feeling awkward about her own display of emotion, which Shutra finds rather amusing. Shutra recovers with a smile and waves goodbye, standing beside Karak and his new mount, ready for his next grand adventure. He and his party step onto a teleportation circle, which erupts in a column of blue light as Felicia watches them depart. After they have vanished, a soft, genuine smile graces her lips as she quietly wishes him well, revealing her true feelings. A brilliant flash of light marks their arrival in the middle of the vast and untamed Anger Plains. The light fades, revealing Shutra, Karak, and their 2 reptilian mounts standing on the teleportation platform, their new journey now beginning. Looks around at the new surroundings and asks if they've arrived, and Shutra, with a confident smirk, confirms that they have. They are immediately greeted by a woman who respectfully addresses the 9th prince, welcoming him to the plains. She introduces herself as Karma, the ranger who has been assigned to be their official guide for this important mission. Shutra politely introduces himself in return, observing that she has the upper body of a human and the lower half of a beast. Karma bows, expressing her honor, as Shutra correctly identifies her as a member of the Sada race. With the introductions now over, Karma suggests they should get moving right away, gesturing toward the arid, rocky landscape. Their journey across the dry plains begins, with their powerful mounts kicking up clouds of dust as they travel. Karma, running effortlessly, sets the pace, explaining the journey will take 2 days, and asking if Shutra minds traveling with few breaks. As they travel, Karma asks if any other soldiers will be joining them, and Shutra explains it's just them for now. Shutra remarks that once they link up with their Centaur allies, it will become a much larger group fight. He begins to strategize, thinking that since it will likely be a mounted battle, a long spear would be the ideal weapon. As they continue their journey, Shutra's sensitive ears pick up a faint, unfamiliar sound in the distance, immediately putting him on alert. He asks Karma what the sound is, and she tells him to hold on while she goes to investigate the disturbance. The ground in front of them is suddenly torn apart by a powerful, unseen force, narrowly missing them and kicking up dirt. Karma immediately leaps into action, sprinting ahead with incredible speed to get a better view of the unexpected danger. Her face pales with shock and disbelief, as she realizes that this attack should not be happening so soon. She sees a large pack of the Cache's herd chasing a lone satyr and gasps, wondering how they found them already. The entire monstrous herd, a terrifying wave of shadow and teeth, relentlessly pursues the single desperate figure across the plains. The lone Sato runs for his life, his face a mask of pure terror as the savage beasts rapidly gain on him. A massive wolf closes the distance, letting out a ferocious roar as it prepares to deliver the final deadly blow. The terrified satyr lets out a panicked scream as the beast's massive jaws snap shut, sealing his unfortunate fate. In a blur of motion, Shutra skillfully maneuvers his mount to slam directly into the attacking wolf, saving the satyr. The powerful collision sends the wolf crashing into the sandy ground, erupting in a massive and satisfying cloud of dust. Shutra's mount plants its powerful, clawed feet firmly on the ground, establishing its dominance after the successful and heroic interception. He now stands as a defiant barrier, positioning himself protectively between the rescued satyr and the rest of the snarling wolf pack. He calmly raises a hand, sarcastically remarking that the welcoming party seems to have arrived a little bit early. The legendary gauntlet, Earthshaker, materializes on his arm, glowing with immense power as he dismisses the surprise attack as a trivial matter. A fierce, excited grin spreads across his face as he declares that he was just itching for a fight anyway. A lone satyr sprints for his life, desperately fleeing a monstrous shadowy wolf hot on his heels. The beast is struck by a powerful force, sending it crashing into the ground with a massive impact that kicks up a huge cloud of dust. A powerful clawed foot slams into the dirt, signifying the arrival of a new combatant. The rescued satyr looks back in shock to see Prince Shutra, mounted on a reptilian beast, now positioned between him and the danger. He calmly faces the pack of approaching shadow wolves, a hand raised as if to greet them. He coolly remarks that the welcoming party seems to have arrived early. The legendary gauntlet, Earthshaker, materializes on his arm, glowing with immense golden power. He dismisses the surprise attack as a trivial matter. A fierce, excited grin spreads across his face as he declares that he was just itching for a fight anyway, ready to unleash his new power. He turns to the rescued satyr and taunts the approaching wolves, while the satyr asks if he is really the prince. One of the monstrous wolves, larger than the others, plants its feet firmly in the ground, asserting its dominance as the pack leader. The beast lets out a deafening, ferocious roar, signaling its clear and undeniable intent to attack the intruders. It lunges forward, a blur of dark fur and glowing red eyes, charging directly at Shutra and his powerful reptilian mount. Shutra sizes up his opponent with a confident grin, correctly identifying the charging beast as the pack's formidable leader. Karma shouts, asking if he is all right, while Karak warns him that dashing in alone like that is far too dangerous. Shutra waves off their concerns, telling them he is fine and that they should just stand back and watch him work. He expertly uses his mount as a springboard, launching himself high into the air to meet the beast head-on. Flying towards the beast, he decides this is the perfect opportunity to test out the powerful beast god fist art. He meets the leaping wolf mid-air, his golden glowing gauntlet poised and ready to deliver a devastating and decisive strike. The wolf lets out a final terrifying roar, its massive jaw wide open, filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth. Shutra channels all of his power, his own aura flaring to life around his fist as he prepares to unleash his attack. He unleashes his Fist of Explosion technique, a brilliant and powerful burst of pure, concentrated golden energy. Both Karak and Karma look on, their faces a mixture of complete shock and utter disbelief at the incredible power they are witnessing. His attack connects with devastating force, and the alpha wolf's head is completely and utterly obliterated in a gory explosion. He lands gracefully, standing over the headless corpse of the alpha, his glowing gauntlet smoking with residual powerful energy. The remaining wolves in the pack freeze, their ferocious expressions turning to ones of stunned and palpable fear. The pack is completely demoralized and begins to whimper and back away from the boy who just destroyed their powerful leader. Shutra looks down at his gauntlet, amazed by its destructive power and wondering if it amplified his aura. A wide, proud grin spreads across his face as he realizes the power he just unleashed was almost on par with Caitlin's. His companions are equally impressed, praising him for taking out a Cassius beast in a single, incredible strike. The rescued satyr introduces himself as Swift Wind, a scout sent to escort them, and now offers to guide them. As the group prepares to move on, the headless body of the alpha wolf begins to glow with a strange, ominous purple light. After a long journey, the group finally arrives at a ridge, overlooking the vast and bustling centaur settlement in the Engel Plains. A diagram illustrates the four main centaur tribes that inhabit the plains: Fierce Wind, Heavy Rain, Raging Flame, and Rough Night. The Raging Flame tribe is the most powerful, and its leader serves as the High Chieftain, who welcomes them to the settlement. The formidable centaur warrior introduces himself as Savage Eyes, the High Chieftain of all the centaur tribes. Shutra immediately recognizes the name, as Savage Eyes was an unavoidable and pivotal character for anyone who played the game. A crucial memory from the game surfaces. Savage Eyes was a character he had to face not as an ally, but as an enemy. An intimidated Karak whispers that the chieftain's glare is deadly, but Shutra confidently introduces himself as the Ninth Prince. The High Chieftain's eyes narrow slightly, his expression unreadable as he sizes up the small but surprisingly confident prince before him. Shutra gets straight to the point, looking at the chieftain with a commanding gaze and asking for his assessment of the situation. They move inside the chieftain's main yurt to discuss the urgent and dangerous matter in a more private setting. Savage Eyes stands over a large map and bluntly admits that their current situation is not good at all. He points to the map, explaining that the Cassius herd has migrated south much earlier than usual this year, a troubling development. He adds that some believe only a small part of the herd has lost its way, but Shutra silently recalls his untrustworthy nature. The chieftain lays out his plan. In 3 days, the warriors from all 4 tribes will gather to crush the beasts. Shutra hopes things might turn out differently this time compared to the game's story and agrees to wait for the warriors. Just as the meeting is about to conclude, Savage Eyes calls out to the 9th prince, a curious look on his face. A sly grin spreads across the chieftain's face as he asks if the rumor is true. Did he really smash a beast's skull? A confident, shadowy smirk appears on Shutra's face, as he simply confirms that yes, the rumor is absolutely true. He confidently offers to give the chieftain a demonstration of his power later, just as he did to win over his siblings. The chieftain's expression remains stoic, but a flicker of genuine interest can be seen in his sharp and discerning eyes. He accepts the offer, stating that he will look forward to witnessing the prince's legendary power with his own eyes. As Shutra walks through the village that evening, the local centaurs begin to whisper among themselves, their eyes following his every move. They recognize him as the 9th prince, the one whose incredible feat of strength is already becoming a local legend. Karak remarks that the prince is becoming quite popular, just as he did after the battle with General Bandal's army. He jokingly boasts that his popularity is due to his natural charm, then immediately mutters that he probably shouldn't have said that. Karak smiles and advises the prince to get some well-deserved rest before the big day and the upcoming battle. Shutra lies in his bed, sleeping soundly after a long and eventful day, completely unaware of the strange events about to unfold. As he sleeps, a mysterious, soft green light begins to glow from beside him on the bed, pulsating with a gentle energy. As the light's intensity grows, it wakes him, his eyes snapping open as he immediately looks toward the strange glow. He sits up in shock to see the light is coming from his gauntlet, instinctively calling out its name, Earthquaker. Still sitting up in bed, he stares at the gauntlet, wondering how and when it appeared on his arm without him noticing. A serene, ethereal voice calls out his full name, and he looks up to see the spectral image of a beautiful, elf-like woman. His eyes, now glowing with a soft golden hue, widen as he takes in the mysterious and beautiful spirit before him. The spirit floats above him, radiating a gentle green light, and tells him that she requires his immediate assistance. Completely bewildered by the sudden and strange visitation, he can only ask the mysterious spirit who she is. The spirit opens her gentle green eyes and calmly introduces herself to the stunned prince as the Green Wind. Shutra stares in stunned silence, the famous and legendary name echoing in his mind as he tries to process the situation. He instantly recognizes the name, remembering that Green Wind is one of the great nature spirits worshipped by the centaurs and satyrs. He recalls from the game's lore that the lush and beautiful Engel plains owe their vitality entirely to her immense power. Suddenly, his consciousness is pulled into a vibrant green landscape, and he finds himself floating alongside the spirit, completely disoriented. The spirit explains that this beautiful and serene place is her home, the very heart of the Engel plains. She reveals that it is also the sacred place where a fragment of her creator, the Watcher Enkel, currently resides. He processes this new information, but then a shocking and rather alarming realization suddenly hits him with full force. The name Enkel triggers another memory, and he realizes with a jolt of fear that this is one of the 6 Elder Dragons. He recalls that the Elder Dragons were godlike beings so powerful that players in the game could never even encounter them. He looks at his gauntlet, a relic from another ancient being, and finds the timing of this new encounter far too coincidental. The Green Wind spirit interrupts his thoughts with urgency, warning him that monsters from the north are rapidly approaching her home. She explains that their goal is to steal the life of the plains, which would destroy her home and consume her very essence. She tells him that he is the only one who can protect this sacred place, but he protests that his level is too low. She reminds him that he already wields the power of Enkidu, and a golden aura flares around him to confirm her words. She reassures him, promising that the fragment of Enkel will grant him the greater strength he needs for the coming battle. As he is sent back to his own consciousness, she instructs him to first show a special token to her children. He finds himself back in his room, a glowing green symbol now imprinted on the back of his hand as a sign. In his palm, the energy solidifies into a beautiful, glowing green crystal, a divine relic that will prove his story. After the vision, Savage Eyes shouts across the camp, demanding to know what Shutra is saying all of a sudden. The chieftain repeats his words, asking if the Green Wind is truly in danger, and Shutra confirms the temple will be attacked. The chieftain is skeptical, but Shutra interrupts, insisting they must gather the troops and move out immediately to face the threat. The chieftain's eyes narrow as a faint green glow emanates from the hand Shutra is holding out toward him. Shutra holds up the glowing green crystal, presenting the divine relic from the Green Wind as undeniable proof of his claim. Savage Eyes' expression hardens with grim resolve, and now completely convinced, he asks Shutra what he must do to help. Under the bright sun, the newly assembled centaur army begins its march through the lush green plains toward the sacred temple. The powerful hooves of the determined centaur warriors thunder across the grassy fields, ready to face the impending danger. A formidable army of centaurs, armed with spears and bows, moves with a clear purpose and an unwavering, unified determination. Shutra rides his reptilian mount in the midst of the centaur forces, a small but determined figure leading this powerful army. He consults a magical minimap, and seeing the temple in the distance, he confirms that they are on the right path. As they draw closer, the Temple of the Green Wind becomes visible, glowing with a soft and ethereal green light. Shutra knows he never would have found the hidden temple without the map, just as a scout cries out in alarm. In the distance, a massive, dark horde has gathered, a terrifying sea of glowing eyes belonging to the Cassius herd. Shutra wonders how the beasts could have possibly discovered the location of the Green Wind's sacred and well-hidden temple. He realizes there must be a traitor or some other factor at play that he is not yet aware of. Savage Eyes notes the enemy's numbers are larger than expected and turns to Shutra to ask if he has a plan. Shutra recalls the spirit's instructions. He must draw power from the fragment of Einkel hidden somewhere inside the ancient temple. He gives the chieftain a direct order. He is heading to the temple, and the army must keep the enemy away. Shutra turns to his loyal companions, Karak and Karma, and tells them it's time to go, and they confirm their readiness. Savage Eyes raises his sword high, ordering his warriors not to let a single enemy beast through to the sacred temple. His voice booms across the battlefield as he gives the final command for his army to prepare for the massive battle. With a mighty war cry, the brave centaur warriors charge forward to meet the oncoming and seemingly endless horde. A line of archers takes aim, their bows drawn taut, ready to unleash the first volley of the engagement. They unleash a shower of arrows, which rain down upon the charging Cassius herd, felling the first wave of the enemy. The infantry lets out a powerful battle cry as they courageously clash with the remaining wolves in a brutal melee. Centaur warrior slices through two of the monstrous beasts with a single, powerful and masterful swing of his sharp sword. Amidst the chaos of the raging battle, Shutra and his party race past the front lines, heading directly for the temple. Rock, riding beside him, confirms that their main objective is to get the prince to the temple, which Shutra affirms. Rock lets out a fierce yell, promising that they will clear a path for him no matter what it takes. With a mighty war cry, Karak swings his massive axe, fearlessly charging into the fray to carve a path for his prince. He brings his axe down in a wide, sweeping arc, cleaving through the monstrous beasts that stand in their way. Karma joins the fray, skillfully using her daggers to fend off two of the shadow wolves at the exact same time. Shutra, racing ahead of his fighting companions, shouts words of encouragement, praising them for their excellent and brave work. He races past them as they hold back the horde, the temple now just a short distance away. Suddenly, a massive, dark object hurtles through the air directly toward him, catching him completely by surprise. The object is a massive, brutish minotaur, which lands with a ground-shaking thud, effectively blocking his path to the temple. The force of the impact sends Shutra flying from his mount, which is tragically crushed beneath the minotaur's immense bulk. The minotaur, wielding a crude but effective wooden club, lets out a guttural and absolutely terrifying roar of triumph. It stomps toward the fallen prince, its sheer size an intimidating sight, as Shutra groans in pain from the fall. He grits his teeth in frustration, cursing himself for letting his guard down at such a critical and dangerous moment. Before the minotaur can strike, Karak intercepts, his massive axe clashing with the beast's club in a shower of golden spark. Karak turns back to check on his prince, who calls out his name in relief, grateful for the timely intervention. Karak tells him to get up, reminding him that this is no time to be resting on the job. The minotaur roars in fury and charges again, but Karak stands his ground, fully prepared to defend his prince. The beast swings its club wildly, but Karak expertly blocks the attack, the powerful impact sending splinters flying everywhere. Karak grunts with the effort of holding back the incredibly powerful creature, refusing to give even a single inch. Shutra teases his friend, telling him that after acting so cool, he had better not be done already. He activates a skill to help, causing a brilliant pillar of golden light to erupt and empower his loyal knight. A surge of new power flows through Karak, who lets out a mighty roar as the golden energy envelops him. Shutra's expression hardens with determination as he announces that from this moment forward, they are going on the offensive. Empowered by the skill, Karak easily shoves the minotaur back, the force of his push sending golden shockwaves through the air. The minotaur stumbles backward, completely stunned and overwhelmed by the orc's sudden and incredible increase in strength. Karak seizes the opportunity, leaping into the air and bringing his axe down in a devastating, energy-infused overhead strike. He lets out a fierce battle cry, putting all of his newfound strength and determination into the powerful attack. He holds his ground, locked in a brutal contest of strength with the formidable and incredibly powerful beast. The minotaur coughs up blood, unable to withstand the sheer, overwhelming force of Karak's relentless and powerful assault. With a final, mighty roar, Karak raises his axe high above his head, preparing to deliver the final, decisive blow. He brings it down with enough force to shatter the ground, finishing the beast for good and ending the threat. The impact sends a massive cloud of dust into the air, marking the end of the difficult and hard-fought battle. Karak tells Shutra to go on ahead, and the prince, trusting his knight, continues his sprint toward the ancient temple. He runs with all his might, his red cape billowing behind him as he races toward the glowing and ancient structure. He dashes up the grand stone staircase and through the temple's massive, open doorway, finally reaching his destination. Inside, a familiar voice urges him to hurry, and he looks around, calling out the name of the Green Wind. The spirit's voice instructs him, telling him that his legendary gauntlet will now guide him to his destination. A stream of green light flows from the gauntlet, leading him deeper into the temple's mysterious and ancient interior. The green light guides him through the temple's ancient and cracked corridors, showing him the way forward. The path of light leads him to a sacred inner chamber where thick, gnarled roots cover the stone floor. In the center of the room stands a colossal ancient tree, pulsating with a powerful, divine green energy. The tree's thick, ancient branches seem to hum with a life of their own, glowing with the same brilliant green light. Leaves swirl around him as he takes in the magnificent and awe-inspiring sight, completely captivated by its ancient beauty. The spectral form of the Green Wind appears before him once more, a single glowing hand outstretched toward the tree. Kshutra looks on, his eyes wide with anticipation and wonder, ready to discover the temple's final, hidden secret. Nestled within the heart of the tree is a glowing, green object, which he instantly recognizes as a legendary dragon heart. He finally understands that the fragment of ankle the spirit mentioned was this, the very source of an elder dragon's power. The spirit explains that the plains have remained peaceful for so long thanks to the magic of the Great Watcher, Ankle. She tells him, this temple is the center of that magic, and if it is destroyed, the region's peace will shatter. She tasks him with awakening the ancient magic of Ankle and stopping the horde, a truly monumental and daunting responsibility. Outside, Savage Eyes rallies his troops, ordering them not to retreat and to protect the temple at all costs. Karak fights with savage intensity, bringing his axe down on a minotaur with incredible and overwhelming brutal force. Karma, surrounded by shadow wolves, fights with skill and ferocity, her daggers flashing as she bravely holds the line. Outside, one of the newly awakened tree guardians looks on in shock, sensing the overwhelming numbers of the enemy. She asks him to protect the Engle Plains and her children with the magic Ankle left behind, offering him the dragon heart. Kshutra reaches out and places his hand on the glowing artifact, ready to accept the immense power and responsibility. A massive surge of green energy erupts from the dragon heart, flowing directly into him with incredible, overwhelming force. As the immense power flows into him, his head snaps upward, completely unprepared for the vision that is about to unfold. His consciousness is pulled into a vast, starry expanse, where he stands before the colossal and majestic elder dragon, Ankle. Kshutra stares up at the divine being, completely awestruck, and can only whisper its legendary and powerful name. The elder dragon's three ancient eyes glow with an unfathomable power as it gazes down at the small boy before it. A deep, resonant voice gives him a simple command, take it. As a massive wave of green energy surges toward him, back in the temple, a brilliant ball of light erupts from the roof, a sign of the ancient power being unleashed. The light shoots into the sky, creating a massive pillar of green energy that can be seen for miles around. The centaur warriors and even the minotaurs stop and stare in awe at the incredible and unexpected display of power. Karak, in the midst of the battle, looks up in shock, wondering if this is somehow the prince's doing. On the battlefield, massive, thorny vines erupt from the ground amidst the fighting, snaking their way toward the enemy horde. The warriors look up in awe as a green beam shoots from the temple and the vines swirl into a vortex. A colossal foot made of gnarled wood slams down onto the battlefield, announcing the arrival of a new, powerful force. The magic fully materializes, revealing an army of massive sentient tree creatures, the ancient guardians of the forest, now awakened. A group of minotaurs and shadow wolves finds themselves completely surrounded by these newly awakened and formidable forest guardians. The guardians waste no time, immediately attacking the surprised beasts with the full force of their ancient, natural power. A minotaur roars in agony as a tree guardian's powerful branch-like arm slams into it with devastating, crushing force. The battlefield descends into chaos as the guardians mercilessly attack the invading horde, completely turning the tide of the battle. Inside the temple, the Green Wind announces with relief that the ancient and powerful magic of Ankle has finally been awakened. She turns to Kshutra, her heart full of gratitude, and thanks him for saving her home, the Engle Plains. But as Kshutra holds the dragon heart, the immense energy flowing from it doesn't stop, much to his surprise. Instead of just awakening the temple's magic, the dragon heart continues to pour its overwhelming power directly into his body. The spirit looks on in complete shock, completely bewildered by this unexpected and highly unusual turn of events. She asks why the mana of Ankle is flowing into him instead of just empowering the temple's defenses. Her expression turns to one of pure horror as she asks if he is actually trying to absorb the elder dragon's power. His body convulses under the strain of the overwhelming energy, his eyes turning white as the power threatens to tear him apart. The spirit shouts at him to stop at once, warning him that his mortal body will not be able to withstand the strain. Despite the immense pain, A golden light radiates from him as he receives a notification that his level has increased. The wounds and strains on his body begin to heal instantly, the golden light sealing the cuts on his face. The green wind watches in stunned silence as his grievous wounds completely vanish in an instant, a truly miraculous sight. His power continues to surge, and 2 more notifications appear, announcing that his level has increased again and again. In his consciousness, the goddess of conquest appears, her voice echoing with a single powerful command to conquer the power. Her voice instructs him to subdue the dragon heart and make its immense and ancient power kneel before his will. He closes his fist, ready to dominate the ancient power and make it his own, no matter the cost. The goddess declares that even the remnant of an elder dragon shall kneel before him and his indomitable will. Back in the temple, the glowing green dragon heart is fully absorbed, embedding itself directly into his chest. The ancient tree in the center of the temple pulses with a brilliant and final burst of divine, magical light. The light then settles, and a serene, magical glow fills the chamber, with embers of light floating gently through the air. Shutra stands hunched over, breathing heavily as he recovers from the intense and painful ordeal, the green aura now surrounding him. He slowly straightens up, his face hidden in shadow, the incredible and dangerous transformation now finally complete. The goddess's voice echoes one last time, addressing him by his new title, You, the Knight of Conquest. A flurry of notifications confirms his incredible power-up, granting him a dragon body, dragon blood, and immunity to all poisons. He examines his new status screen, which now shows him at level 17 with the incredible new title of Dragonborn. The term Dragonborn refers to a being who has awakened their latent dragon genes, allowing them to wield powerful dragon magic. He recalls that his greatest enemy, Zephyr, was a Dragonborn, having awakened the power through his own draconian inheritance. The spirit tells him he has now truly obtained the spirit and body of a dragon, as she can feel Enkel's power within him. She admits she is not disappointed, as this power had been sealed away for a millennium, unusable by anyone until now. She addresses him as the successor to the Watcher Enkel, and tells him that she now has only one final wish. She asks him if he will use his new power to protect the Engel Plains and her children, the centaurs and satyrs. A confident smile crosses Shutra's face as he readily accepts her sacred and important request without a moment of hesitation. Outside, the battle continues to rage, with the awakened tree guardians easily tearing through the enemy forces with their immense strength. The scene focuses on a massive, hulking beast, a Minotaur commander who seems to be leading the entire enemy army. This commander stands out from the rest, its presence radiating a powerful aura as it single-handedly battles a tree guardian. The Minotaur commander lets out a deafening roar, rallying its troops and urging them to fight harder against the centaur army. Shutra steps out of the temple, his eyes immediately drawn to the commanding beast, recognizing it as the enemy leader. With a powerful leap, he launches himself from the temple steps, heading straight for the enemy commander to end the battle. He lands in the thick of the battle, calling out to Karak, who turns in surprise at the prince's sudden return. The Minotaur commander, a monstrous beast with dark fur and glowing red eyes, lets out a ferocious and challenging roar. The beast swings its massive axe, its red eyes glowing with rage as it focuses on the new threat before it. Shutra meets the commander's gaze, his own eyes narrowing with determination, completely unafraid of the massive beast. He throws a powerful punch, his fist glowing with golden energy, striking the beast squarely in the center of its chest. The commander, surprisingly agile, dodges the attack and sends Shutra flying with a powerful and unexpected backhand strike. The beast presses its advantage, leaping into the air and bringing its axe down in a devastating overhead strike. Shutra, undeterred by the beast's agility, challenges it to try and block his next powerful and decisive attack. He unleashes his Fist of Explosion technique, sending a wave of golden energy hurtling toward the commander. He braces for the impact, expecting his powerful attack to do significant and possibly fatal damage to the beast. To his shock, the attack has little effect, and he grits his teeth in frustration at the beast's incredibly thick hide. The Minotaur commander takes the hit and immediately retaliates, its glowing red eyes fixed on him as it swings its axe. Shutra barely manages to dodge the attack, realizing that even his most powerful move is not enough to defeat this enemy. A confident smirk appears on his face as he decides it's time to show the beast something completely new. He activates his newly acquired skill, Dragon Blood, and a swirling, powerful purple aura erupts all around him. A notification announces that his gauntlet, Earthquaker, is now releasing its true power, crackling with immense purple energy. Shutra focuses all of his newfound power into his gauntlet, declaring he will stake everything on this one decisive strike. The Minotaur commander roars and charges, swinging its axe, as Shutra meets the attack with his own brilliant energy blast. As their powers collide, Shutra confidently calls out to his loyal knight, telling him that it is now his turn to act. He uses his Summon the King's Knight skill, instantly teleporting Karak directly behind the surprised Minotaur commander. Karak appears in a flash of light, bringing his axe down with devastating force on the back of the commander's head. The commander roars in agony, stunned and wounded by the completely unexpected and perfectly timed blow from behind. Shutra, his gauntlet crackling with energy, warns the beast to look forward to what's coming next, his confidence now soaring. The commander's red eyes narrow, sensing the immense and dangerous power that is gathering directly in front of it. A fierce grin spreads across Shutra's face as he promises this next attack will be completely different from the last one. He unleashes the Earthquaker's secret art, a technique combining all of his powers into one overwhelming and devastating attack. He flies toward the beast, enveloped in a massive vortex of golden and purple energy, ready to end the battle. The Centaur warriors watched in awe as the prince and his knight launched a perfectly coordinated surprise attack. The Centaur chieftain, Savage Eyes, could hardly believe the immense power being displayed by the young prince. Karak, the loyal orc knight, maintained a look of absolute confidence and fierce determination in his master. Shutra unleashed a gigantic fist made of pure earth, completely obliterating the massive monster in a single blow. A golden light surrounded Shutra as a notification confirmed his level had increased after the incredible fight. Looking over the battlefield, he saw more messages confirming his victory over the formidable boss, Drake Ogre Mustafa. Standing over the fading remains of his enemy, Shutra was awarded the prestigious new title of Drake Ogre Slayer. He breathed heavily, realizing that the timely level up was the only thing that kept him from collapsing. He knew a special skill was needed to unlock a weapon's true power, which he didn't have yet. This meant his gauntlet held even greater power, a thought interrupted by Karak's report of fleeing enemies. Hearing this, Savage Eyes let out a mighty cry and leaped forward to cut down retreating monsters. The chieftain commanded his warriors to chase every last enemy, warning that they would otherwise return someday. With their spirits high, the determined centaurs charged after the fleeing monsters, ensuring none would escape alive. Night fell on a now peaceful temple, the stars watching over the aftermath of a hard-won victory. The victorious warriors celebrated around a large fire, with even Shutra joining in for a quiet drink. Karak and the satyr guide, Karma, laughed together, clinking their mugs in a cheerful toast to their success. Inside the quiet temple, gentle light illuminated the great tree, creating a serene and magical atmosphere. The spirit Greenwind appeared before Shutra, curiously asking why he had left the lively celebration to see her. Shutra explained he had some questions, and the spirit kindly agreed to answer them for saving her home. Before he could ask, she requested he release her from his control, leaving him completely baffled. She explained that absorbing the dragon's magic had bound her to his will, a surprising side effect. Understanding the situation, Shutra confidently stood beside the glowing spirit, preparing to undo the accidental magical bond. After a few moments of awkward silence, it became clear that absolutely nothing was happening between them. Shutra gave a sheepish smile, admitting with some embarrassment that he did not know how to release her. The spirit's eyes widened in utter disbelief. She was completely stunned by his cluelessness about her situation. Her calm demeanor shattered as she angrily questioned why he acted so confident without knowing what to do. He tried to calm the fuming spirit, suggesting he just needed a moment to think the problem through. Greenwind dramatically declared that she was now his to command, bound to obey his every order. He quickly clarified, asking if she felt any negative changes, but she confirmed her abilities were fine. However, she explained her existence was tied to the land. If she left, the entire plains would wither. Shutra considered this problem carefully, a thoughtful expression on his face as he searched for a solution. He suggested she could simply stay in the plains, a logical idea that left her completely speechless. Shutra smiled, pointing out that there was no real reason for her to follow him everywhere she went. Her eyes filled with tears as she tragically asked if he was truly planning on abandoning her. Flustered, he asked if she wanted to come, to which he tearfully insisted it was her duty. He managed a strained smile, realizing with a sweat drop he had accidentally formed a spirit contract. He reminded her that she was the guardian of the plains, which she quietly confirmed was her role. He then asked if she could create a substitute to take her place, an idea she considered. She agreed it was possible but would take time, delighting Shutra with the perfect solution to his problem. She warned him that to do so, she would have to leave most of her power behind. Shutra happily dismissed her concerns, knowing that a contract with a high-ranking spirit was a massive win. Moved by his kindness, she looked at him with devoted eyes as he prepared to ask his questions. His tone became serious as he asked the ancient spirit how and when the great dragon, Ankle, died. The spirit's cheerful mood vanished, her eyes widening with shock and a hint of sadness at his question. She explained that, as a mere fragment of the dragon, she did not possess all of its memories. However, a chaotic memory flashed in her mind, and she revealed that Ankle had been murdered a millennium ago. Shutra was stunned by this revelation, and she added that the killer was not another elder dragon. He wondered what kind of being could possibly possess the power to kill a godlike elder dragon. The spirit lightened the mood, asking him to speak more casually now that they were officially bound together. He asked his next question. Could he now, as Ankle's successor, contain another dragon's power? She thought for a moment, explaining that while it was normally impossible, he might be a special case. She revealed that since he already balanced 2 opposing dragon powers, he might be able to handle more. He smirked, amazed at his own incredible potential, and announced that he had one final question for her. He asked the spirit directly if she knew anything about the unique personal power that he possessed. She turned her head, gently reminding him again that her memories of the great dragon were incomplete. She closed her eyes, admitting that because of this, her knowledge of his specific abilities was limited. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of green light erupted from her and shot directly toward the surprised prince. The overwhelming energy washed over him, and he stumbled backward, completely unprepared for the sudden power surge. As he lost consciousness, the spirit's voice echoed, prophesying his destiny as a great conquering knight. A massive ethereal dragon appeared behind her, as she declared that the power of a king would be his. A new day dawned over the Engel Plains, the bright morning sun shining down on the grand temple. Shutra's unconscious body gently floated down to the temple floor after the spirit's powerful prophecy concluded. He slowly opened his eyes, groaning softly as he tried to understand what had just happened to him. He looked up at the great tree, confused but remembering he had been talking to the nature spirit. Green Wind appeared before him, asking if he was finally awake as he sat up. Remembering everything now, she explained that the dragon's consciousness within her must have surfaced, overwhelming him with its ancient power. He clearly recalled the vision of the great dragon and the prophecy that foretold his incredible destiny. The prophecy was clear. He was destined to conquer all of creation with the power of a king. Shutra finally understood that the great dragon Ankul must have known about his unique abilities all along. The spirit extended her hand, declaring him her eternal master and revealing she had more to tell him. A cascade of glowing green symbols surrounded him as she shared new, important information with her master. She showed him a map of the northern plains, revealing the location of one of Ankel's hidden relics. She explained the relic was an artifact of immense power, much like his own gauntlet, called the Shield of Life. 1,000 years ago, the dragon gave the shield to a righteous centaur who won countless battles. However, the great warrior was betrayed one night by a woman sent by his enemies and was killed. Because only its owner could wield the shield, his followers buried the legendary artifact with him in his tomb. Centuries passed, and the incredible story of the powerful Shield of Life slowly faded into a distant legend. In honor of the fallen hero, the centaurs eventually renamed the legendary shield after him, White Suri. Shutra's eyes widened with excitement. He recognized the name from the lore of his favorite video game. He knew it as the rarest shield in the game, an item no player had ever managed to find. He eagerly asked for the tomb's location, and she replied she could find it in the north. But she reminded him that first she had to create a replacement for herself to protect the plains. He asked how long it would take, and she estimated about 2 days, thanks to his prior help. Delighted, Shutra announced their departure in 2 days, confident they could make the journey to the north. His expression was one of pure resolve. He knew that acquiring that legendary shield was absolutely essential. Over the next 2 days, preparations were made for the journey under the bright, clear morning sky. He decided on a cover story. He would claim he was hunting down the last of the Cassius monsters. However, he realized the temple's activated magic would have alerted the Demon King's castle to his presence. He knew an investigator would likely arrive within a week, which meant he was running out of time. Just as he decided to leave immediately, Savage Eyes reported that a visitor had already arrived from the castle. Shutra was startled by the news, unable to believe someone from the castle had gotten there so quickly. Inside the temple, peaceful sunlight streamed through the high windows, illuminating the great and ancient tree within. He turned and was stunned to see a familiar face, who amusingly asked why he looked so shocked. Princess Felicia stood with her arms crossed, playfully remarking that he looked like he had seen a ghost. Completely bewildered, Shutra stammered her name and asked what she was possibly doing all the way out here. Felicia suggested they should probably greet the other unexpected guests before getting into any serious discussions. A young green-skinned girl stepped forward and offered a polite, graceful curtsy to the 9th prince. She introduced herself with a friendly smile as Daphne, one of his many half-sisters from the castle. Shutra was shocked again, recognizing her from his gained knowledge as the incredibly powerful Dryad-born druid. He remembered her as one of 3 crucial siblings that he absolutely had to recruit for his future. Felicia explained Daphne was a skilled druid who would be helpful, and Daphne agreed it was a pleasure. Stunned by his luck, he realized he needed to make a very good first impression on his future ally. He asked Felicia why she wasn't on her own mission, and she admitted he finished his too quickly. She leaned in close, her expression serious, as she warned him that he was attracting far too much attention. Finishing a 2-week mission in just 2 days was so unusual it had put everyone on high alert. She explained that if she hadn't come, the castle would have sent someone to interrogate or spy on him. He was touched, understanding that his sister had come all this way just to protect him from trouble. Felicia looked away with a slight blush, adding she was also curious about the temple's strange magic. Shutra smiled warmly, realizing that she had a surprisingly caring side, and sincerely thanked her for her concern. To hide her embarrassment, Felicia quickly changed the subject and asked him what his plans were now. He announced his cover story of scouting the north while secretly planning to find the legendary shield. Savage Eyes clapped a hand on his shoulder, declaring it was his duty as chieftain to go with him. Flustered by the unexpected addition, he agreed, just before Felicia announced that she would be going too. She reasoned that studying living monsters would be far more useful for her research than studying dead ones. He forced a smile, agreeing that more help was good, while panicking about his secret mission. Karak watched the growing party with a frown, sensing that things were about to get very complicated. A few days later, the expanded group traveled across the plains under a sky with 2 faint moons. Suddenly, a monstrous wolf-like creature let out a ferocious battle cry, its sharp, wicked teeth bared. The warriors were instantly on alert, their weapons ready as they prepared to defend against a surprise attack. Karak smirked with grim satisfaction. His prediction that things would get complicated had come true very quickly. The hunting party was suddenly swarmed by huge, snarling beasts, confirming Karak's instincts in the worst way. The brave centaur warriors immediately leaped into action, their swords and arrows meeting the ferocious monster horde. A monster lunged directly for him, and he gritted his teeth in frustration at the sudden ambush. He reacted in a flash, sidestepping the beast and landing a powerful, glowing punch to its side. He angrily wondered where these creatures came from. Certain they had already wiped out the entire herd. A new threat appeared as winged, gargoyle-like monsters with glowing red eyes shrieked down from the sky. He looked up with alarm, recognizing the troublesome flying monsters, and realizing how much worse things had gotten. His eyes began to glow a vibrant green as he declared the monsters weren't the only ones who could fly. He activated a new skill, floating effortlessly into the air, as his body became as light as wind. The tiny spirit appeared, shocked, and demanded to know how he was able to use her unique magic. Ignoring her, he shot into the air like a rocket, heading directly for the swarm of flying monsters. The lead flying creature looked on in stunned confusion, not expecting its target to fight back in midair. Shutra unleashed a devastating punch in the air, the explosive force creating a brilliant flash of light. The powerful attack sent the monster hurtling to the ground as Shutra was pushed back by the force. He landed gracefully with a confident smirk, telling the monsters to stop getting in his way. The tiny spirit trembled, having a small crisis about her purpose if he could use her powers. On the ground, the young druid Daphne stood alone, looking pale and shaken by the violent battle. Her face was etched with fear, her hands clenched tightly as she trembled, clearly feeling overwhelmed by everything. A huge monster took advantage of her fear, diving down from behind with its sharp claws extended. With a furious roar, Karak charged in and intercepted the monster just before it could strike the druid. Nearby, Felicia gathered powerful magic, remarking that the chaotic situation was actually quite convenient for her plans. She unleashed a massive wave of energy from the sky, obliterating the monsters attacking her from all sides. As the fighting died down, the evening sun cast a warm, hazy light over the silent battlefield. The battle was over, and the ground was littered with the bodies of the defeated monster horde. Felicia pointed out a faint purple aura around the dead monsters that Shutra could now vaguely see. She explained her theory to the others that the strange and unnatural aura was a type of curse magic. The curse made the creatures stronger but also drained their life force and dulled their emotions completely. She concluded with a serious expression that some wicked person had been controlling all of these monsters. Shutra was horrified, realizing a new, unknown enemy was pulling the strings now that the Minotaur was gone. Just as he was processing this grim new reality, Karak urgently called out to him to wait. Karak noted that the young druid, Daphne, had been tense the whole time, guessing it was her first battle. Shutra agreed, realizing this inexperienced version of Daphne was very different from the one he knew from the game. Daphne clutched a plant, explaining she could feel the spirits, fear, and a growing evil to the north. The spirit confirmed she also sensed a sinister energy from the north, likely the source of the curse. Savage Eyes suggested they investigate from the old observation tower at the northern border to get a better view. Shutra sighed, frustrated that his simple treasure hunt had become so complicated, but he agreed to the plan. The group continued their journey as the sun set, heading toward the tower under a beautiful sky. They finally arrived at a tall, solitary stone tower that stood silently under the starry night sky. The entire party gathered at the top of the tower, looking out over the dark and sprawling landscape. In the distance, they saw a massive swarm of monsters, easily 200 or 300 of them gathered. Felicia grimly explained only a high-ranking undead, like a lich, could command such a massive, powerful army. The intense, evil energy became too much for the sensitive druid, and she suddenly collapsed to her knees. Karak rushed to her side to help her, but she weakly insisted that she was going to be fine. Felicia explained that because Daphne was a half-spirit, she was deeply affected by the powerful, dark energy. Seeing the danger, Felicia wisely advised that their current forces were not enough, and they should retreat immediately. But just as she suggested leaving, her eyes widened with a look of pure, unadulterated shock and alarm. Her face paled as she sensed something approaching them with incredible speed, leaving Shutra completely baffled by her sudden panic. A holographic map appeared beside Shutra, and he tried to understand what was happening around all of them. The map showed their position was now completely surrounded by a sea of red enemy signals, cutting off escape. Karak frantically pointed to the sky, yelling at the prince to look at what was coming toward them. The night sky was filled with a terrifying meteor shower, with flaming rocks hurtling directly toward the tower. Shutra's face contorted with a mix of fury and horror as he finally understood the enemy's wicked plan. He screamed at the top of his lungs that it was a trap. ordering everyone to evacuate the tower now. It was far too late. The meteors smashed into the tower, causing a series of massive, fiery explosions. The entire group screamed in terror as the tower began to crumble and collapse underneath their very feet. The ancient tower was reduced to a pile of rubble, the ominous purple army watching its total destruction. Amidst the chaos of the collapse, Felicia's eyes glowed with fierce determination, refusing to let them all die. She cast a powerful wind spell, creating a vortex of energy that caught her allies and the debris. The spell blasted the massive chunks of the tower away, saving the entire party from being crushed. They landed safely on the ground, and Felicia rushed to Shutra, who confirmed he was shaken but okay. Savage Eyes sincerely thanked the princess, knowing her powerful magic was the only reason they all survived the collapse. Felicia gestured to the massive army, stating that their overwhelming numbers meant they still had to escape. Shutra noted they were completely surrounded, so Felicia asked him to buy her just a little more time. She gathered a brilliant pink energy in her hands, promising she would find a way to break through. Shutra watched his sister with deep concern, knowing that their survival now depended entirely on her powerful magic. Trusting her completely, he drew his glowing golden dagger and prepared to hold off the endless enemy horde. He activated his empowering skill, and a brilliant golden light washed over his allies, boosting their strength. Savage Eyes looked at his own hands in amazement, feeling an incredible surge of new power flowing through him. The spirit worriedly asked if he truly intended to fight them, and he confirmed with absolute resolve. He explained their only choice was to trust Felicia as she gathered an immense amount of magical energy. Shutra clenched his powerful gauntlet, the stone plates glowing with a dangerous and formidable latent energy. He roared a command for his empowered allies to prepare themselves for the desperate battle that was ahead. The warriors let out a unified battle cry and charged forward to meet the encroaching tide of darkness. Shutra yelled with fierce determination, declaring that they would not be pushed back by the enemy horde. Karak swung his axe with incredible, empowered strength, effortlessly slicing through the relentless, skeletal soldiers in his path. Savage Eyes and his centaurs fought with renewed vigor, their weapons crashing against the endless undead army. Shutra leaped into the enemy horde, unleashing a massive explosion that obliterated dozens of skeletons in a flash. The skeletal remains were sent flying across the dark, war-torn ground, shattering into hundreds of bony pieces. From the debris, a single skull with glowing purple eyes floated menacingly, still radiating dark, evil energy. Shutra landed, breathing heavily, as the continuous use of his powerful skills began to drain all his stamina. To his horror, a skeleton began to reassemble itself, and he realized the battle would never end. A skeleton warrior let out a silent, chilling battle cry as the endless horde continued its relentless advance. His expression hardened. He knew their only hope was to find and kill the leader controlling the army. Just then, a rain of deadly purple magic bolts shot down from the dark and ominous night sky. The centaur warriors cried out in agony as the unexpected magical assault struck them down from behind. Karak shielded himself from the deadly purple energy, wondering what new horror was attacking them all now. The entire battlefield was bombarded by the relentless magical assault, tearing through their empowered and brave forces. A fallen warrior cried out in pain, a malevolent orb of purple fire burning brightly in his chest. A massive, armored silhouette holding a great sword stepped through the carnage, radiating an aura of pure death. The Lich revealed itself, a towering, skeletal knight in dark armor, its eyes glowing with ancient intelligence. Shutra locked eyes with the towering figure, realizing with grim certainty that he had found the undead leader. Savage Eyes let out a furious battle cry and charged the Lich, swinging his massive sword at it. His face was a mask of pure rage as he brought his sword down on the undead commander. The Lich effortlessly sidestepped the attack and kicked the powerful centaur, sending him flying through the air. Karak roared in fury and charged in next, his axe ready to strike down the monstrous Lich. He swung his weapon with all his might, but the Lich blocked the powerful blow with one hand. Karak grunted in pain, his arms trembling from the sheer force of the Lich's impossibly strong defense. The Lich retaliated with a powerful swing of its greatsword that was almost too fast to see. The devastating blow sent Karak crashing hard to the ground, his body battered and bruised from the impact. Seizing the opening, Shutra launched himself at the Lich, his powerful gauntlet glowing with immense golden energy. He flew through the air, taunting the Lich for coming to him and declaring this was the end. He unleashed a massive explosion from his fist that connected squarely with the Lich's armored chest plate. For a brief moment, it seemed like his powerful attack might have actually worked against the commander. However, the Lich swatted him out of the air, sending him hurtling back down to the ground. Shutra landed hard, clutching his chest in pain, completely shocked by the enemy's incredible defensive power. He realized this foe was far stronger than anything they had faced, and was not someone they could handle. Just then, Felicia's calm voice cut in, telling Shutra that he had done enough and could rest. The Lich turned its glowing purple eyes toward her, silently acknowledging the new and powerful challenger before it. Shutra looked over at his sister, confused and surprised by her sudden and unexpected calm intervention in the fight. She stepped forward, her body radiating an immense aura of pink magic as she prepared to fight. Her eyes glowed with fierce power as she dared the skeletal commander to face her in single combat. Felicia unleashes a massive magical blast right in the Lich's skeletal face. The lich stumbles back, clearly surprised that her powerful attack actually hurt it. The angry monster retaliates, sending Felicia flying backward with a mighty swing. She gracefully recovers mid-air, gathering a storm of powerful wind magic. The lich reaches for her, but she's already preparing her next big move. Felicia's body glows as she uses a tricky teleportation spell to reposition herself. The lich looks up, surprised to see her ghostly image appear right behind it. She blasts the lich's head from behind with a concentrated sphere of energy. From afar, Shutra watches the massive explosion with a look of pure shock. He can't help but smile, realizing Felicia is way stronger than he thought. A strange green light appears behind him, catching his immediate and confused attention. Daphne, now glowing with power, calmly asks Shutra if he is feeling alright. She unleashes a huge wave of healing green wind that covers the battlefield. The restorative energy flows into the battered savage, mending his many wounds. Karak is also caught in the healing wave, feeling his strength quickly returning. He looks at his hands, surprised by the sudden surge of newfound power. Shutra is thrilled, realizing Daphne is finally using her unique area-wide buff. A strange system notification pops up, activating a new boost for Shutra. Swirling lights of blue and yellow energy suddenly envelop his entire body. He feels a strange and powerful new energy coursing through his veins. He has suddenly acquired a brand new skill, leaving him very confused. Shutra grins, feeling an incredible surge of power from his new ability. He realizes he now holds two spirits at once, a truly special power. Eagerly, he tests his newfound strength by launching a series of fiery explosions. Meanwhile, a tired Felicia struggles against the lich, who is still standing strong. She teleports again, preparing another powerful attack against the relentless undead monster. Her rapid-fire magical attacks are effortlessly deflected by the lich's dark power. She mutters in frustration about how incredibly persistent the monstrous lich is. Pouring all her remaining energy into one final attack, she fires a beam. But as her attack hits, her eyes widen in shock. Something is wrong. Karak roars with newfound strength, his eyes glowing with powerful green energy. He leaps forward, swinging his massive blade to intercept Felicia's magical attack. The lich is surprised, caught completely off guard between two powerful incoming attacks. Shutra flies up beside Felicia, congratulating her on doing an amazing job. Felicia is shocked to see Shutra suddenly flying right next to her. He tells her to leave the final blow to him as he charges his fist. Shutra unleashes a massive explosive punch, blasting the lich with incredible force. He lands as the lich stumbles back, its armor finally cracked and smoking. Karak and Shutra share a laugh, jokingly arguing over whose attack was better. Karak charges forward, confidently declaring that he will deliver the finishing blow. But as he swings, a terrible feeling makes him suddenly stop his attack. A violent explosion of dark purple energy erupts from the lich's body. Shutra screams his friend's name in terror as the dark energy engulfs him. Shutra braces himself as the force of the dark explosion hits him next. A dark, corrupting energy spreads across his cheek like twisted purple veins. His eyes widen in pure agony as the foul magic courses through him. Felicia watches in horror as her allies are scattered across the ground. She whispers in denial, a cold sweat breaking out on her forehead. The lich, that awful monster, stands unharmed over Shutra as Felicia screams his name. The scene shifts to a peaceful forest under a beautiful starry night sky. Green Wind, in her tiny spirit form, zips quickly through the quiet woods. She suddenly stops, sensing a powerful and mysterious presence very close by. In a hidden clearing, she discovers a spot bathed in a soft light. It's the tomb of the warrior, where a magnificent sword rests in stone. Back on the battlefield, the lich raises its sword, crackling with dark magic. The monster's gaze shifts away from the fallen Shutra on the ground. Felicia, surrounded by magic circles, angrily asks why it dares to look away. With a furious roar, she declares that she is its one true opponent. She unleashes a massive triple blast of magic, aiming to destroy the lich. The lich braces itself, its body now glowing with a strange golden aura. The combined magical energies swirl together, but the lich has mysteriously vanished. Felicia is shocked when the monster suddenly teleports directly behind her back. She realizes in horror that the lich just copied her own teleportation spell. The lich strikes her with a powerful slash of concentrated dark magical energy. Felicia barely manages to raise a hand to block the devastatingly powerful attack. With pure hatred, she curses the monster, gathering her remaining strength. The lich smashes its massive fist into the ground with terrifying force. The ground shatters, sending a massive shockwave of dark energy outward. Felicia is thrown to the ground as the lich's undead army swarms her. Shutra lies motionless on the battlefield, a scene of complete and utter despair. A gentle voice echoes in his mind, urging its master to please wake up. Shutra finds himself floating in a green void, confused by the voice's warning. Green Wind appears in her beautiful spirit form, telling him to awaken a power. He is bewildered, asking her how he is supposed to awaken this power. He looks up, his attention drawn to a brilliant source of green light. A vision of Green Wind appears, holding a glowing artifact and reminding him. As his mind returns to his body, he remembers the critical key, Dragon blood. A massive beam of green life-giving energy descends from the sky. Felicia is startled by the sudden flash of light amid the undead horde. She looks up with an expression of confusion as the energy washes over her. The undead monsters around her are instantly vaporized by the brilliant green light. A protective wave of energy expands outward, clearing a path through the monsters. The energy culminates in a massive explosion that purifies the entire area. Shutra pushes himself up, feeling a powerful presence materializing behind him. A massive, ornate green shield appears. He recognizes it as the White Suri. Green Wind explains she was searching for the shield's hidden resting place. She admits leaving him was reckless, but she succeeded in her important mission. Shutra smiles gratefully, but she tells him praise can wait for later. The Lich looms before them, raising its massive sword for a final attack. Shutra is thrown back as the Lich brings its sword down with incredible force, but the White Suri effortlessly deflects the Lich's massive sword, saving Shutra. Shutra hovers in the air, surprised but ready, as the Lich looks on. The Lich opens its mouth and fires a beam of pure dark energy. Shutra cries out, shocked by the incredible and unexpected speed of the attack. The concentrated beam of dark power rockets through the air toward him. Felicia screams Shutra's name in horror as the Lich prepares another attack. The Lich stands firm, its armor slightly smoking from the powerful energy beam. It looks up to see Shutra floating defiantly, protected by the shield. Shutra, now wielding the White Suri, is wreathed in green, life-giving energy. He feels a new power flowing into him, transforming him into a dragonborn. Green Wind asks if he can feel the new, immense power awakening inside him. The ancient magic of Inkle, preserved inside the shield, surges through him. The Lich gathers its own dark energy, its hand crackling with purple lightning. Shutra grins, declaring that this new power feels absolutely insane and wonderful. The Lich stares at him, its glowing eyes filled with rage and disbelief. Shutra smirks, taunting the monster and telling it to keep acting tough. With absolute confidence, he declares that he will destroy it completely this time. He pauses, thoughtfully examining his new shield and the power it holds. He unleashes a wave of energy that obliterates the remaining undead soldiers. Felicia watches, stunned, as the monsters around her dissolve into harmless dust. The Lich, now alone, lets out a furious and completely enraged roar. It swings its sword, sending a wave of dark energy toward a target. The White Suri materializes instantly, blocking the powerful attack with complete ease. The shield then transforms, its edges sharpening into a series of deadly wings. It spins rapidly, becoming a blur of motion as it prepares to counterattack. Shutra appears beside the distracted Lich, scolding it for looking away from him. He unleashes another explosive punch, striking the Lich directly in the head. The Lich growls as its helmet cracks under the force of the blow. Enraged, the fucking monster retaliates with a barrage of fiery projectiles at Shutra. Shutra quickly dodges, narrowly escaping the series of powerful fireballs. Shutra lunges forward, striking the monster's neck with a piercing green energy. The attack hits its mark, causing the powerful Lich to finally stagger backward. The White Suri spins through the air like a lethal, bladed boomerang. The shield fires multiple beams of light, shredding the Lich's magical defenses. That piece of shit monster screams as its dark energy begins to leak out. Shutra leaps high above the giant, preparing his final, most powerful punch. He clenches his fist, naming his new ultimate technique, the Gigantic Piston. He drives his fist into the Lich's chest, creating a massive shockwave. The Lich's chest plate disintegrates as the purple fire inside it fades away. Shutra stands tall, telling the monster that this is finally the end. He makes a sharp gesture, focusing all of the shield's remaining energy. A blinding pillar of green energy erupts, piercing through the Lich's skull. The Lich's head shatters into pieces, and its dark power finally dies. The undead soldiers stop, completely confused without their commander's dark magic. A massive purple explosion ripples across the field as the dark magic collapses. Shutra receives a notification that he has defeated the boss and leveled up. He smiles, having earned the new and impressive title of Kingslayer. Felicia runs to his side, suggesting they leave while the monsters are disorganized. The remaining undead turn on each other in a mindless, violent frenzy. Later that night, the party gathers safely around a warm campfire. Felicia asks him to confirm if the incredible artifact is the real White Suri. Karak and Savage are in awe, amazed that the old legends were true. Daphne senses a massive life force inside the shield, but notes its hidden power. Shutra realizes the shield is limiting its strength to match his own abilities. Felicia promises not to report the legendary shield, entrusting it to him. Savage recognizes Shutra as the true successor of the great warrior White Suri. He promises that his people will always answer if Shutra calls for aid. Shutra thanks them, satisfied that everything turned out perfectly in the end. But then, he suddenly remembers there is one more important thing to do. He laughs greedily, announcing that now comes the fun part, collecting loot. Shutra is happily looting when a voice insists he is not finished yet. Green Wind appears with a pout, reminding him that he forgot her praise. Karak is scared by the spirit, but she scolds Shutra for his forgetfulness. Shutra smiles, patting her head and telling her she did an amazing job. Her anger melts away, and she quietly announces that she will forgive him. She then looks at him with wide, sparkling eyes, demanding more praise later. He happily agrees, petting her head like she is an adorable, happy puppy. The beautiful sunrise marks the peaceful and successful end of their long mission. But even with the victory, a lingering question still remains for Shutra. He wonders if the Lich was truly the source of the evil energy. He questions why the Lich attacked and how it found the hidden shrine. Standing alone, Shutra's expression is serious, the victory feeling strangely incomplete. He makes a silent vow to one day uncover the truth behind it all. After returning from the north, life for the party became very busy. Savage Eyes gathered his warriors to finally complete their original monster hunting mission. Shutra joined him, and they spent half a month fighting together. Back at the outpost, the days passed peacefully under a clear blue sky. Felicia strokes her chin thoughtfully, sensing a subtle change in Shutra's power. She comments that he seems stronger, and he just smirks about his growth. He asks about her temple investigation, and she replies that it went well. Her eyes gleam with excitement as she reveals she made a huge discovery. She proudly announces the temple's magic belonged to the elder dragon Ankle, feigns shock and surprise, pretending he didn't already know that fact. Felicia eyes him suspiciously, asking if he somehow already knew about it. Green Wind points out his awkward acting, so he suggests they go report. The scene shifts to the massive, imposing Demon King Castle against a red sky. Inside, Felicia is swarmed by her ladies-in-waiting, who are happy she's back. She greets them elegantly, while Shutra and Karak watch from a safe distance. Shutra comments to Karak that the castle hasn't changed at all. He smiles, realizing that while the castle is the same, they have changed forever. Karak asks Shutra if he did something wrong as they step off the teleporter. A group of 3 hostile succubi glare at them with cold, angry eyes. Shutra realizes with caution that these succubi must belong to Princess Anastasia. He recalls that Anastasia is the powerful leader of a major political faction. He remembers that even Felicia was once a part of her powerful group. He tells Karak to get used to the attention. News has reached Anastasia. With a confident grin, Shutra declares they'll be getting more attention now. They head to the Office of Public Merits under a beautiful dusky sky. The supervisor informs him his merit level has risen, increasing his allowance. She announces that he now has access to the Royal Treasure Vault. Shutra laughs, thrilled that he finally gets to go on a shopping spree. He is told that his new rank grants him access to the first vault. The demon's supervisor explains he can buy weapons with gold instead of points. They enter a vast chamber filled with an incredible array of fine weapons. Shutra generously tells a shocked Karak to pick out anything he needs. He explains that a stronger Karak is a more useful Karak, motivating him. Shutra smiles, remembering the importance of investing in good equipment. He finds a leather chest plate that offers excellent protection and flexibility. Satisfied with his choice, he decides he just needs one last item. At the blacksmith, the artisan correctly guesses he needs a pair of greaves. Shutra explains that standard greaves are too clumsy for his fighting style. The blacksmith says he can make them in 2 days, and asks about materials. He casually suggests using extremely rare dragon leather and scales for the job. Shutra is stunned, asking where he's supposed to get something so rare. The blacksmith is confused, saying materials for him arrived just that morning. Shutra has no idea what he's talking about, leaving the blacksmith surprised. He explains that the legendary Lord Ishigard ordered the delivery for him. Shutra is shocked to hear the name of the realm's greatest swordsman. Ishigard is a legendary warrior who even taught the Demon King himself. Arak wonders why such a legend would help, but Shutra has no idea. Shutra wonders if the Sword Lord is helping him due to the king's favor. A castle attendant sprints toward them, shouting that he has urgent news. The attendant pants for breath as Shutra asks what the big rush is. He announces an audience ceremony with the king tomorrow, to Shutra's dismay. The ceremony is to commend all 3 contributors, confusing Shutra. The attendant reveals the 3rd contributor is the powerful second prince, Zephyr. A tall, red-haired figure is shown. Prince Zephyr Ragnaros has finally returned. The attendant repeats the name, confirming the return of a major political rival. Ak calls out to his prince, noticing the sudden, drastic shift in his mood. Shutra stands frozen, his eyes glowing with a cold and intense blue light. He has a horrifying memory of Zephyr standing over his own dead body. He's terrified, knowing he's about to meet the man destined to kill him. The Demon King Castle looms, reflecting the danger and dread Shutra now feels. Later, a worried Karak asks Shutra if he is feeling all right. Shutra is hunched over, looking pale, and Karak notes he's been unwell. Shutra admits to himself that he never imagined he would be this nervous. An attendant explains Prince Zephyr is so important he will enter separately. Felicia adds that Zephyr has always been treated as someone very special. Felicia reminds Shutra that his own accomplishments are also incredibly impressive. She kindly encourages him not to feel intimidated by his older brother. With a confident smile, she tells him they will show everyone their best. The ceremony begins in the throne room, with the Demon King watching. The king's gaze sweeps over the court as he awaits the honorees. An official announces the entrance of Princess Felicia and Prince Shutra. Shutra forces himself to walk confidently, trying to control his racing heart. As he walks, he glances up at the royal balcony where his siblings watch. He spots Princess Anastasia looking down with a bored, arrogant expression. She lounges gracefully, observing her younger brother's moment in the spotlight. Shutra steals his resolve, knowing this is a challenge he must overcome. The official's voice booms, announcing that the next prince will now enter. The announcer calls for the second prince, Zephyr Ragnaros, to enter. His heavy boot lands on the floor with an authoritative echoing thud. Shutra watches him approach, his fear battling against a sense of destiny. Prince Zephyr walks with an unnerving calm, his presence completely intimidating. He stops, a single horn on his head marking him as important. With a sharp, intense gaze, he stands silently before the throne. The court official begins to read the list of the royals' accomplishments. It is clear that Zephyr's achievements alone warranted this entire grand ceremony. Next, Felicia and Shutra's deeds are announced, capturing the court's attention. The Demon King addresses Shutra directly, announcing he will grant a mission. Felicia's eyes widen in surprise. This is a highly unusual royal command. Anastasia, on the balcony, also looks intrigued by this break from protocol. Even the stoic Prince Zephyr seems to react to the surprising announcement. The three royal siblings are united in a moment of shared, silent shock. Shutra is completely taken aback by the king's unprecedented public assignment. His mission is to explore the thunder-doomed fortress of the Dwarven Kingdom. Isabella shows him a map, giving him 7 days to prepare for departure. Shutra instantly recognizes the fortress as a key location from the game. Isabella explains the previous mission failed when its general was mysteriously killed. She warns him to prepare countermeasures for the reported toxic gas inside. Shutra sighs heavily, feeling that something is deeply wrong with this mission. If a powerful general of draconic descent failed, how could he possibly succeed? He wonders why this dangerous mission wasn't given to Prince Zephyr instead. Felicia bluntly asks if he has done something to anger their father. She explains that a high-risk mission like this would normally go to Zephyr. They both agree that the mission seems far too dangerous for Shutra. Felicia asks for his opinion, and he can only stammer in agreement. With a warm smile, she announces that she will accompany him for safety. She pretends to be annoyed, but Karak teases her for inviting herself along. Shutra smiles warmly, grateful for her loyalty, and happily accepts her offer. A polite male elf asks if he might also join them on their mission. The blue-haired siren smiles intensely, asking for Prince Shutra's permission to join. Felicia recognizes the siren, saying his name, Khodorov. With some surprise, Shutra politely but firmly turns him down, saying the team is already set. Khodorov bows and excuses himself, walking away from the group without argument. Felicia questions Shutra's decision, noting that the male siren is very competent. Shutra knows she is right. Khodorov is a very powerful magic user. But as Khodorov walks away, he uses a stealthy teleportation spell to vanish. Shutra knows the truth. Khodorov is a fanatically loyal spy for Princess Anastasia. Elsewhere, Khodorov kneels in a dark room, reporting back to his master. Shutra smirks, realizing Anastasia must be very worried to send her best spy. He mentally challenges his sister to watch him closely from the shadows. Anastasia sips her wine, admitting her little brother is more cautious than expected. Later, in his quarters, Felicia asks what he knows about the fortress. He explains the fortress belonged to dwarves who famously fought against dragons. Felicia clarifies that this dwarven high kingdom battled dragons to protect their treasures. Karak is stunned by the idea, while Felicia explains the different dragon types. Karak innocently asks if she can slay a dragon, which makes her flustered. Karak bluntly says she can't, and she angrily reminds him dragons are powerful. Karak just chuckles, complimenting her on her extensive historical knowledge. She puffs her chest out proudly, explaining the fortress is famous in studies. Her eyes sparkle with greed as she says they could hit the jackpot. Karak points out she is drooling, but Shutra agrees it is a jackpot. He knows from his past life that the fortress is a famous high-reward dungeon. Because of the ancient wars, countless valuable treasures were buried inside. More importantly, he knows there is something inside he desperately needs to find. It is the legendary Dragon Slayer's sword, a weapon fatal to Dragonkin. To defeat Prince Zephyr, who has dragon blood, he must obtain it. At the entrance to the northern region, he is ready for his mission. His new A-rank greaves, made from dragon scales, gleam in the sunlight. Shutra smiles, very pleased with his new and powerful custom-made armor. His party is assembled behind him, ready and waiting for his command. He pulls up his mask, his eyes focused, and tells them it's time. They venture into the dark, dusty entrance of the newly discovered mine. The party walks cautiously through the vast and ancient dwarven hall. Karak notes the thickening fog, which is actually a dangerous toxic gas. Felicia suggests they advance slowly, and Shutra agrees it is the best plan. Karak notices the gas's strange color, asking if it should be yellow. Suddenly, several party members begin to choke and gasp for air. Karak and a female attendant collapse to the ground, overcome by the poison. Felicia and Shutra are stunned by the sudden and unexpected turn of events. She realizes with a curse that the type of toxic gas has changed. She summons a powerful vortex of wind to create a pocket of clean air. But her magic reacts violently with the strange, poisonous gas. The combination of forces creates a massive, unstable, magical explosion. The shockwave rips through the chamber, throwing everyone off their feet. Shutra hits the ground hard, weakly calling out Felicia's name. The dust and toxic gas slowly begin to settle within the chamber. The entire party lies scattered and unconscious on the cold stone floor. 3 hulking, shadowy figures emerge from the thick, lingering fog. One of the monstrous creatures takes a heavy, deliberate step forward. The monster looms over the helpless party, a terrifying, shadowy silhouette. It lets out a deep, guttural roar that echoes through the halls. Shutra's eyes snap open. He knows these are the creatures that killed the general. The white Suri shield suddenly materializes and flies toward the strange monsters. In a flash of light, the shield slices one of the creatures in half. The shield continues its attack, effortlessly cutting through all the monsters. Green Wind praises Shutra's convincing acting, but he just tells her to be quiet. The shield unleashes a wave of purifying light, making the monsters cry out. One of the creatures lets out a piercing shriek as its body dissolves. The holy light proves fatal, as the creature's dark form is completely vaporized. Shutra stands firm, his new armor gleaming as he holds the shield. He looks at his fallen comrades, noting the poison was very potent. He smirks, his unique constitution having granted him complete poison immunity. Suddenly the entire fortress begins to tremble and shake violently. Massive chunks of stone begin to rain down from the collapsing ceiling. He looks up in alarm, wondering what could possibly be happening now. He curses the fortress and its seemingly endless supply of deadly traps. He commands Green Wind to stay behind and protect the unconscious party members. His eyes glow with purple light as he activates his dragon blood power. Wreathed in a powerful aura, he gently lifts Felicia and others into his arms. With incredible speed, he leaps through the collapsing cavern, dodging falling debris. He frantically scans for an escape and spots a massive structure ahead. He lands safely before a huge, sealed gate, the fortress's true entrance. The White Suri's wings form a barrier, shielding the party from debris. Green Wind calls out, warning her master that the situation is worsening. Shutra finds Korak pinned beneath a massive pile of heavy stone rock. He looks at his unconscious friend and promises that he will be back. He begins moving the other party members one by one to safety. He lands with a solid thud, his new dragon scale greaves absorbing the impact. He takes a quick breath, having saved most of his unconscious allies. As he turns to go back, he freezes, his eyes widening in shock. The wall of rubble where Korak is trapped suddenly explodes outward. Fearing the worst, Shutra screams his friend's name in a horrified cry. The White Suri blocks his path, urging him to calm down, but he panics. The spirit reminds him of the powerful summoning spell he used before. He grits his teeth, a spark of hope igniting as he remembers. With a surge of determination, he bellows the command to summon his knight. A green portal opens, and Korak's head emerges from the magical space. His whole body tumbles out of the portal, landing safely on the ground. Korak's unconscious body tumbles out of the portal, landing hard on the floor. The passage behind them collapses completely, sealing them inside the ancient fortress. Korak is breathing heavily, but thankfully he doesn't seem to be seriously injured. A wave of relief washes over Shutra as he sits by his friend. He wonders what those strange shadow creatures were, as they weren't in the game. Just then, Felicia begins to stir, coughing weakly as the poison wears off. Shutra knows he must act fast and detoxify his friends immediately. But a monstrous, shadowy foot suddenly slams down, blocking his path. He looks up to find himself completely surrounded by a horde of monsters. He curses his terrible luck as even more of the creatures emerge. Another wave of the creatures roars as they prepare to attack him. He channels powerful energy into his gauntlet, his expression fiercely determined. He unleashes an explosive punch, completely obliterating the first monster. He raises his shield, complaining that this is a massive pain in the neck. The other monsters let out enraged roars, undeterred by their fallen comrade. Shutra's eyes glow with fury. He tells them to stop wasting his time. The horde responds with a collective shriek as they charge forward. His gauntlet glows with golden light as he prepares to meet their assault. He smashes his fist into the ground, unleashing a massive, powerful shockwave. As the monsters are thrown off balance, he follows up with a powerful sweep. His shield sends a wave of green energy, cutting down dozens of creatures. He stands firm amidst the chaos, a whirlwind of holy energy protecting him. With a final furious roar, he unleashes one last burst of explosive energy. The cavern falls silent as the last of the golden light fades away. Felicia's eyes slowly flutter open, her vision still quite blurry. Shutra kneels beside her, asking if she is okay as she calls his name. She looks at the defeated monsters, bewildered as he begins to heal her. He gives her a warm, reassuring smile, saying nothing much happened. After reviving his party, they begin their full-scale assault on the fortress. They must choose between a long, safe path or a dangerous, trapped shortcut. Felicia asks Shutra which path he will take, the safe or the risky one. Suddenly, a loud, piercing alarm begins to blare through the ancient halls. Shutra's expression turns serious. They no longer have time to be cautious. An attendant explains the alarm means the main facility is under attack. Shutra realizes another party is already attempting to clear the dungeon. With no time to waste, he orders a stunned Karak down the dangerous shortcut. He gives his guard a confident look, promising he will be safe. A stone dragon head roars to life, its eyes glowing with fiery energy. The dragon head unleashes a torrent of fire, but Karak blocks the blast. Next, the floor gives way, revealing a deep pit lined with deadly spikes. A hail of sharp projectiles shoots out but thuds against Karak's shield. The hallway is a chaotic death trap of swinging maces and more projectiles. Having survived the gauntlet, Karak pants heavily, covered in a cold sweat. Shutra cheerfully congratulates him, but the terrified orc says he almost died. Thanks to Karak, they now stand before the control room's massive doors. An attendant notes that the gargoyles that should be guarding it are gone. Felicia agrees it's suspicious but decides they must press forward to investigate. The party steps cautiously into the vast, dusty, and silent control room. Shutra's eyes are drawn to a lone figure slumped against the far wall. It is the skeleton of the last dwarven city lord clad in armor. The attendant points out another strange object. A large, perfectly smooth sphere. The mysterious dark sphere sits silently in the corner, absorbing the light. Felicia wonders if it's a dwarven device that requires some kind of activation. Shutra calls out to her, having found a golden key on the skeleton. He carefully takes the ornate key, its surface gleaming in the dim light. He inserts the key into the sphere, causing a surge of blue electricity. The sphere hums to life, its dark surface now glowing with blue light. The sphere projects dozens of holographic screens, filling the room with images. The party looks around in stunned silence, awed by the advanced dwarven technology. But Karak suddenly lets out a sharp cry of alarm, sensing a new sound. Karak is startled by a distant noise as Daphne points to a screen. The screen shows a chaotic battle raging elsewhere in the ancient fortress. The party sees the shadow monsters fighting against a legion of stone gargoyles. Shutra's expression is grim. He knows these are the fortress's attackers. As he scans the screen, he spots a colossal figure in the background. His eyes widen in a moment of sudden and shocking realization. The hologram zooms in on a dead monster with a glowing golden spear. Shutra is breathless, whispering that they have finally found their true prize. It's the legendary Dragon Slayer's spear, Ascalon, a weapon of immense power. A history unfolds of the wicked dragon, Partisan, who attacked the dwarves. He and his monstrous legion relentlessly laid siege to the great fortress. Once inside, Partisan unleashed his full power, but his arrogance was his undoing. In a moment of carelessness, he left himself open to a fatal attack. The fortress's greatest warrior drove the legendary spear Ascalon into his chest. But with their leader's death, the dragon's legion went completely berserk. The dwarves had no choice but to abandon their home and flee. The fortress became a massive tomb for the dragon and countless dwarves. Karak confirms the corpse is Partisan and the weapon is Ascalon. The screen shows the ongoing battle between the gargoyles and shadow monsters. The party realizes the shadow creatures must also be after the legendary spear. Felicia scoffs, declaring she won't let them steal the prize. Shutra asks if they can control the gargoyles, but Felicia says it's impossible. A massive dwarven golem awakens, its hammer crackling with powerful lightning. The golem smashes its hammer, obliterating a group of the shadow creatures. Felicia explains the city lord must have transferred his authority to the golem. She suggests waiting, but Shutra immediately disagrees with her cautious plan. His eyes gleam. He tells her this chaos is their perfect opportunity. He explains there are too many unknown factors for them to just wait. He tells her to stay put, and sprints out of the control room. With the map memorized, he races through the battlefield toward his goal. Shutra knows that if he can secure Ascalon first, they will win. He visualizes his plan. No matter who wins, they will come out on top. Racing through the battlefield, he checks his minimap and sees he is close. He finally spots the massive corpse of the dragon Partisan up ahead. As he sprints past the golem, he marvels at how useful the minimap is, but the golem suddenly turns and swings its massive electrified hammer at him. He is thrown back by the sheer force of the golem's powerful attack. He quickly gets up, shouting that he doesn't want to fight it right now. The golem ignores him, smashing its fist and sending another shockwave. The ancient guardian's glowing eye is fixed on him, seeing only an intruder. The golem seems to pause for a moment, tilting its head in confusion. A green flash passes through the golem, catching its attention. Shutra surfs past on his shield, playfully thanking Green Wind for the timing. Green Wind angrily protests his nickname, but he insists it's trendy. He ignores their banter and makes a final dash toward the dragon's corpse. He takes a firm stance, preparing to claim his legendary prize. He stands before the spear, its golden light even more dazzling up close. With a wide grin, he grabs the shaft, thanking the fortress for it. He plants his foot on the dragon and pulls, but it doesn't budge. He strains with all his might, but the weapon remains firmly stuck. He grits his teeth, frustrated by how impossibly heavy the spear is. With a roar, he dumps all his remaining stat points into his strength. The dwarf golem watches as a brilliant pillar of golden light erupts. With one final mighty pull, the legendary spear finally comes loose. He stands tall, the massive spear now held firmly in his hands. He swings it, unleashing a wave of energy that wipes out monsters. Felicia and Karak watch the holographic screen in complete and utter awe. Daphne and the others are equally shocked by his incredible display of power. In the shadows, a lone, hooded figure watches the entire scene unfold. A notification appears, detailing the history and immense power of Ascalon. Shutra feels a wave of triumph, having finally achieved his main objective. But a terrifying, monstrous dragon head rises from the shadows behind him. The mysterious hooded figure raises a hand, a glowing orb of energy within. The orb is thrust directly into the corpse of the ancient dragon, Partisan. A massive surge of purple energy erupts, bringing the dragon back to life. Shutra cries out in disbelief, unable to comprehend what is happening. He spots the mysterious figure, wondering who they could possibly be. The figure stands calmly amidst the chaos, their orb pulsing with dark power. Shutra braces himself, the ground beneath him glowing with the same eerie light. The undead dragon lunges into the sky with a terrifying, unholy roar. It unleashes a massive torrent of dark energy directly at Shutra. He recognizes the energy, a cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. This is the same sinister, purple death energy from the Engel Plains. The beam of dark energy rips through the ancient dwarven cavern. The remaining shadow creatures are instantly disintegrated by the more powerful energy. The white Suri materializes, its holy light forming a protective barrier. Shutra is thrown back, his mind racing to understand this new threat. He looks up and sees the massive dwarf golem approaching the dragon. Shutra is stunned as the golem prepares to fight the reanimated dragon. The golem slams its massive lightning-charged hammer into the dragon's side. The two behemoths are now locked in a fierce, destructive battle. Shutra watches in disbelief, wondering why the guardians are fighting each other. His party arrives, rushing to his side amidst the chaotic battle. He explains that someone used dark sorcery to revive the ancient dragon. Felicia is horrified, but Shutra admits he doesn't know who or why. He is certain the purple death energy is the key to this mystery. He knows they must destroy the unstable dragon quickly, but they are unsure how. Shutra explains that as a zombie, it must have a magical core. He knows that if they can successfully destroy that glowing purple core, he prepares to put his theory to the test during the chaotic battle. A bead of sweat rolls down Shutra's face as he curses the situation. He shouts a desperate warning for his allies to evade the dragon's attack. The dragon unleashes a massive torrent of purple energy, shaking the fortress. The destructive blast rips through the cavern, leveling everything in its path. The dragon stands amidst the destruction, its dark aura now more stable. It has absorbed the fortress's energy, becoming even stronger than before. Karak questions Shutra's earlier assessment, and he can only apologize for it. Shutra knows the dragon will get stronger, and despair begins to set in. Suddenly, glowing golden runes begin to swirl around the spear he holds. Ascalon transforms, its blade retracting as it morphs into a massive cannon. Felicia and Karak stare in stunned silence, awed by the weapon's transformation. Shutra asks Felicia to create a diversion for him, just for a moment. He tells her with confidence that he believes he can end the battle. The undead dragon turns its attention back to Shutra, sensing the new threat. It unleashes a powerful torrent of dark, fiery breath toward the party. Felicia steps forward, creating a powerful magical barrier to block the flames. Her spell creates a massive explosion that temporarily blinds the undead dragon. The disoriented dragon roars in frustration, unable to find its target. Shutra can feel the will of the ancient spear guiding his every move. He knows that one clean shot is all he needs to finish this. But the dragon recovers and unleashes a shockwave that throws him off balance. Felicia and Karak cry out in alarm as they rush to help him. He coughs, cursing his impatience and realizing he may have rushed in. As the dragon looms over him, an unexpected ally intervenes in the fight. The massive dwarf golem smashes into the dragon, saving Shutra from death. Shutra looks up from the ground, his eyes wide with complete surprise. His vision is blurry, but he can clearly see the two guardians fighting. He doesn't understand why, but he knows this is his second